Yes. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's live stream. We have two guests and the girls, and we'll be discussing Poor Things, starring Emma Stone. I'm very excited to have this conversation. Before we begin, I'm going to have our guests start us off with an introduction so people know who they are. So, Ali, do you want to start us off, and then we'll go with Smith?
Yeah, hi, my name is Ali. I go by Sociologic on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Thank you guys for having me on so much. Or thank you guys so much for having me on, Jesus.
Yes, our pleasure. We're excited. Smith? Is he muted? Can he not hear us?
He's deafened.
He's
deafened.
deafened.
I see the. I think he's introducing.
I think he's
on
talking
his
to his own stream.
Yeah, he's very
Yeah,
animated.
That's Smith, everyone.
Okay, well, let's start with Arena then. Girl, how are you? Who are you? Tell everybody.
Good. Hi, I'm Arena. I go by Monoshog John on Instagram and Arena Nana on YouTube.
Thank you. Harmony? Or Maiden, I guess. Maiden.
Hello, I'm Maiden Monster, Maiden for short, or Harmony. You can find me at Harmony Bancroft on Twitter. It's my sex work account. That's who I am.
Thank you. Genevieve?
Hi guys, I am Madam Genevieve, Madam_Genevieve on Twitter with all my links in the bio there.
Hold on, Jen. I think your
Always
mic
hide
is...
them.
I think... Is it just for me? But I think your mic is doing that...
No, it was going in and out.
Yeah, it goes in
Yeah,
and out.
technical.
Oh no!
I think it's got a high sensitivity or whatever they call it.
Okay,
So you might
let
want
me
to check
adjust. I'm gonna mute myself and adjust.
Okay.
Adjust.
Okay, perfect.
Are
All
we
right.
live?
Yes, we are live. Do you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, I'm Smith. I'm Smith, baby.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, guys. Before we begin, I saw a little bit of an interview with the director, and he said something interesting about the film that I was wondering about since I watched a whole bunch of people review it. So, Poor Things with Emma Stone was quite controversial, as I'm sure you guys saw and maybe even felt watching it. But the director was asked, what is the point and what is the meaning of the film? And he said, there is really none. There is no point except to view people as people, to witness humans being human. And I thought that was sort of interesting that he thought that this was a display of humans just being human. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's convenient bullshit. I felt like the
Okay.
movie was obviously about women being women, and it was not about men very much at all. So, and I think that his saying it's about humans being human is to detract from the fact that there are a lot of there's a lot of things that are very nuanced and complicated that, and on behalf of what is her Bella. But as far as like all the men, like her, what is his name, Godfried, he for the whole thing he's dealing with his trauma of his own father and how to like treat other people. He doesn't know how to not be abusive, but then at the end he's like, by the way, oh yeah, I know my dad was an asshole, like randomly out of nowhere. All that character growth comes out of nowhere. All the nuance doesn't exist for any of the male characters in any way whatsoever. So yeah.
I completely disagree. I didn't think the movie was about women at all. So I didn't
I
really
know.
see Bella going through much like growth. She was just kind of standard and logical through the whole thing. And I thought this entire movie was actually like more focused on the male gaze and how the men around her were acting and the reactions to her just being herself and how they couldn't like comprehend how she like just was so logical about the decisions that she's making, especially like with Duncan being like he was like supposed to be the bad boy, the adventurer, the like I can't promise you consistency type, only to like turn around and simp for her, like even after calling her a whore and casting her away and so on and so forth. Yeah, I thought the whole movie was literally focused on like the male gaze and the perception of like women, not women like directly.
So
I
yeah,
think,
but it's the male gaze because it's about her. Like it's about
the
how it
female
affects her. It's not
perception
yes
of the
it's
male
about
gaze.
how they affect her. It's not about them. You just said you're just
They didn't affect her.
Your
Was the
disagreement
whole
is fucking
point.
bullshit. You're just
Not
steamrolling what I
really.
just said. Fuck
They
you.
didn't affect her at all. She was exploring
They
their
didn't affect her at
gaze.
all. What the fuck?
No, she did whatever she
Then
wanted,
what
and
was
she
the
didn't let
movie
her.
about? Nothing happened in it.
No, she got to explore herself completely while watching everyone else around her react and go crazy to what she wanted to do.
I think it's in between those two things, and that I'll agree with Smith in that it was about the female experience of the male gaze. The male characters weren't, they were more archetypal than they were complex. So with Duncan, you have that bad boy older guy who goes for the younger girl who's like, I have stability, I have this, I have that, and also like, I'm gonna use you and throw you away. But when she doesn't care about that and doesn't fall, like you mentioned, he starts falling for her. So he's that archetype of like the older, the first older man you experience. Then there's the archetype of Max McCandles. He was chosen for Bella by Godwin, but from a different perspective than what she ends up choosing him for. There's Harry, who is like the first man that she meets that actually views her as a human being and humanizes her. He's also on his own journey, and he's the another young man. And then there's Alfie, the just scary man that doesn't view women as people. So the men were more archetypal, in my opinion, than complex. So I think we can sum it up as this was a movie about the female experience of the male gaze.
Do we think Bella was complex?
No,
Not
I didn't.
really. Like
They went
I-
into
I
her
was-
story more.
I think the interactions between her and other people were complex, but like I was mildly but willing to overlook, but I was mildly irked by the fact that she was like had the mind of a child, but she like became like Albert Einstein genius level in like the course of like a year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
that's kind of in line with like, at least as far as her progression. Sorry to interrupt. Her mental progressions was like obviously accelerated, right? Like she was able to go through development way faster than a normal human does. And then that just kind of continued and excelled. And whether that's an influence of like the brain transplant and the reanimation or whatever, it just seems like there are parts of her that grow or develop faster. Like I guess another example could be the fact that her hair grew an inch. What does he say? 1 inch every 2 days or
Ugh,
something
I
like
wish.
that.
Yeah.
Like there are parts of Bella that just kind of are exceptional in that way as far as the development.
Is that part of the magic of the film, though? Like they kind of needed that
Yeah.
for that
Yeah.
to be the case, right? Otherwise, we would have been
Yeah.
really watching a very strange film, I think.
That's why I
Otherwise, it
said
should
it's
have been
really
15
I'm willing
at
to overlook.
30 or like 45, however old she was by like that time. So that wouldn't have worked out. So they had needed to have her like go fast, and it's probably because she was already older. And then otherwise, like you couldn't have people be in love with her or take her out, and it would be very strange, especially since she couldn't walk or barely talk. So I mean, I think they just needed the acceleration to go.
Of course,
just match,
it didn't
to
stop
match the
them.
body.
It didn't stop them. Well, okay, to be fair, I don't
Well,
think.
he wasn't. They were infantilizing her,
Mhm.
right? That was like the whole thing. Is like he was obsessed with her, like even to like call her a beautiful retard in the very beginning by Max, right? It was like directly looking at her. Like the whole thing was like they loved her because she was beautiful, but then also she's older, technically. Like she is like older, but Max did play the like the decent guy of like, oh no, I'm not gonna take advantage of you. I'm gonna wait till you're older. And then even when she came back as she was like refined, she's like, there's no bind to like what happened. You clearly weren't in like the proper place, but I was just like obsessed with you. I was infatuated with you. I think that like there was also a big play between like infatuation and love in this.
I feel
I
like the
think-
two oh sorry.
Sorry.
You wanna go
I
ahead?
was just going to really quickly say that I think it's also telling and also another archetype of a man in that Godwin created her to have sex with her. And then the paternal feelings woke up and he was like, oh, this is like my daughter.
Well,
and
they
it's
didn't even
like
wake
that.
up. It was like he
Uh-huh.
couldn't. He couldn't have
Yeah.
sex with her.
But
Therefore, it was replaced.
that was his intention initially,
Mhm.
right? And so that kind of speaks to this other experience that also a lot of women I think have in a man saying something like, I didn't understand until I had a daughter of my own, or like I imagined something bad happening to my own wife. And it's like it's still like through the lens of I only give a shit because there's a thing I care about that could potentially be affected by it.
I do think that is more of a universal experience than we're willing to admit. Like, I'm not sure how many of us can care about people that we don't have some sort of connection to in some sort of way. That's why we tell stories. I think stories allow us to connect to strangers, right? So this is.
Yeah.
Mhm. Go ahead, Smith.
Yeah, I think that that is like one of the things. This movie brought out a lot of misogyny in me, and embarrassingly, like I could feel it. And that's like one of the things is like that care. Like the reason that we have that attitude about women is because we want to care about women, and so when I'm sure we have that experience with men, like, and we don't care about them, and then we learn to care about them, and we in this very similar way, but we don't really think about it in the same way because we don't like think it's an expectation for us to care about them. The thing that made me the most misogynist, I had an epiphany. This is a sick, disgusting thing, but truly, I realized that it, in a very sick, personal way, not in a social, like, it's a relief to me in a personal way, in a sick, twisted way, that sex work is so bad for women. Because if it wasn't, then I would be so jealous and resentful of women that it would be unbearable for me.
Because you would want to do it?
Yeah.
I
If there's no downsides, and it's just my body just having my body just makes my life like a miracle, and there's no downsides and everything can be perfect just by having sex. And it's just like, so you have the keys to like all of society, and I just, I have to toil and struggle, and and for you it's all fun and games. And
okay, first of all, that's a whole other tangent, though there is this whole sex work arc for her in the story, so I guess we could tie it into that. I mean, a job is a job even when it's a dream job, right? That's in the title. So a part of me thinks that there's like this fantasy of a dream job, even with sex work, that doesn't exist. Every job is just a job in the end, even a dream job. So I'm not sure about that, but that fantasy, I think, was sort of displayed in the film. That was like a big conversation, right? Is this empowerment sex work? Is this just her actually getting kind of like indifferent or bored, her trying to experiment, make it better for her? What do you think about that whole arc she had during her sex work arc?
So
she learned to hate men so much that she became a lesbian.
Miss Andrews,
no,
great.
okay.
I found the sex
needed
work
to
arc very
work.
relatable.
Hold on. Okay,
I would
let's
say
go.
that.
Let's go Ali, and then we'll go Maiden.
Yeah, so the initiation in the sex work was just like, we don't have a place to stay. So she ran into this woman who like kind of was like, hey, you can get paid to have sex. And she was like, oh, that's weird. I've only had sex with one person. Like, I didn't know you could get paid for this. I'll try it out. And then she hated the sex with that guy. She said like it enhanced the love she had for Duncan, right? So when Duncan flipped out. She just needed to work. Throughout the whole time when she was doing the sex work, she tried to make it better for her and the patrons, right? She like mentioned a few times, she's like, hey, like, wouldn't it be better if we selected you rather than you select us? At least now there's like a want there. There's like, maybe you'll enjoy it more. So she always tried to benefit it, but she did just see it as a job. I don't think she saw it as like empowerment. I don't think she cared for the empowerment. I don't think she was looking at it like that. Once again, I saw like the whole time she was watching, like she was doing it. You said like misogyny. It was hard for me to even like really see her as like a woman, because I don't think she was like cared about like the gender of it all. Because then it got me wondering of like what the gender of the baby was, or like the sex of like the brain of the baby, because I don't even think they mentioned it. And then honestly, like throughout it, like she kind of also just seemed autistic. Everything
That's
was
what I
very,
was gonna
like,
say. Thank
this
you.
Yeah,
is
she
this,
did
She
seem
is
this is
considered
that.
autistically coded. She is
Yeah.
considered an autistically coded character. Maiden,
So yeah, I don't think she cared for the empowerment. I don't think that's why I wasn't like, oh, this is like a woman. I think this was just person. And then because she is a girl, like she is a woman in that world, she's a female in that world, everything she dealt with had to just happen to deal with men. Especially like, I think this was like back in the day. Like, this was like an 1800s movie, right?
yeah, it was
Yeah,
like
so
that.
It's like a
I feel
steampunk.
I feel like
Steampunk.
every single step of the way, every aspect of her empowerment was always in her relationship to men,
Maybe.
from beginning to end.
But I want to hear Maiden's input on the sex work stuff, because I think that would be good.
Yeah, I was just gonna say related like very much to it, like especially the different phases she went to, through starting trying to like cater more to the men, and then hating that, and just like trying to change it to make it work because it was such a good tool for her to make money. Yeah, I related very much to it, and especially just the way that she like went about it in a very like, I don't know, it didn't seem like she was trying to be manipulative or like ruin men's lives or anything. She was just trying to be utilitarian about it. And I also really relate to that. And it's almost like the consequences, maybe the social consequences and all that, were sort of like an afterthought. And it's like, oh, that's a thing too. Okay, now I got to deal with that. I very much related to it.
Now, I did see some film critique of it that said that because she grew so quickly, she didn't have time for society to kind of taint her, I guess you could say, kind of give her an agenda behind her actions. So she was sort of acting within sort of that autistic coding of I'm just going to do it because that's what I want to do and forget the social expectation of behavior. And it kind of allowed her to be more, I think, pure in a way and still hurt Mark Ruffalo's feelings all the same, which I thought was sort of funny in a way, not because I liked his feelings getting hurt, but just because it was such a no matter what you do in life, there's somebody who's going to kind of be in pain because of it, kind of lesson that she's learning there, which is how do I be myself without everyone being upset about it, I think was a big part of the story as well.
I absolutely think that's true. I want to kind of go back to the sex work thing just a little bit because I also felt that I related to her experience through it and ultimately the conclusion that she kind of comes to at the end, which is it's something that ultimately makes her life better and that it provides her with the income that she needs and also allows her the time to pursue her other passions and explore the world in a way that she wants to. And I think that that's something a lot of people in sex work can agree with, is that it does afford you the freedom of more time generally to then explore other passions because you're able to kind of manage your schedule in a different way but still pay your bills. Maiden, I see you thinking something.
Yeah, see, okay, I like that they also, but they balanced, the positive with like the reality of it too. It didn't
Yeah.
seem like glamorous. It didn't seem,
Right.
like I think that's
while she's
often
doing
the
it, she's like,
pendulum
okay, this
swinging.
is,
Yeah, the pendulum
but she's
swings too
willing to
far over.
tolerate it
Yeah.
for like, she's like, okay, yeah, like there's things
Right.
that are, it's not perfect. It's not this
Mhm.
dream job, but it gives me what I need to
Here are the
survive
pros
in the
and the
world.
cons.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Like
ultimately is
people
working for my
love to
life.
focus on one end or the other. They love to say, "Oh, it's horrible
Exactly.
and inherently like debasing and horrible for women," or they like to say,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's empowering
It's
inherently."
and it's
And
somewhere
like
in the
all
middle. It's
those
not
things are true at different times. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then you ultimately just choose, you choose to do it because it's something that works for your life in balance with the pros
And
and the cons.
I feel like the film showed that,
Yeah,
it
I felt
showed
like
that
it was
pretty
very
well.
authentic and like a
Mhm.
realistic perception.
Mhm.
So I really appreciated that. But the
Yeah.
biggest theme that I took away from it, I mean, obviously there's a lot of stuff going on in the movie, but I think that the reason the sex work part really resonated with people just as well as like her sexuality in general is because we're seeing this character that's existing outside of polite society. And they mention that in the beginning, right? Like that's what Duncan loves about her is that she doesn't seem to care about polite society. And he says that he doesn't either. But that's a lie. He does care about polite society and he wants her to care about it in the same ways that he does. And he ultimately is frustrated that she has no concern or like inhibition in that regard. And I think we see the male characters, they're all playing these strong archetypes, like you pointed out earlier, Arena. And they kind of are all, we're seeing her experience through their attempt to control her and fit into the world in a way that they think is appropriate, but she's just completely navigating her own path without really being aware of what the other people's expectations are.
Well, that's where I see it as kind of like one-sided because I feel like everybody in a way is going through that too. And like especially Duncan, I feel like the thing that he liked about her is that she is him. And like he doesn't care about polite society and so that it serves him, and she doesn't care about polite society and so that it serves her. And he realizes like, oh shit, this woman is actually like me, and it scares the shit out of me, but actually like this is what I was looking for. And I feel like yeah, she absolutely ruined his life and made him go crazy.
Well, she
Except
knew
he's a
Duncan was
lawyer.
temporary.
He's a lawyer, and I don't understand why he couldn't just start working again. Like when she decides to be a sex worker, and then he's just like on the street. Like what are you doing, dude? Like I don't understand
He
what
was
was
obsessed
happening
with
there.
her. It was the red pill of it all. It's like you have this woman that you're promising like, no, I'm not gonna have like this good life with you. You're just like a whore. I'm gonna mess with. I'm gonna have a good time and blah 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 blah. I'm only here for a good time. But then the woman's supposed to be attached to the man through the sex and like through the whatever. Turns out the man gets attached to her, and she just the whole thing flipped on her. So he's obsessed with her by the whole end of it. Right? That's why he's not
Yeah.
just working. He just wants her. He doesn't want anything else, regardless of what she does. And I think the whole sex work thing was honestly less to show like anything to do with sex work per se, but more to do with like the fact that she wasn't ashamed by it. And for her, it was as simple
Yeah.
as, hey,
That's
like
what I
she would
hated
tell
about
everyone, she's like, I was a sex worker, and then they'd be like, oh,
Yeah,
like
because she
you
doesn't
mean like
realize
this,
that
right?
that's something you should be ashamed of. She has no concept that that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
Also,
that's
so
what I hated
relatable
about it,
about
though.
her.
And that's why I
Because
think for
Mhm.
her, that's why I think for because for her, like her sexuality had nothing to do with like relationships to people. It was very much like, this makes me feel good, which is why even though she was gonna go back to marry Max, she looked at Duncan, she's like, well, yeah, I'll still do furious jumping with you, obviously, like you'll be the person I do furious jumping with, since you're so good, and you know, if no one else is better, I'm gonna keep doing it with you. Which is why I think during like the whole sex work thing, her focus was less on like it being like making her feel better, like the societal view, and more about like the happiness, right? She's like, I want to enjoy this because this is something I enjoy, you should also enjoy this, and then we'll both enjoy it, rather than it being so. But then she like learns that like, well, their joy comes out of the fact that you're not enjoying it. And so that's why she like lets it happen. Then you have like the weird sex scenes, like she initially tries to like form like not a relationship, but she goes like, hey, like I want to know something about you, and let's share something, and then we'll just go do the furious jump. Or she let the guy like crawl around her stuff. It kind of reminded me of like the the Deuce Bigelow, where like instead of him doing like actual sex, so he was just doing weird things to like kind of make the woman feel okay and comfortable. I think that's what it ended up being for her, because she let the guy hump her leg at one point.
Okay, I'm curious about the idea of understanding. I felt like she cared more about herself the more she understood about herself. And I feel like the men never understood her, which I found frustrating, but also not surprising. And I wondered, I felt like I saw this thing where she cared less about them the more they couldn't see her. And she cared more about herself the more she could see herself. And I wondered if you guys kind of saw the same thing, or was that just me?
Yeah, and I feel like she used sex to kind of bridge that gap, and I feel like that her sex was very much about the relationship. Like all of her things are about creating weird scenarios. She talked about like, you tell a joke, and I'll tell you tell a story about your childhood, and I'll tell a joke, and then it'll be more intimate. And so I feel like she was trying to connect with people, and I feel like it was like a really good analogy to like how women are in the patriarchy, how we kind of like tell women to be like adult children, and then their life suddenly, like the trap door falls out and everything becomes about sex, because like that's what people care about women for. And then that's the thing that she's trying to use to relate to other people, and it's very confusing and ends up hurting her too.
Mm.
But
I
that's why I
wanted
didn't.
to.
The one thing I
Okay,
didn't
Smith
really
and then
quick.
Arena.
The one thing I really didn't like about the I really liked a lot of things about the sex work part, but the one thing I didn't like is they kind of glazed over they kind of hinted at like the horrible aspects, like, oh, I don't like that I don't get to choose, and I don't like that like that they want me to not like it. But it never
Mm.
really, you don't really get to see that horror really. They just kind of show the fun part.
I mean, to be fair, it's not like we haven't seen a bunch of films depict it. So it was kind of different, I guess, in that way. But Arena, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to quickly go back to the point that Smith brought up about Duncan. I think, like, not going back to work or whatever. As since the male characters, and honestly everybody in the movie, as you pointed out, Smith, is very archetypal, the whole movie is rooted in these hyperbolic situations, so it doesn't ring like radical realism true, but I feel like the movie in general rings emotionally true. I felt like I related to, like, it was very easy for me to project myself onto Bella, even though like my life looked nothing like that. But the kind of emotions, situations that she found herself in, and the feelings that the movie created for me reminded me of like situations when I was a teen girl, or like, going to school and stuff, of the kinds of men that I would see. And obviously I didn't have the capacity to view them as anything more complex than, this is potentially a threat, this guy is looking at me weird, this guy is, sending me sexual things, when I'm like 15, 13, whatever. So I think that's kind of more so the point. It's not the literal he ruined his life was ruined. It's more his life was emotionally he was emotionally I don't even want to blame Bella for this, though. I feel like as a grown man, as a grown adult, this is your, responsibility. So he he had expectations of her that she didn't fulfill, and that's
Mm-mm.
what broke him emotionally.
Well, I feel like it was a reality
all the
break a little
money.
bit.
He
Yeah, it was also his
participated
fault
in
they
his
ended
own
up
downfall.
there.
Wait,
Yeah,
wait,
he
wait.
Yeah,
I can't hear Allie
Sorry.
and then a maiden.
That's all. I don't have any.
I was just saying it
Okay.
was his fault they ended up there, and all of that, like everything that, like the whole Paris thing just blew up in his face, and I think it was him realizing, like, oh, like he kept trying to blame her, and she was all just like, yo, we had no place to stay.
You
like,
guys
got-
are crazy. You guys are all crazy. Like she literally stole all of his money and threw it away. So like you guys are all overlooking like
Well,
she destroyed his life utterly.
She didn't know she stole it.
He won
did-
that money gambling.
He
That wasn't
didn't.
all
He
his
didn't know that
money.
he was. He didn't know
Yeah,
he was
that's
getting
a good
entrapped.
point right there too. Like, what was his? What if he hadn't won that money gambling? Didn't
Yeah,
he
there
have
wasn't-
like
Yeah,
a
I don't know.
safety net? Like, this could have happened
He won it
another way
gambling.
as well.
I don't know
But
what I don't know.
I
but
really hold on. I want to rewind for a second. I love that Arena pointed out the element of someone's expectations and then that person not fulfilling them and the impact that that can have,
Mhm.
because I think that that really, really hit home with me, and that you can form a relationship with someone and you in your mind create this persona, right, of their potential and what you expect from them, but Bella doesn't even have any concept of what these expectations could be.
Right.
And so she's just being
Right.
herself 100% authentically, and watching Duncan completely fall apart and like lose his shit because she doesn't understand what his expectations are and she doesn't fit that mold. I think that's really, really part of the interesting story there. I think that was
Well,
a good point.
It's like
Well,
a
he doesn't-
self-fulfilling prophecy. Hold on. I got a super chat. This is very important. Sleeve T Rocks, thank you for the super chat. Says, question for the panel. If stranded in the woods, would you rather encounter a bear or Mark Ruffalo?
Mark Ruffalo. I know how to deal with men like that so well.
Wait, Mark Ruffalo's character?
Gotta
or
be the
Mark
character.
Right,
Ruffalo,
Duncan?
You gotta be
or
Duncan.
the-
Gotta be the character.
No,
Absolutely, Duncan. He's not even that
Duncan.
bad. He's not even that bad the whole time. Like the thing is, like he's just
he's
some
just
asshole
emotionally a mess.
womanizer.
That's all.
He's just
Yeah.
an asshole
Yeah.
womanizer, but he doesn't. The thing that is really tragic is he doesn't know that they should have told him. He doesn't know that he's getting involved with literally a woman with the mind of a child. Like so, like all of his expectations that she undermines. Yeah, you can. It's fair to say that you can't blame her because she's literally a child, but also you can't blame him for like not understanding that she's literally a child.
He
And
totally understood. What do you mean?
he
He wrote the
no.
contract up to bind her. The only reason he was so like obsessed with finding out what she was because he wrote like the binding.
The
And then when he
contract
found
that
her, she was
bind her
blowing
is not a
bubbles.
legal contract that explains that she has the mind of a child in any way. That's utter bullshit. No.
No, but the extensiveness of the legal binding, he literally stated he's like,
Yeah, he knew that she was going to be a
exceptional
slave.
if this is the type of binding you need. Yeah, and then
He
when
knew
went
she was
up
going to
and
be a
met
slave, and
her-
honestly, he was kind of saving her from that. So, like, I mean, like, there's a sick part of him that was like, oh, she must be so special that I want to steal this from these other men. But also, like, the fact that he helped write this contract that would have enslaved her for her whole life, and then he's like, his impulse is both selfish and selfless. Like,
What's a white knight? He's a white
He
knight,
didn't
which is
go
the
to-
worst
he
kind
didn't
of
wanna
man.
Save her. He didn't
Well,
wanna
he did
from the
save her.
He did, but he
He
didn't want
thinks he's
to.
saving her, but she
No,
didn't
I
ask
don't
to
think
be
he's-
saved
I
in
don't.
that. Like,
You
he
guys
he
just
didn't
know
want
that
to
he did not.
enjoy
He
her.
thought he was taking advantage of her. He thought he was hurting her, but I think that the part of his he actually had no goodwill going in. But part of his impulse was actually like subconsciously, I would believe, is like he did not like that he wrote this disgusting contract that would have enslaved her for the rest of his life, and he's like, I
and
want
then
to see what the
began to
fuck is going on
enslave her
here.
and control her life because he realized he
He
was
gave her so
something, he
much freedom.
infantilized her as well. No, I mean, he gave her freedom so long as she stayed within the bounds. Because by the time they were at dinner and she didn't respond in the ways that he liked, he started telling her about polite society and so
She
on
went
and so
out. She
forth.
went out and fucked other men and got tattooed on like on her fucking like
That's
inner
the
thigh.
first time he
He was
snapped. Was he
pretty
saw
mad.
the tattoos? He saw her
He
do
was
something
not
of her own fruition. And
approving
then
of
went
that.
downstairs and started beating his head into the bar.
Yeah,
this is what started to
she
drive
went
him
and got
insane.
tattooed on his inner thigh, on her inner thigh, is some other guy's name.
No, it said
No, it
soft
said
and
soft and
softer.
softer.
Oh,
She
okay.
said some other guy did what did quick licking on her, like, on her clitoris, and then he was like, man, she's like, I don't
Yes.
get why you're mad. You can do it too.
She
I'm
cheated
so-"
on him.
But
He
he
didn't
wasn't
understand.
heard. He didn't he
Negotiate.
said I can't be consistent to you.
Yeah,
said, "I
yeah,
cannot promise consistency." Yeah, I'm
And
like,
she
this is just
never
for
made a
expe-
commitment of
Yeah,
monogamy either. That was just his
yeah.
she
expectation. He
she only made
thought
a
So
that
commitment.
she would only want a furious jump with him.
So I mean, I feel like that falls perfectly in line. Like he said, he couldn't be consistent, and him banging his head on the table falls completely in line with him not being consistent.
No, he couldn't be consistent to her, like with her. Like this is gonna
Yeah,
be
and
a
that's
short-lived
exactly what happened. He
adventure.
wasn't consistent to her. He literally fell in love with her.
I mean, did he kidnap her?
Yes,
Technically,
Oh.
yes.
Yes.
yes,
Well,
yes.
At least by the
Technically,
time it
yes.
was Cruz,
Yeah.
by the time
on the
Yeah.
cruise was on
cruise,
the
yeah,
cruise,
yeah.
But the thing is,
For the
in my
cruise,
mind,
for sure. When they
Well,
first
even
go to the
before
city,
then, he
she
was
goes
going to kidnap her.
willingly.
She came out and she told Godwin, she's like, "Hey, later, I'm so excited. Later tonight, I'm gonna sneak out." Right? That was her way of like, one, I feel like rebelling, but two, also like, I think she acted. She's still like she was young at that point, which is like back to like Duncan's like. Duncan, you have to explain to me that Duncan didn't realize that there was something up with her because he's a lawyer who's established, who's writing up the will. Like, there's a
yeah,
bunch
that's
of things
bullshit.
going on. So
He
he
didn't
realizes
realize that he didn't realize she was mentally like retarded
Wait,
child.
Smith, just a question. Do you think that adult men and adult people in general who are lawyers, if they talk to somebody who acts and talks like a 16-year-old, that they can't tell that that's actually a 16-year-old? You know
No,
what I
because
mean?
I
Like
think
the way
I
that
think
he was
this is
talking to her.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think that this is like in this fantasy world, it's like very much like a patriarchy, and they kind of want and expect women to be like dumb children. Except she's actually a dumb child. So she's like she's too much of a dumb child. She's a dumb child that doesn't. She's not. You're supposed to be an adult that confines yourself into the box of a child, but she's actually a child.
Wait,
expanding
where are your
out of-
examples of other women being like that to say that the world expects that? She's like really the only example of like a woman besides Martha.
With the
and
cocktail
Mrs.
party,
Prim.
like when the other woman is like I feel like
Martha, the
okay,
older
yeah,
woman.
so
There,
yeah,
there are
yeah,
no
the-
women in this
the
movie
older
to have,
woman,
like,
no, the
examples
older
or
woman
references
is
to.
absolutely breaking of all the social norms, and it's like makes everybody uncomfortable. No, yeah, you don't interact with like a lot of like normal like women in this movie at all. They're all like weird like outlier freaks. You do
No,
interact with like, I mean, like
there
freaks.
was
I call
only
myself a freak all the time, just like for like
no, I know,
context,
but I'm
like,
saying like there was only Bella, and then there was Mrs. Prim and the other maid at the other house, and then Martha. There aren't really too many women to like
the maids are
reference
normal.
saying that this world expects women to be like this, because the only other woman that was like really like spoke was the girl who came to her at the party. Who said, "Hey Bella, we're going to town to dance," and then Bella was like, "I've never gone to
This
town
is
to
a
dance," and she was a pretty
fucking
normal
world
girl.
where the women like are literally the property of the husband, and he can like the husband can like sign to have your clitoris removed and drug you if he wants to. That's the world that we're living in. So yeah, everything you're saying. I don't even think you watched it. I don't even know what you're
Well,
talking.
I watched it twice, so
Yeah, I only
I
saw it
think
once
that
for the
we're
record. So
I think we're seeing this world exist in a way that has some contradictions, right? Because it's not actually like supposed to exist in a real time and or place. It's both in the past and also in the future at the same time.
Mhm.
So we do see a lot of patriarchy existing here, like in society, in the way that people are behaving and interacting with each other. And to Smeth's point, towards the end, we see the husband who's very easily able to have a doctor do this procedure without Bella's consent. So, like, obviously, women don't have a lot of rights in this world, but there's also some elements of the way that they're allowed to interact, like socially, as far as in on the ship and in the town or whatever, that are a little bit more free than
I
we
felt
might see in like a Victorian or Edwardian society. So like
I don't agree.
past and future.
I think it was very Victorian, like Edwardian, because like all the women that you see outside of the context of like this one very old woman who literally doesn't care if she's living or dying. She just doesn't give a fuck. She's Danny DeVito, right? She's Danny DeVito in Always Sunny. She's letting a freak flag fly. So like aside from her and all the women in the whorehouse who literally don't give a fuck whatsoever about social rules and social norms, you don't really get an intimate like except for the maids, and the maids are like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Like no, like and on that earlier we were talking about how she's like autistically coded. That's very interesting to me because I didn't read it that way. I thought she was sociopathically coded, and I thought it was like a really weird, because the second girl that they make is not like her, and the second girl they make is like much more kind and shit, and the way she instinctively acts towards the maid is very cruel, and she has to learn how to be kind, and then you learn that she was from a household where they literally tortured all the maids and shit, and it's like are they trying to is a director trying to say that she was like like she's biologically like a sociopathic person that had to learn to be like
I think
empathetic?
she was originally cruel to the maid. I think that she was just childlike and that she didn't understand
I think he
like
means a second maid.
oh,
second-
No,
okay.
no,
So
I
I
meant
thought
the-
you
I
meant in
meant-
the
I
beginning,
meant
like
the
when she
first one.
throws food at the maid, for example. Like
No,
I
the
don't think
first
she's
one-
doing that to be cruel. I
first
think she's
maid-
just throwing food because it's like
No,
a
the one she like
fun,
molests.
funny thing.
Yeah, the first one.
Which
the
one
first
are we?
Gets
Okay.
annoyed with her,
Smith,
frustrated
which
with
one
her
are you
after
talking
she
to?
touches
The
her.
first one, she molests her. She does like she isn't like extremely like, but like also
Oh.
when the other guy's like showing her the frog and her instinct is to crush it, like kill it, and then she crushes it. Like I don't know. I feel like there was just a lot of like points where they were like saying like she's like a sociopath.
She was raised around cadavers, right? So she knows like dead bodies, and dead bodies like make her comfortable.
Stabbing
Her
it in
dad-
the head.
her
But
da- her
the new
dad
girl doesn't do that though.
operates-
The
Well,
new
the
girl,
new
the
girl-
maid is like, I like this one more, and she's so sweet, and she like is like playing catch with her, and
As
the
she's
maid has no
calling her a
problem.
whore. She likes the new girl because the new girl listens to her more, and she
Yes.
takes up after her. So she's a
The
whore.
new girl
boom,
also
whore,
doesn't
boom,
develop as quickly either.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't
So it's
seem to have
more childlike.
the same
I think it's also
process
just
of
about
development too.
different children are going to be different. So for some children, it's very developmentally normal for them to be interested in, animals and stuff. This might make me look like a sociopath to you, Smith, but when I was a small child, I would throw snails down the stairs over and over until their shells cracked.
Do you feel
I
like
did-
that's like
I
a
did shit like that.
curiosity thing, or like you were trying to be
It was a
cruel? Because I feel like
no,
it's
it was a
Bella's being
curious-
curious.
yeah.
I don't think she's
I was-
trying to hurt
I-
any of these things. She's
I-
just
I
I
wanting
wanted
agree.
to
to
see
know
what
what was
happens.
under the
Guys.
shell.
Yeah.
I just felt like because this is like a fantastical movie and like what they show you is very specific and selected. I felt like the contrast between her and the other girl was that they showed how she was like cruel in the way a child is cruel, but they showed it a lot and they didn't show that with the other one.
I did think
So-
that was interesting. I thought the distinction between the two was interesting, but I think Smith, you said it about the gender thing. I'm curious because the husband in the end, who by the way was my favorite character, I thought he was the most real, like the
I
realistic.
hated him.
I loved him. He was my
I
favorite
didn't like
part.
him either.
That whole
I
interaction was
love
so
the candles.
interesting. Yeah, that whole interaction was like the most real to me, where he was an awful person, but he felt the most honest. I felt like he was
Okay,
the only
yeah,
one
he
who
was
didn't lie to Bella, and I like that. Everyone else lied to her, and I hated that. I don't like liars. It's my neurodivergent like special thing, but like I don't like it. So I actually trusted him the most, which was ironic. But I don't know if it was his status that let him get away with things as much as him being a man, but he was technically of high status, right? Like that was my impression versus the other people in the groups. Like it felt like she had less control in that situation because of his status and his dominance than the other men, if that made sense. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
thought that as well.
Yeah,
That's
that was
definitely a factor in it. Yeah, he definitely had a higher status for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the only time she felt like out of control or like felt like because every time as she got like a little bit like older, she asserted her own dominance in every single way, except for like that she even chose to go with him knowing that guy seemed a little bit off. And I think that's because she wanted to explore like, why did my mom kill herself? She wants to know. She's at that point where she wants to understand things more. But I do think that was like he was the most real, but I don't think anyone lied to her necessarily, right? Because like even Godwin, I sure it was when he was about to die, but when she asked him like what the deal was, when she was old enough to understand technically mentally, he told her what had happened. But when she was younger mentally, he told her that her parents were explorers, which is why she felt this like explorer gene. She said, I have the blood of explorers in me when she was with Duncan after she left Duncan for the first time and was exploring the city on her own. So I don't know when did you feel like people were lying to her?
I think
Well, then you just said one yourself, and then you said, but it doesn't count.
Okay, so like once again, I don't know if even like because Godwin did feel paternal to her and feel like a father figure to her. So I feel like that was more akin to like maybe like your 5-year-old asking you about their parents and you had adopted them, and you're not maybe gonna break it to a 5-year-old because maybe
Yeah.
they're not going to
Yeah,
understand.
I
it.
think-
It is a
Maybe
lie.
I think-
lie,
yeah.
but I don't. Yeah, I don't think she meant that type of lie. I think she
No,
meant more
no.
like-
I think that is a lie, but I also think it's omission
okay.
is a lie. So I think omission is a lie. So I'm kind of on that
Okay.
end where I'm like, you're keeping things from her, or you're not saying truly what's on your mind, or you're getting upset with her before explaining things to her, which is annoying to me. It felt like they were the ones needing to feel like they wanted to protect her and wanted no responsibility for her at the same time. Some of them, like Duncan, which was frustrating to me. But I also kind of thought it was interesting in contrast to the husband who wanted to possess her and torture her. He also, forgive me, I think he liked her when she was a bitch, because from my understanding, she was also cruel before she
They shared-
transformed, right? They shared that thing.
joyous things,
So
yeah.
the
Yeah.
love of his life, he found another sadist, and she doesn't like him anymore because it's not her, it's his daughter. So it's like that must be kind of weirdly, like, I thought that was the most disgusting romance, but also kind of like I kind of felt bad for him a little bit.
Well, he doesn't believe it, right? He doesn't believe
Right.
that that's her.
How could he?
that's-
Like, how could he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
that like I thought okay. Here's like a weird contradiction. Like with him, I did not like that. What was his name? Like the one she marries at the end. I
Alfie.
I really hated
Max.
he was such
I
a
didn't
Max.
like him either. Yeah,
He was such
I
a
agree.
cuck. Okay, like
yeah.
but like the whole time, and he's like so self-sacrificing in every possible way, and like it's just so pathetic. And it's like it's at other people's like he should have just fucking when she just says like let's touch each other's genitals, he just should have fucking done it. That would have saved her fucking life. Anyway, I like she's got two dads, and that's one of her dads, so she like marries her dad at the end, which I think really goes into the whole like woman thing, and like her big saving grace is finding someone to be your dad and then marrying him, which I really hated and makes me
Do
fills me
we
with a lot of
know if
resentment.
she and Max end up getting married at the end? I felt like I wasn't sure if that was
They're
clear or
they're
not. Like if they
together
were
and
just
they're-
living together,
Yeah.
but I don't know that they're
Hated
ever
the
But I
married.
don't. She doesn't
I
seem
hated
as a
the end
father
too.
figure.
I hated the end too.
Yes.
I loved almost all the movie, and then the end. The last 5 minutes,
Yeah,
I
it left
hated
me completely bereft. I hated it. Yep.
Yes.
It ruined the whole movie for me.
Well, didn't she just
Interesting.
become a doctor?
I want to hear
a
you
professor
expand on
herself?
that, Harmony.
Yeah.
Okay, to me the ending was if I had my way in my complete fleshliness. Misery, that's the ending to me. That is not joy. It's revenge, something that maybe feels good. It is completely bereft and empty. That's how I felt.
This is what I wanted to happen. Okay, well, I would have thought like, I feel like when she makes that choice to just shoot me, he should have just shot her.
Oh, and that would have been the end.
Yeah,
Would I have liked that ending?
and then
So
you can
the
have a
book
scene
has
where
a
the
different ending.
Probably more than the ending.
Did you read the
in the
book,
movie.
Genevieve?
I have not read the book, but I want to because I have heard that the ending is different, and I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if anybody in the chat has read the book or anything, but I'm kind of curious. I want to delve into that. I don't
Interesting.
know
And I
what the ending
also-
looks like other than it's different.
I heard that the book was from other people's perspectives rather than the movie, which depicted it allegedly from her point of view, which I'm not sure how much we feel that is accurate. I felt like it was neither from her point of view or anyone else's. It was from some weird narrator's perspective of what they think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah,
it
I
was a very
felt-
Yeah.
convenient fairy tale perspective. You know, that's what
Mm.
allowed it to be so whimsical, is because it
God's
was
eye
so,
view. Yeah.
Now, okay, I want to know, what did we hate about the film? Now we know the ending for some of you. Okay, what did we hate about it?
I've said it all already.
I think for me, the thing that I hated was also the thing that I loved. It drew me in. It was so salient to me. Like all the beautiful imagery and like the story relating to it so much. It I don't know, like was just like rubbing my ego the whole time, and it felt very like manipulative to my Salience landscape. Like, ooh, this is like too pretty or something, you know? Like there's something off and fake and yuck about it because I liked it too much.
Yeah, that
I
felt
loved
like
it. I felt like
yeah.
sorry, I'm gonna just
Go.
No,
one
that's okay.
moment.
I liked it too. I liked it too, but
I-
there was something off-putting about.
Yeah, no, I
like,
think what I
liking it.
liked about it is that it stuck with me. Like I saw it in theaters and then I thought about it like for a solid, like a good 2 weeks after. Like I had to tell everybody that I interacted with, like, I just saw this movie, like it was this total, trip, and like there's all these things, and like I could not stop thinking about it. And there hasn't been a film or like a piece of art like that for me in quite a while. And so even though there were parts that felt prickly and lots of different emotions, I just loved how impactful it was. And I love how visually impactful it was too when I watched it again the second time. I love the way they use Technicolor versus black and white and the different camera angles, and it was such a journey. It
Okay,
was
wait.
really, I like
Apparently,
it.
before we talk about what we hate about it, we should talk, I guess, about what we love about it, since we're already on this streak. But I would,
yeah, I went on a rant.
No, I love that. I would say the visuals for me were basically my favorite
Yeah.
part. Like, I could have watched the movie on mute,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I would
Same.
feel like I would have really
It was
like.
a beautiful
yeah.
movie for
It
sure.
Yeah.
reminded me, who's the director of the Grand Budapest Hotel? It reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Wes Anderson.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wes
Anderson, yeah.
Anderson. It's very
And
similar.
I had a similar problem, as I love his movies, but I also hate his movies, and I had a very similar problem to Madame Genevieve, and I felt like the fantastical, it was like a fairy tale, and I felt like that I kept trying to grab onto things, and it kind of kept pulling me away from everything I kept kind of grabbing onto. Like, so any kind of narrative aspect, it kind of undermined it just for the sake of like novelty or whimsicality. It kind of like took it away every time I tried to grab hold.
The
And
set
Wes
and the-
Anderson movies do that too.
Yeah, the sets and the design were whimsical, but I feel like they didn't like they had that as like a nice background for like the viewers to just enjoy. But I feel like that wasn't really like a focus of the
That's
movie
not what
too
I
much.
mean.
Oh, okay.
I mean like
yeah.
like the pets, like the
the
like,
pets at the doctor's place.
yeah, and it's just like there is like a really deep and like horrifying thing to come from, and so at some points you see the pets and you're like, oh, and you're like, and you realize that's her too, and then you're like, oh, and then there's a point where like the Godfried or whatever, Godwin, he compares the new girl to one of the pets.
Yeah.
But also the pets are used in like a fun, like whimsical way, and their appearance is I don't know what I'm supposed to feel about them. It like which is also a strength, like, because it makes everything nuanced. Like Godfried says that Godwin says that like all sexuality is immoral, so just go fuck her. You know what I mean? He's talking about like he's the Max says that it's immoral to marry her, and then he's like, oh, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, yeah, if she's like a 35-year-old like body woman, like she's only got so many years to have a good sex life. So I mean, she's doomed. You've doomed her to have a horrible sex life. So I mean, either fuck her now or don't. Like, so I mean, it's kind of complicated. So
Okay, was Godwin supposed to be? I got Frankenstein's monster vibes, but that
Yeah.
succeeded. They referred to him as a monster, blah blah blah. So that's when the ducks and the animals were there. That's why I didn't really see it as like, I guess, whimsical, unless you see like Frankenstein's monster as a whimsical like movie. I just saw it as more like sciencey. This guy's a mad scientist. He thought things have happened to him, so now he's doing it to other people. Eventually, he got to humans. Those were just like the test subjects before he could eventually do it to humans.
well, Max.
And so the
wakes
more
up
whimsical
with
part I thought was like the scenery and the settings and like
Well, that's
the
what I'm
fact that
saying.
the
Max
sky was
wakes up with-
gorgeous and
the Max wakes up with the chicken pig, like looking at him and oinking and shit, and it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, now you're using it for like this weird, like comical, like fantastical little element.
well, they
but
turned Duncan into a
it's
goat.
taken away the horror of it, and it makes it like a silly thing.
And the horror comes back when they turn Duncan into the goat at the end.
Yeah, but also it's like a joke.
Well,
But isn't the whole movie kind of lighthearted in that way the whole time?
Yeah.
Even when Bella is in those, even like during the sex work arc where they do show like men taking advantage of her and whatnot, like the whole time, I'd say the tonality of it stayed pretty. And you don't like that, Smith?
Well,
That the
I just thought of
tonality
like how I can make this like misogynistic again. because I relate, because just like you, I really related to Bella, and I thought the movie did a really good job of making it so that you can relate to Bella, and in so many ways, like a super protective childhood that felt like black and white, and then she like breaks free, and then she lives a life where she's not concerned about putting herself down a path that might lead to suffering. She's interested in the ride, and I can relate to that so much. But I feel like the whole fairy tale-ness in itself is a thing that like men don't get fairy tales, and I feel like if it was a man character, there wouldn't be no fairy tale, and there's a lot of convenient points, and I'm not, this is me, okay, really, like this I have a lot of humility right now. I know that's what I was laughing a second ago, because I was laughing at myself, because because like you said, it really lets you put yourself into the movie, and like it really makes me like resentful that I can't live a fairy tale, but also women can't live a fairy tale, but women are sold a fairy tale. And I really think I don't think like women's lives are actually fairy tales, but women are sold a fairy tale, and I wish that I could be sold a fairy tale. You know, it's all bullshit. But
That
feel
makes
like-
me want to write something or make a movie or something, a man fairy tale. But is it the male fantasy fairy tale? This is a little bit off topic, but isn't it something like Star Wars, Transformers?
I think
Yeah,
it's
that's-
anime.
the male
I think it's
focus?
anime. Anime gives men fairy tale accessibility, but that's Marvel's harder, right? Because Marvel's a different kind of fantasy. But I see your point.
in,
Like,
in the intro, I literally compared this to anime.
yeah,
And in
I
my
feel
intro,
like
because-
the male fairy tale is a young woman's brain inside an adult woman's body. To be
Oh,
honest with
oh,
you.
oh,
That's yeah.
I do
Nail
not
on
like.
the head right there.
That's a very
homie.
popular trope. It's a very popular trope in anime.
At
It's a
least
very
for
popular
certain
trope.
men.
I don't like those. I'm gonna be real with you. And this movie made me misandrist as fuck. Where at the end of it, I was like, I hate men. See, this is why I
That's
hate
what I
men.
didn't like about it. That's what I didn't like about it. It rubbed that part of me. It
Yeah.
enabled that part of me so hard, and I don't like that part of me.
Yeah, of course not.
Like,
It's
and,
not-
and I don't. To me, that is like letting all the bad stuff in my life win. You know, like I don't want to be turned against men.
well, obviously, it's
Like,
just
that
this
is not
category of
happy to me.
person.
Where was the love in this movie? That's what I want to know. There was no love.
the
in
love
this
is Max.
Zero-
it's the practical,
zero love.
It's the practical,
No,
just man that's just a
If
Yeah.
simp.
that's
Her
love, then
girlfriend
kill
that
me
she-
now.
Max was the safe bet, which is I think what they were painting. Because like in the
Wasn't love.
beginning, she said she'll marry him because it seems right. Then like I think they expressed that there wasn't any like too much sexual interest within Max. Because I think that's why by the end of it you're confused. You're like, were they married or were they just like living together? And I think they were just living together out of like convenience. She's like, you're a nice person. You do remind me of my father. I don't think she saw him as a father figure, but I want to say she almost saw him like a brother.
Yeah, I
Right?
feel like
And
they're
then-
like family, right?
Yeah,
but
and
like
so
I
she's
don't
like-
think they're actually
Yeah.
married.
Well,
But they
he's
are
in love with her
family.
for
That's what I
sure.
thought.
He's
That's
in
what
love
I
with
saw
her
by
for
the end.
sure.
And
Yeah.
they're raising the like their third sister, which would be the
Yeah.
then
And the
she-
other girl
yeah.
from Paris is, I think, like
Her love interest.
her love,
Yeah.
like the love of
Yeah.
her life, her
So that's,
actual
like,
lover.
Yeah.
That's one of the places where I like the nuance. Like it's telling a story that's not often able to be told. Like I do think that I don't think it's the case with every lesbian, but there's definitely like lesbians that like just literally there's gay men too that get fed up with the other sex and they like just like, okay, I can put up with I can put up with men, I can put up with women, and they just like, I see that sometimes.
Well, everyone was
I wonder-
so selfish to
oh.
me. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think in Bella's case, it's not that she became a political lesbian, in that she became a lesbian out of misandry. I think she was just, I can feel pleasure like this. I can feel pleasure like this. It was just, and then also I'm working with this lady. We're going to school together. We have a lot of the
They
same
kind of
interests.
have like a trust with each other.
Yeah,
Nobody's
but-
trying to like hurt the other
I don't
person.
think
I will-
gender matters.
Yeah, I don't think it mattered
Mm.
to her, but I will say I am a big Max fan. I could see myself definitely falling in love with a Max-like character, and I think with Godwin as her like father figure, he chose Max because Max was kind of a dumbass. Like he was like, "You are a naive dumbass.
That's what I didn't
He
like.
was a
Let
about
me
it.
safe
bring-
choice.
Calm down.
Yeah.
Let me bring you
Um,
in and teach you." And he grew like on his own journey separately from her, and then they came together. Where I think like at some point like she's probably, I don't know, intellectual, because he's still like the doctor's assistant, right? So, or is he a doctor at the end? But I think he's still the doctor's
The
assistant.
doctor at
So
the end,
she has-
yeah.
Yeah, so she
Like she just
he,
wanted someone to serve him, basically, to serve
Yeah.
her. She didn't
Yeah,
want
yeah.
a love
They
match.
groomed him.
That's also what I don't like. Yeah.
Marriage.
He was
She
so
groomed him
pathetic
and
through
he
the
groomed-
whole thing.
Am I the only one that thought Max was like her brother?
Right?
felt like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
brother.
Kind of makes
yeah.
no, that makes sense. That makes sense. But I that makes sense to me, and I think that makes more sense than what I thought. But I still feel like he's her brother, but he's like a very older brother. You know, like
Because
like
I do feel like God was a paternal figure to Max as well, right? Like they
Mhm.
worked
Yeah,
together for
yeah.
a really
saying
long
he-
time. They
Godwin
he
groomed
helped
Max
shape and
into
develop
that.
him. Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I have a super chat. I'm not sure how we'd answer this question because I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with it, but Thank you, Aim, for the super chat. Says, anyone else feel like Bella went through a mini version of the levels, even the Doomer stages, but chose a bubble that suits her in the end? I'm not sure how many of you guys know anything about my levels.
She
in
did
that
not get to
regard.
5. I
Well-
actually thought about that. She did not get to 5. That was not Joy.
For
That
sure.
is not my understanding of
I
Joy
felt
at
like
the
she was
end.
just a 2. I feel like 2s go through the level of like the levels in their own
Yeah.
mini way without ever going to the outside. Like she only ever knew herself in relation to the bubbles. It was never a question about the universe. You know, so I feel like in that regard, she was just like a 2 who went through the motions and then chose a bubble that put her in a place where she felt empowered in her own way.
Yeah. It was about power.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that I do feel like she actually was a political lesbian. Like that's how I felt. Because not like it was explicit or anything, but it just felt like she like the only time that she felt like it was for her was with another woman, because of all the men are so archetypal and kind of out to get her, and so I feel like the only safe route in the movie is another woman.
Okay, hold on. I want to hear it from Ali.
It
The
really
question
wasn't fair to men.
was
Yeah.
okay. First of all, hold on. Did this movie pass the Bechdel test? It didn't, right? Absolutely not.
It didn't. That's funny.
Right?
Wait, no, it did, because her
did?
and Toinette had the conversation where she said she touched her scar from the C-section, and she said,
Ooh.
"Oh, you've had a kid," and they had a whole conversation about childbirth.
Okay,
and
okay,
she was-
right. Okay,
yeah.
score. Then it passed the back. Okay, good. Ali, go ahead.
To the political lesbian part, I thought they were hinting at something like that. I didn't fully dive into it when they were doing like the whole like becoming socialist movement, like when they were arguing with Duncan, and Duncan's like, "Hey, what's up, Charlotte? How you doing?" And they're like, "Okay, we're gonna be late to the socialist movement," and then they ran away from it. A little like hint to it, right? But once again, I unfortunately I just don't think Bella Kate gave like a fuck about gender. I think she was just like the whole thing, like you guys keep saying empowerment. I think she was just looking for like not joy, but like happiness or stability. I don't
Stability.
think she cared to be empowered. I don't think she wanted to
Happiness?
run anything. I don't
Yeah.
think
I think she wanted to fulfill her
Maybe
curiosity.
stability.
I don't think she
Yeah.
wanted stability. Like she keeps making choices that undermine her stability. Like she goes and runs
Yeah.
off with Duncan, and then
She's
she
so
like
chaotic.
chooses. Yeah, she
Well,
chooses
but
more
to
later-
looking
go.
to
No, wait.
But
she,
later.
she explored Duncan specifically. She said, "This is something I want to. I'm gonna come back and marry Max because that seems right." She's like, "That seems like that'll work out. Like that's good." So she's like, "I want to explore though with Duncan," and she says it. I don't think I think he'll do little harm to me. So she
Okay.
knows that this is just like a temporary point in time. So like I don't think that's like against her stability. I think like the thing is like she's young and she wants to explore and she understands that. So she's
Yeah.
gonna go do that and that won't ruin her stability. She doesn't think
This
it'll
is
ruin
what
her
this is what
stability.
makes me so uncomfortable. Okay, like so she constantly always has an underlying baseline of stability. She always has the money in her dress. She always has Max so she can go and fall back on. She always has like all these things to fall back on. And it's all men. And when I was saying before, I was like sort of like hinting at is like men don't get the fairy tale. The men don't. It's not the fairy tale. I just want to be reckless and still have something to fall back on. And I feel like that's not the place for men in society. Men have to be a baseline of stability, and women get to be the reckless, chaotic force. And
I mean, I don't want to speak for Arabs, but I kind of feel like I could go back to my mom and dad's house at any time in my life, including my brothers. So maybe it's just like Arabs, but like you can go home to your mom and dad.
I mean, I live at my parents' house, but
Okay, then
but
what you
they-
talk about?
Yeah, and I don't know what you're talking about, man.
But also,
because
wasn't
I
it-
live at my parents' house, but because of a man,
Who
they
else-
make me
who
feel
else would
ashamed
she
of it
use?
constantly. And my mom tells me like it's her job to make me feel guilty and ashamed. But even while
Just pay
she's
them
undermining
rent.
me,
That's what we do. We pay our parents rent
But
and
isn't
help
that
them with
more of a-
trash.
it doesn't matter
cultural-
what I do. It doesn't matter
Isn't
what I
that's
do.
more of a cultural thing
Well,
though,
but
because I
that's
feel
just-
like
I don't
Sorry,
like
go
that
ahead,
part of
Irene.
our culture.
sorry, yeah, I was gonna say, like, as a fellow Habibi Middle Eastern, there's men living with their parents into their 30s and they don't move out till they get married, and that's just culturally accepted and like very much not something that particular bubble shames. And so I feel like what you're experiencing, Smith, is a very specific cultural reality of like
American.
maybe
True.
American,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Even
there's
in,
so many 40-year-old baby boys that
oh
I
yeah.
know
Even
that
in
are-
Croatia, the average age of leaving the home is like 30s. Like my partner was considered weird because he had his own apartment in his like early 20s and left home early. Like that was
But-
considered strange. Yeah.
I will say to Smeth's point though, that I think he's getting at too, is that, you know, your parents will eventually not be able to take you like that. And a lot of, you know, like I often hear this sentiment from women of like, oh, I'll just marry a rich guy, or oh, if it doesn't work out, like I'll just get pregnant and do this and that. And that's that's not. I mean, except recently there is this thing called hobosexual. So maybe you should look into that, Smith, of being a hobosexual,
Yes.
because that is
And-
becoming a thing.
I think that
It's
that
a-
term is
that has
new,
been
but
a
I don't
thing.
think that
Yeah.
entire that's
That
existed for a
trope
long
is not
time.
new. Yeah,
It's
that
just
trope
a
has been
great new
around.
word to describe.
As a female
Well,
with money,
well,
I will say that trope is alive and well.
Yeah.
It has been for a while.
not to talk about Bella though. Like, so she can fall back on like a man, but like one of them like wants to literally like remove her clit and stuff. And so like the empowerment though, that's why I hated Max so much, because it's not that she becomes empowered on her own like behalf. It's that she chooses to like go for this pathetic simp that will literally let her like fuck other guys, like literally on their wedding day, let her leave for some asshole like on the day, like that, like the fact that, and when he's like no, I won't like have sex with you right now because it's just not right. He's so self-sacrificing, and he just is not a person. He doesn't exist for himself. He's utter people pleaser. He's
He's
total
an egoist.
That's why she has no attraction
husk.
for
He's
him,
an
though.
empty husk, and she chooses that because like she can like get the stability from him.
I
And-
agree. I do.
Yeah.
He was
Well, wait, she doesn't even get stability from
not
him.
attractive.
So, okay, the whole thing is okay, you keep saying she's like relying on men, but like unfortunately, like even if you're gonna go ahead and especially in the framework of like the time frame of this movie, even if you were gonna go sell things, you were gonna sell them to men necessarily. It was always gonna be falling back on men. So that's why I kind of didn't even think of it like that. When she went back to she didn't have any sexual desire for Max. The only reason she wanted to explore things with him is because she had her own feelings that she was exploring, and he was the only male counterpart that she could explore with, which is why she wanted to do things with him. But she didn't. It wasn't until Max wanted to fight Duncan and said, "No, you can't leave. I will fight Duncan." Where she was like, "The fire in me is whatever. Like I feel a different desire for you than I
Yeah.
had before." But she
I
never
felt
felt
so
any sexual
pissed
desire.
that
She never fell back
fucking
on Max.
chloroformed him. I felt so pissed that like, because if
Why?
this was the first time that he was actually, and even though it's like the creepy, pathetic like man like beating up the other man thing, it was the first time that he turned her on, and it was the first time that he was like actually doing something for himself, as stupid as
Correct.
it was. And I hated that she chloroformed him, because like even then she fucking cucked him, and everything
She was
works against
chloroformed when
Max
she
at
was
every
freaked out,
moment.
though. When she freaked out, she got chloroformed. So that's
Yeah, but-
literally just learned behavior.
Yeah, no, but you can excuse anything because it's always
Not an
you
excuse,
see
it's
her
just
story.
like that-
You just
that's
excuse
just-
it, and
No, that's
it
just what
it sucks.
happened.
It sucks when she gets chloroformed, and it sucks when Max gets chloroformed.
I mean, sure, it
She's
does. But like, I
obviously
mean, I don't think
learned
that's like
that
a
that's
judgment
like
of
an
her character or
appropriate
anything.
way to
Yeah. Hey,
get
but and
what you
I'm
want.
I'm still saying it sucks for Max. I'm not saying that. I'm not
Okay.
saying she's a monster.
This goes back to the initial statement by the director. Was this a movie about people being people, or was this a movie about something else? Was this a fantasy movie, or is this a movie? Are we frustrated because it's like people suck? Or are we frustrated because the fantasy wasn't to our liking?
I think it was a
I think
people
it is
movie.
ultimately people being people, and it's amplified and exaggerated in some ways, and it's done in a, obviously we don't put babies' brains in bodies and reanimate them.
Yet.
So clearly it's not yet.
Yeah, that's coming.
Clearly
soon.
it's not a perfect real life example, but I do think that it shows a lot of very human behaviors and very human reactions in the situations. And I think that's ultimately why it stuck with me, is because I could see myself in a lot of the characters and situations, or I could see experiences that I've gone through in those.
Sure.
I love the black guy.
It
He was my
does not
favorite
feel
character.
honest to me to
Really?
say it's like a movie
Henry,
about
I loved Henry too.
Oh,
Wait, sorry,
Henry
sorry.
and Max, my
Wait, we
boys.
cut off Maiden. Maiden, finish your sentence.
Oh,
Sorry.
it doesn't feel honest to me to say it's just a movie about humans. There's too many like male female dynamics.
Mm,
you know,
Yeah, I
going
think
on,
it's
and not enough balance.
There are
for that
other
to be
things
the
that
case.
it's about. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of artists do this where they kind of obfuscate a little bit because like the whole this is like something I wrote my thesis about in art school, but like the whole artist statement kind of like undermines the artist, and asking the artist to answer questions. Like artists like often learn how to obfuscate.
That's
in
why
their
we do
answers.
art, because words are not our thing. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, like talking about art is like pooping about fart, or like kissing about farting. I don't know.
Okay, wait. So you liked Henry? Like, did we have favorite characters? Like people that stood out to us as like, oh, why did you like him? Actually, I think that's a good
Because
question.
I feel like that's like my whole thing is like everything he did and everything he said was like, I was like, oh shit, that's like, and then he's like, I showed you like the heart. He's like, no, actually, I just realized I did it because I'm a selfish asshole and I wanted to hurt you, and it's like something I would do. It's just, yeah, I related to him.
Okay.
I like Duncan. I thought for anything, I
I
thought
liked him
Duncan was
too.
like the most. I thought all the characters were pretty real, right? I thought they were all pretty honest, but I think Duncan was the most like that one made the most sense to me is that she wanted to have this exploration. It made I understood him the most. Like, obviously, this is what would happen, especially like with the red pill and everything that's been going on now. Like this was just like this is every red pill guy I've ever seen. Is like they go for the Instagram girl because they're like she's just a dumb bimbo who I can control with my money and my flashiness and blah blah blah. Blah. And then it just flips on him completely, and he realizes like, oh shit, I'm actually obsessed with the thing I hate now, and what like the whole
It's
it was
cute.
just. Great character.
It's
Great
cute.
character.
It's like
Mhm.
funny and cute that like that happens to him. But yeah.
Mhm.
I hate to say it, but Bella is probably my favorite character just
Oh
because
yeah, of course,
so
Bella.
Main
into
character.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Arena, go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, right now I'm thinking about favorite character as in who I'd be friends with, and it would be Max, Henry, and Martha. Obvi Bella, Aubrey Toinette. Duncan, what did feel very real. Like as soon as he started interacting with Bella, I was like, I know where this is going, and I hate the feeling that this character gives me. So that points to him being very well written. Probably the most complex male character. I feel like Henry was almost like Henry met Bella like at a stage slightly like developmental stage slightly below him, and then they boop, and then she left him like right here. So I thought that was great as well,
Yeah.
and I loved Henry's baby boy. We love anyway.
Her and the old lady, him and the old lady, what was her name again?
Martha.
Like I feel like I even though I loved him and I loved her, their entry was like a Hogwarts moment where it's like you're gonna like if like it was like so convenient and it just made her like a super genius after she interacted with them. Yeah.
Mm. Okay, I will say something that I only watched it once and I only watched it once. But I did feel a way about it where I thought, man, I've seen this story so many times in film. I've read so many books. I'm kind of sick of this particular way of telling this story, which in my personal perspective is that sort of I'm a virginal girl who wants to see your dick. Give it to me. And I'm like, oh, what is this? What is this? Like, she's innocent, but she's like, show me your dick. And I'm like, okay. Like, I'm not sure what's happening. It's a very common anime trope. It's a common trope. I get it. But I'm kind of over it. I'm kind of burnt out, I think, on this particular type of storytelling. And at the same time, my favorite part of the whole movie was the set, was the feeling that I got. I wanted more of a fairy tale. But I know fairy
Six
tales,
that.
yeah, and I know fairy tales aren't as glamorous as the way they've been depicted in Disney. I know the original fairy tales are quite dark. But I think I wanted the darkness without that particular element, and I think I would have liked the film a lot more.
I really liked that element, but I didn't think it went deep, and I wanted that element to be darker. Because like I was saying, like when I was saying when Godwin was saying that like all like sexuality is immoral, and like that whole time, like I really had that because I've had this thought about like if somebody is like a 35-year-old and they have the mind of a child, like should we allow them to like consent? And like part of me is like just fuck it, like yeah, it's not moral, but like they don't have a long life to live, you know, like they need to fuck. And so that is a really dark place to go, and that aspect really lends its like that aspect didn't go dark enough for it to be fleshed out, you know.
Interesting. I don't know if I believe in the emphasis of sex in my personal worldview or even romantic relationships, but I will say like trial and error and experiencing your life, which I think was the ultimate theme of the story, is sort of what I would encourage people to do, is to bubble hop, is to see the world in whatever capacity you're going to do it, through books or through documentaries or through traveling, but to experience your life and figure out like, who am I and what do I want to do with my place here? Like I did like the aesthetic of the ending, her in the garden and everybody, and I did like this aesthetic. Like I liked the idea, maybe because I dream of a garden, my ultimate goal, a backyard. But like I do dream of this like backyard, so I was like, oh, I kind of like this part. But I like that she had to go from place to place. I even the scene where she takes the money to give it to the people who are like slaves or whatever they are working. That part felt sort of like a child's, well, this sounds, but like a child's desire to save the world through like, oh, if I just give them this like $10, it will change everything, as if money ever saved the world, right? So it's kind of, all of those themes are really good and life lessons to learn. So I think I appreciated that the most throughout the story, and yet I was unsatisfied by the end.
that part I had
Yeah.
a particularly
Too
specific pet.
self-indulging
Mm.
to be
Yeah,
satisfying.
it was very, but when she gives away the money, I just thought it was so pointless for like the crewmen to steal it, because like like to me, I was like, I don't care what they do with it. Like it doesn't matter if the poor people get it. Like because like the of the plot, like they're like, I don't think it would have changed anything if she actually gave it to the poor people. They probably would just like fight each other about over it.
It was
Wait,
showing her naivety.
thought-
That was the point. Was like she
Yeah.
like these guys were like, we'll give it to them. She's like,
Yeah.
these people need the money, and the guards were like, everyone needs money, ma'am. And she's like, we'll give it to them,
Naivety
then
and her
walked away.
privilege because she had such easy
Mhm.
access to money. Yeah.
I think
I think
wanted to, I
also it
wanted to see
speaks-
what happened if she gave it to the poor people. That's what I
I think
wanted
it
to see.
speaks to the fact that a lot of the times people with money and privilege think that they're helping the world by
Let them make
donating to
cake
these.
vibes. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and
Mhm.
I don't know, I can think of just like the pink washing breast cancer trend, right? Like in October, everybody's like, breast cancer this, breast cancer that, and people are like donating to all these causes and whatever, but a lot of those causes aren't actually doing anything to really help people who are afflicted with breast cancer. So I'm just kind of thinking like we do have a lot of charitable things in our world where we think that we're helping, we think that we're giving, but in reality none of the money's actually ever making it to the intended purpose.
Mhm, mhm.
Which I think that was her point when she like after she gives the money and she comes back to like the room and she like with the guards and Duncan, and she's explaining to Duncan, no, the money isn't lost, I like took it. And then she's like laying in bed, she's like, I have nothing to offer, these people need help, I lay in feathers, they lay in ditches, right? And then she's like, I have nothing to offer but some money. So it's I think that's what ended up pushing her towards like the socialist thing, towards like that scene.
So the theme
And
of
so
the movie, she had nothing to offer, like no
Yeah.
love, nothing of substance for the whole movie, to be honest.
Yeah, so but for her, I think it was like I don't think she realized that there were poor people to begin with, right? She didn't realize this thing until Harry or Henry, I don't really know his name. I think we'll go with Henry because that's what Arena said, but and she didn't even like when she sees it, she's just like overcome with like, fuck, what do I do? And the only thing she can do is money. So once again, the privilege thing, I don't know if it was she like found the money in the room and was like, okay, cool, there's a bunch of it here, let's just give it away.
Well, she was unafraid.
Oh.
I think there's some sort of like privilege in that. Even introspection itself is sort of a privilege. Like you have the time to think and be unafraid, to think
Oh,
not
okay,
of your
understood.
survival, but of your living. But I would say even more than that, I think there is a hard lesson we have to learn. Genevieve made such a great point, which is a lot of the time when you do donate to charity, there's like an overhead and only so much of it goes to the people. And there's a really hard lesson in that. Or I don't know if you guys remember, like as a child, when did you realize like people were homeless? Or when did you realize like people didn't have things you had? Or when did you realize like you felt like, why don't I have the things my friend has? And then you see like some families don't even have that, and so you start to realize like, okay, so I felt like she was sort of having that realization of, okay, I'm this one person and like maybe I can do something about it, and oh my god, I can't do anything about it. And then what does she end up doing anyways? And what do we all end up doing anyways? It's like we have to learn how to live our lives, and I think that's a very hard lesson to learn. It's very hard to know how to live when we're all so busy surviving.
I think that's where some of my mental illness and resentment comes from, because I grew up in a trailer. So like I for me it's the opposite, and it's like, why do other people, have stuff that I don't, for the most part?
Mm.
See, I grew up, my dad came from wealth and privilege, and my mom, her dad was a janitor and had 10 kids. So I saw like two worlds growing up, and my mom's side of the family was always much more like joyful and happy and like, yeah, just there's something to them that seemed very lacking on my dad's side with the wealth and all
Mm.
that. So I always got the opposite kind of message growing up, that money is not at all going to lead you to happiness of any kind.
Was
Like it's
she,
a tool.
do you guys think she was happy by the end?
No.
Maybe not
She was
joyful, but happy?
content.
Ooh.
She's content.
I think she was.
think it's-
Content.
She
I
was
like
fine.
that description.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she had her career, she had her
I
house.
don't know.
She built herself
Sheep.
her
sheep
pleasure
content
dome.
and
Okay, hold
Yeah.
on. I'm
She
Smith
built-
and
she
then
built-
Maiden.
She built herself a clit licking machine. Like she built herself like a
yeah,
pleasure dome.
self-indulgent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like hedonistic?
Yeah. Like, yeah, but like not fulfilling. But the
I mean, she
fulfilling
made, like,
part,
family.
the fulfilling part,
Yeah.
was not what was like being shown. Like, so like I really
Maybe
don't.
she had that moment when the movie ended. Maybe she was fulfilled in that moment. But
Yeah, she
But
had a
yeah, but like
family,
no,
she
but
was
she when she's
done.
talking about becoming a surgeon or whatever, and like she's so like brilliant at it that she's able to put this like man's brain or like the brain of a goat into this man's body and shit. That part probably ended up being fulfilling, but
Mhm.
it doesn't go there.
yeah, fulfilling in a sort of like I have all this trauma, from over the years from how like people and men specifically have taught me, and now I can like put all that energy into like taking revenge on this one man. Like that would be fulfilling, yeah.
Duncan
I
being
don't.
the man.
But maybe not
No,
like
no, no. The Alfie. The
Alfie.
yeah.
yeah.
Military guy.
Oh yes. Okay.
Like it kind of
But-
seemed like revenge for all the bad relationships she'd been in.
I honestly don't even think Alfie was that deep for her. I think he was an experiment to lead her towards like the career that Smith mentioned, like she's becoming brilliant at. I honestly don't even think she thought of
It
it
just
as
totally
revenge. I
just
think
She's
she
truly
was like,
detached.
I don't
That's
think-
so
yeah.
sick.
yeah,
That's-
like I think she was detached
Maybe that's
from
what
it.
I don't like. Yeah, maybe she
Well, he's
is
nothing to her,
sociopath
though.
coded.
Wait, what,
Yeah.
Ollie?
He isn't anything.
Like there
to
is
her.
no love in
Oh.
her.
I guess
Sorry.
she doesn't know him.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's the
dude.
thing.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
I
just
feel
some
like
guy.
what she's getting revenge on.
He's
That
some
was
guy
confusing.
who wanted to hurt her, who wanted to harm her. So
Well, if anything, he's
Yeah.
some guy that made her mom kill herself. The only reason she's
We all
like,
send ourselves
here.
to hell every once in a while, getting back at people who hurt us.
It's like having a time machine and going back to the person who started your generational trauma and then torturing them. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
and so it's so disconnected from you. So
That's why I said like the ending, like, it was like, if I gave in to like all the evil shit that I wanted to do, to make up for all the pain that I felt, that's what the ending felt like to me. It's like, I don't
mean,
know.
that is kind of the dream, though. The society sells us, right?
Yes, I think so, and I think that's a fucking meaning crisis.
Yes,
but
okay,
yeah.
yes. I do think so too. I think the movie made me feel like it was kind of empty for a movie that was allegedly so deep and profound. And I kept reading all these things about how deep and profound it was, and I was just like, I guess, I don't know, bro. I guess.
Wait.
That is deep.
Sorry.
Go, Arena, go.
That is so sad.
I was gonna say at the end, didn't Alfie get shot?
Yeah, they
Right?
shove
he
it
gets
in-
shot. He shoots himself in the foot after she throws the cocktail in his face, right? Like they struggle with the gun and he shoots himself in the
Because
foot.
I'm trying to think of like how did he end up, because if he
No, I thought Max shot.
did he get shot? Yeah, Max shot him, right? That's what I'm saying. Like
Max
he
came and
gets
saved Bella.
he gets
Wait,
shot
Wait.
potentially, right, like in the chest. And so it was a similar situation, I think, in that she wasn't trying to torture him. She was like, I have a fresh body.
Yep,
I
and she
have
became her
hope.
dad.
I'm gonna do an
So
She
Madam
said, like,
Genevieve,
I'm
I
not
think-
going to just watch him bleed to death. Like, she's
Yeah.
not going to let it go to
Oh,
waste.
he's not going
I
to
think
waste
the
this,
scene you're
this
thinking of,
precious
Genevieve,
organism.
I think the scene you're thinking of, Genevieve, is when she threw the cup of drink into Duncan's face. Because she threw it. She threw
Wait,
a metal.
the
bottle.
cocktail when he's like, just drink this, and like,
No, that's Alfie.
Then-
So Alfie, yeah,
that's
was trying to give
Alfie,
her the-
yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's like in a martini glass or whatever, and it's got the
Mhm.
chloroform and gin
I
mix
thought she
in
never
it.
took it. Oh no, she threw it in his face.
She
and then he
throws
got
it in his
chloroforming.
face, and he's
Yeah.
holding the gun, and then like they're struggling, and he
And then
gets
Max
shot in the
comes.
foot.
But then also I think Max comes, right?
Mhm.
Does
I
he?
believe.
I
so.
like how
I
we
thought
don't remember.
The
That's
last.
so
I don't
interesting
remember the
that I
last
just
10
watched it
minutes.
again last night for like to refresh my mind, and now. But I was also smoking,
I'm going on
so I was
vibe.
very high. So
Hold
I
on,
watched
wait.
it right
I'm gonna.
before this panel. I just didn't see the last 10 minutes. Like I watched it
The
for
last 10
second
minutes is
time.
the
So
only part
sh-
that I don't like.
I remember
Yeah,
him getting shot in the
really don't
foot,
like
and
the
then
ending.
her bringing Alfie back to God's house or compound, and what Max helps
But
her
with
maybe.
Wait, okay,
someone.
Discord
No, she
Discord
got
said-
with some-
Wait, look,
Oh no,
Discord.
she called Max to help carry him back to the house. She did. There was the
Oh,
shot.
okay.
Okay.
She called Max to help
Yes,
carry him
yes,
back to
yes,
the house
yes.
because she didn't want to let him bleed out. But also, she then becomes her father, and then you're doing another experiment. She's not gonna, I have this perfect
Yeah.
body. It's in
Right,
between
she's
life and death.
continuing that.
Yeah.
I guess the shooting in the
Okay.
foot was to get back at him, but then I
So
guess
it says
yeah.
in the
Go ahead.
Wikipedia, it says she tosses the sedative in his face, and Alfie accidentally shoots himself in the foot before passing out.
Because the chloroform
Oh,
was in his face.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yes,
The chloroform
yeah,
was in his
and then
face,
he's
was a
like
cup of it.
bleeding
Mhm.
and like unconscious, and he gets
Yeah.
brought back to God's house. for the
Yeah.
surgery then.
But
'Cause
I don't
she's
even
like,
think
I'm
she
not gonna
thought
let him
of it
bleed
as
to death.
revenge. Yeah, I think she
Yeah.
just thought of it as like,
No, but the audience did. The audience had that feeling for
Mm.
oh,
sure.
that's
he's
okay.
like,
That is
That's
true.
what I'm
That is true.
talking about. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
why
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like it arouses those feelings in me that makes like
Yes.
revenge and
Right.
like stuff
Which
I
is
don't that are not in my values very salient and delicious looking to me, and that's what I don't like.
Mm.
Like
But that's why
her
the end.
throwing the
wait, about
cocktail or even him getting shot isn't her trying to be
Mm,
vengeful. It's her trying
No,
to
it's
just
just
escape from the
yeah.
situation.
Which is why
Jen,
the end was like contemptful for me. I didn't
Which
mind
also
the
makes
ending.
it even more
Oh,
okay for us to like accept it, you know, the fact that like, oh, she wasn't being this way, so we can enjoy it. You know, we can enjoy it innocently. You know
Okay,
what
Yeah.
I
I want to
mean?
I
Yeah,
want to
that's a
go
good
into
point.
that. I want to go into that, but Ali and then Smith because I see you guys trying to talk, and then I kind of want to explore that, Maiden.
I was gonna say that the ending to me was okay. I don't see her as innocent. I just see her as is. I don't see her as
Oh,
doing right or wrong. That's the whole thing with this. I want to say non-binary, but
Mhm.
I want to. She's just a literal just a person,
mm.
and like she doesn't really have any paternal figures. She doesn't have any authority figures really, right? And that's why I liked the end of it and why I say she was content. I don't think she was really searching for happiness, or I don't think she was searching for anything. I think she lived her life, and at this age, like if when her mind matched her body, whatever it may be, and like everything's to realize she has this family, and like she's just done, or not even done. Like we don't know if there's like a future for her, like like they don't want to write a sequel type shit. But I think that's more what it is. Like, okay, well, I have this house, I have this career, I have this girl, I have my family, my friends. So she's just done.
I could see
And
that. I
that's
could see
more
that.
what I got to
I could see that, but
I
that's
almost
still
prefer the
it's
movie
so
if I do look at it
unsatisfying.
that way. I
it.
almost like it
well,
better.
yeah, that's what I
I
was
guess
like. That's why I like the fantastical element, but I feel like the fantastical element leads you to sort of look at it in a Zen way where everything's kind of disconnected. But there's so many things like Amanda Genevieve just she referred to Godwin as God, which is done throughout the whole movie, and that in itself is like, okay, so he's God, and the whole time I'm trying to grapple with that, like, so he represents like God, and so like what does that mean in the context? But every time I try to like grab onto context and try to like have a narrative understanding of the whole thing, it diverts away back into like a distance where it's like, oh no, it's just a whimsical like
No
whatever it's
meaning, yeah.
yeah,
Well, he
Nothing
gave
it's,
her
progressed
life.
on
it's just
His
God
name is
because it's
Godwin.
catchy. It's just catchy, you know what I
Well, he
mean?
also
And
gave
doesn't
her
mean
life.
Yeah,
It's
he
an
did
immaculate
give her
Yeah,
life.
he is like
technically.
her creator,
but him
right?
giving her life is just so it's not that deep.
It's the but
Yeah.
she's the paternal figure, like God, like your parents are like a symbol for God. So his name's also Godwin or Godfrey or whatever.
That's
And then also the Immaculate Conception type
Yeah,
situation. I
your
mean, that's
parents
like,
are like your God, so like they call him
It's
God.
her
But that's
childish
shallow.
well,
nickname.
his name
It's her
is God,
childish
and that she
nickname
doesn't
for
know
the
how to
name
speak.
Godwin.
Yeah, but
That's
that
it,
Yeah,
the
right?
person
Yeah.
that made the movie
but
like wrote down the name
clearly,
God and then decided
yes,
to
obviously.
call him God. So like yeah, it's
A little
not
yeah,
just
bit,
there's a
like
you know?
nothing
purpose
means
for
anything
that.
ever. Like obviously it was a choice, but it's catchy and it makes you think that there's meaning and you want to grab onto it, and the whole time it's pulling you away from that.
That's
Yes,
what I
and that's
mean.
exactly the thing
Mhm.
with the salience of the beauty of it all and the like the sensory, you know, whatever. It like
I
makes you want there to be something substance, you know,
see.
underneath it. And
I
there's
think
not.
they were doing the whimsy the more and more we talk about it, because I keep running back to like the genderless thing, because she wasn't giving the like woman character whimsy in the movie, right? There wasn't like this whimsical character. So now the scenery becomes its own character, which is why like, I mean, Brittany I felt like was almost saying when we were talking about our favorite character, she didn't have a favorite character. She said the scenery and the set was my favorite thing. So I feel like that played its own character because we didn't have this whimsical
Yes.
woman on scene. So otherwise, it would just be a kind of a bland movie. She's not an exciting character. Like I said, she doesn't really go through much. She doesn't have any struggle. She doesn't really go through much development. She doesn't really have any like anything that's like stopping her from doing anything. She doesn't have growth. She is kind of like a boring, logical computer person.
She gains superpowers.
Hmm.
She gains like super intelligence. She gains the power to be a super surgeon. She
Is it
gains
super
like
intelligence? Her dad did it. Like this is clearly a world where like it can happen. The person who raised her, she was raised in a surgical room essentially. Like she got to
Yeah,
play
I
with
think
dead
super
cadavers.
intelligence. There's other characters that aren't able to be that smart. So I think
I
she's
didn't
clearly
get
set
super
apart.
intelligence. I just got like
I heard Smith say this on your stream, Smith. You said that it kind of reminded you of anime where the people just get like super like overpowered too quickly for no fucking reason, right? Was that the point you were making, or did I just pretend you said that.
Yeah. Well, no.
Yeah.
The point I was making specifically was the reason that I have trouble watching anime is because I feel like it boils down to wish fulfillment.
Sure.
Like they'll put you up against all these horrible odds, and then you just through the power of perseverance and friendship and like like whatever the power of anime and God, you just become like you triumph, and I honestly feel like that. A lot of people that are really addicted to anime don't make major changes in their life because of that. Like they use anime to feel like everything will be better, but you have to do the Bella thing. You have to go through struggle. But then the struggle is constantly undermined for me. Like they don't show the true horror of the struggle when she goes through it. And she's
Yeah.
always got that baseline that she can return to.
Do you think that she would identify as a traumatized person? And then Arena, I see your hand up.
Yeah, and I like the trauma is just so buried and convoluted, but like her torturing the guy at the end. It makes sense if she's detached in that way. I think that's a really interesting way to look at it. But also, it's like if you do narrate it or try to like put it within a story where it is her getting back at the trauma, it's just so disconnected from her because she's like a child, and yeah, it's like she's having things that should be traumatic happen to her,
Mhm.
and then like overcoming the like not being traumatized by it all the time.
Which goes back to the sociopath idea, right? Because I did romanticize this like sociopathic version of myself when I was like 15, and I was like, I don't have feelings. Screams the borderline girl. Okay, it's like I don't have feelings because like but then the reality is like I have so many feelings. It's going to turn into a personality disorder. So like what is this relationship with the self that's really happening to Bella? But Arena, go ahead before you forget your thought. I want you to forget it.
So two things. One, Brittany, you brought this up earlier about the sexuality of the movie, and I do find it interesting that a lot of movies like this, the sexuality becomes a big theme because it seems like one of the primary ways that maybe men and women relate to each other, or it seems like maybe that's what's communicated. Because Bella's sexuality, budding sexuality, and then her sexuality in relation to men was like a big theme. And I'm trying to and the other part of it, which Ali mentions, is that Bella doesn't follow or fall in line with or give a shit about gender roles. So then the one thing that makes her different from a man, she just sees herself as a human being, right? But the one thing that is physically different is that she is female. And so she is relating to men on that basis. And then also I do find it interesting though that the movies where we explore female characters are often explored through the lens of sexuality, and I also would love to see media that maybe steer away from that, just to see interesting stories like that. And then the other point about the trauma, I think that as the things are happening to her, because she is so shielded from expectations, from cultural expectations, that those things aren't necessarily traumatizing to her at the time, but as she integrates into society, as we can assume she will, I feel like that might change her perspective on it, or she might even go around where she might feel the trauma for a period of time, and then as she heals, go back to that perspective that she had initially of like, it wasn't about me, this is it is what it is. Human's gonna human, that kind of thing. Anyway, sorry, that was all.
Ali and then Smith.
So for Bella and the sexuality of the movie and the scenes of stuff. So she didn't have a culture that she was raised in, which is why the norms I think didn't necessarily exist for her. She was just raised in this house that was like provided, like the things were provided for her. So even when like I noticed in this movie, the sex scenes didn't bother me. I wasn't like annoyed with them. I didn't think they were cringe as much as like most other movies, because I felt like they weren't doing the whole sensual thing where she's like, oh my God, gasping. But they also weren't doing the like aggressive thing, the overt thing. It seemed like it was just sex. And even when they had like the focus in on her face, it seemed like she was more like in like wonder versus like, oh my God, I'm loving this. It was more like, what's going on? Like she was like thinking about it. And that's more what I got, which I kind of appreciated in the movie, that the sex scenes weren't like trying to make me feel like they weren't trying to make me horny. They weren't
sure.
trying to make me feel aggressive. They weren't like it was just like sex, and that's what I think they were trying to do that because for her, once again, I don't think she sees sex as this like magical, whimsical thing. It's just I found my happiness. This thing makes me happiness. That was literally what it was for her.
I could see that. Smith?
I feel like kind of what Manushka was kind of getting at, and kind of like being upset with seeing like the women being portrayed in this kind of sexual journey way. I feel like a lot of these movies and stories about women, and I feel like this is definitely falls prey to this happening a lot, is she breaks away from gender norms, but also she benefits from all the gender norms for women at the same time. So she gets all the benefit from that, but also destroys it, and so it's like she's getting her cake and eating it too. And so that's I think that's why it makes me feel so resentful of women when I watch it. Yeah,
Well,
and
they
it
tried
makes
to
me
give her
so
the
sick. It
negatives.
makes me so sick at myself. I don't
They
want
tried to give her the
movies-
negatives. They just didn't apply to her because she didn't care, which is I think like the illustration of like the like if the norms don't apply to you, you can still have like the good life. Because the whole thing was like these guys essentially wanted to control her. Her dad didn't want her to go out because he didn't want her to get found out as like this person, whatever. He had his own like secret wishes, and then Max didn't want her to leave because he's like, well, no, you don't understand enough to leave. This is gonna be harmful. Duncan just didn't want her to be with anyone else, while he just it was this whole thing. So she did get like the negatives of like being a woman in a patriarchal society. It's just once again I didn't process for her, so it was just like
She broke from it. Yeah. But
So
she got
I
all the
do-
positives on all of those occasions. She got all the.
But what
positives
were the
from it.
positives?
Well, yeah, I was saying the
Because-
positives are like she can use her body for money, which she realized like the thing that makes her happy is now the thing that like not makes her sad, but it doesn't. She feels nothing was like the big thing when she was having the conversation with the house maiden. She's like, I just feel nothing. She didn't say she feels sad. She didn't say she feels like hurt. I feel nothing, which was like a
Yep.
big thing for her.
Do men feel positive knowing they can use their bodies for money? Do men feel that reaction like when they think about going
No.
into construction or doing jobs that women can't do because their bodies are built better and different and stronger?
I guess like maybe a little bit, but not really. A little
Why
bit.
not? Because I think women don't
But
think
it's
of
not
it
easy.
like women don't think of it as a perk that we can use our bodies to make money.
That's
'Cause,
not
like,
what that was not
I
my
think-
point. That was the
Well, I'm
that's
just
the
trying to think
least
of the narrative of difference between the
coherent.
genders. Like, don't both genders just think like, yeah, it's not the best, but hey, at least I can make money. Like, it's gonna
I
do
think for-
something. Yeah.
I think for men, a lot of men like when they see sex work as easy, right? Especially if it's like online or just pictures or whatever
Sure.
it may be,
or
and
just
we're, like-
getting married to
yeah,
a
we're
rich
like,
man.
Yeah, you're
Getting
using
married
your
to a rich
body,
man
but
is
it's not as
sex work.
exhaustive. Yeah, it's not as exhaustive. It's not
But
as
they
annoying.
could
like,
do that because the women who are in those relationships feel the same way that a man would feel if he was in a relationship he didn't want to be in, but it was worth it for the money. It would feel the same
Yeah,
way.
so
Well, but
To
you can
Whitney's-
just be fucking like Lav, and you can be like a brilliant sex worker who's like so good at it, and then marry a rich man who you actually like, and you find like you get the best. You
I
get
think
to
that
you
that is very disingenuous to describe Lav as a brilliant sex worker,
Yeah.
but
Okay,
that's
but-
just,
She is.
you know.
I think she absolutely
But yeah,
is.
so I think-
We're
We're
I-
giving
I
her
don't
way
think-
more grace than she deserves in that regard.
If she's brilliant at
Ah.
anything, it's definitely that.
No, she gave herself a lot of trauma and is like completely conflicted about the sex work that she did.
Sure.
She's
I would
not
say
brilliant
Lav.
about it.
I would say Lav falls into that trope of assuming it's easy because someone like Lav can make lots of money. Which
Exactly.
is personally, I don't know anyone who would love Lav's life. So no offense, but like she's kind
I
of
get
like
it.
It's not brilliant. It's convenience and opportunity.
Yeah, and
But-
it is, but so like
To
I
your
think a lot of men
point, go
do
ahead and
see it like
continue.
that. And then the argument would be like, well, then men could go do sex work.
Sure.
Yeah, the only like the problem with that is like most men like would be like fall into like the straight category, right?
Sure,
and they
sure,
don't
sure.
want the attention or the validation or the money
You have
or the sex
to
work with
cater
the
to
men.
men to
So
make
it's like
money in
we
sex work.
can't just go
Yeah.
do sex work, and so like I think that's why we have like a lot of men will have this opinion of like, oh well, I mean like you're just fucking for $1,000 or $100 or whatever it may be, and then they're like, ah, that's just easy. It's 10 minutes of work. What did you
sure.
do? Versus
But
And
that's
like,
why, like,
there's
if
something
women
else.
can do sex work, and so like she was saying, like it sucks that I can't choose, and it sucks that like they like that I don't like it. If women can do sex work and they do get all the benefits of being able to choose, and like they it's always the way that they want, and it's always whatever for their pleasure, then that's a world where it's like now women are like, and so a lot of my
Enjoying
resentment
the work.
a lot of my resentment is so stupid because what I really want is to be treated like a woman. I don't want women to be treated worse. I want to be treated better. But when I see women get like they want to have their cake and eat it too, and they want to have this elevated thing, but they're not bringing men up with them, and it's like, oh no, fuck you, no, I want to
Smith,
crush
I
it.
think you have this like core disconnect where you're only seeing the perceived positives of being a woman in society, and you're not
No.
really understanding or digesting.
Have
the
you ever
negatives.
thought about
you're,
getting
you're
a
not
top?
understanding me whatsoever. I'm saying that I see all the negatives like very much, and I'm saying that if those negatives don't exist and you have a fairy tale story, which is the fairy tale that women are sold, like in this where the negatives are some things that you can overcome, and you can get all the positives, and then just we can fight all the negatives and keep all the positives. That's not reality. I know that all the negatives exist, but I'm saying that the feminist movement is to keep all the positives and remove all of the negatives, and that's just, it makes me feel like shit.
Can
That's
you
so
can you
interesting.
expand on
That's-
what you view the positives as? Because like for example, the marrying the rich man, you know that you're both taking advantage of each other. The rich man is marrying you because you're young and hot, and that's it, and you're marrying the rich man for money. So it's not like you're getting like a deep emotional fulfillment, right? So what positives kind of like are
I mean,
you?
that's just an
don't have to
assumption. I
work.
feel like the emotional, yeah, you don't have to work, but also the emotional fulfillment
That is
is
work.
like,
That's the
it-
job.
like,
That's
it-
the
it-
work
it-
part.
You're
could-
Why do you
providing
keep saying
emotional
that?
No,
labor.
I- but
yeah.
so, like,
It's,
I
it's
relate
you
to
don't
that,
have to
though.
work. That's
I
the
would
idea.
love-
Is that
I would
the
love my
housewife
job-
isn't working.
I would
right?
love
The
my
idea-
job just to be being myself and to be human. It does suck that me as a person and it becomes a commodity that is exploited by other people, and that's the negative. But if you take that away, and it's just I exist here, and you cannot exploit me, but you also need to work really hard to get what I'm giving you, and I'm not going to let you exploit me. It's all under my control, and you're
It's not
going to
the
give me
case
all this
ever.
money. I'm going to get a rich husband, all this relationship. If you take away all the negatives and you keep all the positives, that is what makes me feel resentful. Not the like it, so that the stories like this make me feel
Getting
resentful.
rid of all the
actual-
negatives isn't reality, though. I'm not sure
I
why you're
know.
feeling
That's what he's
resentful
saying.
about
No, no,
something
but-
that's not.
But that's what
I-
he's saying. That's what he's
Mhm,
saying, though.
mhm,
And
mhm.
I actually
Right.
relate to that because when I deal with my resentment towards men, it's very much the same thing. I want all the privileges that they seem to have,
Yeah.
and that's what's salient to me. And I see that, and that's what draws me in and makes me feel that way. Even though I know there's this other part of me that knows it's not reality. All humans suffer,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. And so that's
Ooh,
why I want to see
mhm.
stories that bring us together, because really we're both having the same experience about like each other and stuff, and so it's
this
tragic. that-
movie
Well-
was very dividing. I feel, yeah.
But
I felt
Ali,
like
if-
an
if-
embodied sense of it.
If people looked at the movie like he did, like genderless, I think it would have been a better experience for a lot of people. I really do think gender binaries are kind of ruining civilization, but only because people take them so seriously. But like, you do you. But I only know this because like even in my own relationship, like gender doesn't play a role in our marriage. Like what we do isn't based off gender; it's based off making the team win. But we also think in that mindset, which is like this is a team, and the team has to win before we win as people.
It's not based off gender roles.
right?
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like not gender expectation. I don't have an expectation of him because he's a
That's
man.
different than it not
you
being
know.
based off gender.
Well,
yeah,
but
I see
is
what
it
you're
though?
saying.
Because
Because the
like
movie itself was
I don't
the gender
gender
roles were
roles
around
as any
her.
gender.
She just didn't care about them.
It was all
Right.
the men. That's why I
She
said
was
the movie,
genderless.
like for me, was about more about the men versus her. That I get it was about her, like in reaction, but like that's why the male characters were the ones who had like depth, the ones that had like excitement, the ones that had struggle, things that they were going through. It was like she was the main character, but like only like because the camera was on her.
Okay. A lot of people, this is where people were the most in disagreement. Was this movie about her or was it about the men? I felt like it was a man story written by a man, for a man, directed by a man. This was a man's movie, in my opinion.
So
It's not-
It wasn't
this
for
is
me.
like
No, I
how
hated
a
it.
man. It's
Right,
like
I
this
watched
is
it-
how a certain type of man thinks that a woman would want the story to go. That's
Sure.
kind of how.
Yeah.
it felt.
This I felt like this movie was like a little message for guys. Hey, I know you guys keep thinking you want to act like these archetypes and that these archetypes work. It doesn't work, right?
Well, it
Like,
does
you
work
can't
if you're the
you can't be
simp guy.
the simp and the cuck because then she sees you like a brother, right? You can't get friend zoned. You can't sit here and try to be the bad boy. Blah blah.
You
blah,
just
blah,
have
because
to
you're
be a
not gonna be able to
lesbian black
maintain
woman, and
that.
then everything will work out for you.
I mean, well, I
Dude,
don't. Once
Shout
again,
out to
I think you're
Kidology.
focusing on like the lesbianism. I think you're focusing on the lesbianism, but I don't think that mattered to her. I think once again she didn't care. I think that it was just contentness. I think this was just all about like the different archetypes. Even like Mrs. Prim, like the original maid, to me was like the repressed older woman, right? And then you get the other half, which is like Martha, which is the feminist, like I don't care what's between my legs, I'm more concerned with what's between my head, right? And so like that's what I think is like this whole movie was almost like describing these archetypes in this like story while using like a no one character. This only happens to women, it seems like, but in her mind she's not once again, I don't really think she's a woman because I don't know what the sex of the baby would have been. I don't know if they
That's so
detailed
funny.
it or they mentioned it.
Would
I
it
don't really.
matter
I think it
if the
doesn't matter.
baby's in a female body and experiencing life?
I feel like if you took a male baby brain, you put it in a female body, it's just a woman now.
I mean, the
That's what I
whole
think.
thing is problematic
Well-
because it goes back to the Cartesian divide of brain and body, really, which is problematic in my opinion.
I just kind of think
I don't
that-
think you
that-
can separate them.
I feel like they were hitting that with like the sociopath, like autism situation, whereas like I think especially in like today's world, we probably do really relate like sociopathy and like autism to like male, and we usually relate like BPD and like eccentricism to like women, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it kept playing with me, like what is going on with her? Does she see herself as a woman? Is she a woman? Is she how does she see her, like, because she kept doing the thing where she talked about logic when she was like kind of getting, she said, I understand that my logic isn't always correct, but the place I'm coming from is a place of like correctness, like I want like the best thing. So everything for her was like logical, right? And so like once again we kind of do, especially nowadays, we're like, well, logic is man brain, blah 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 blah. So I think that's why they were hitting on like those types of things so hard, and then they were hitting on her like neutrality.
Well, yeah, it
I
was
She
the
doesn't-
typical
you know,
girl
she didn't care
power.
for
It was
her
the girl
makeup.
power, girl
She didn't
boss
care for
thing.
makeup. She didn't care for pretty things. She didn't care for any, like when she first got dressed to leave Duncan, she literally was wearing like a big poofy shirt and like I think like shorts and like the weird
So she
black.
was
Like
wearing
she
through the
didn't
whole
care for any
movie.
of the traditional like female woman like.
Her
things. So I don't
sleeves
think she-
actually, her sleeves got bigger as she gained more
Yeah.
knowledge.
That's funny. I know one thing that made me uncomfortable. Like she left Duncan like after like having sex, and like she wasn't even like wearing like panties, but she was like wearing like these bloomers, and like all the other women are like fully adorned, and she goes out and like people are serving her food, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like this doesn't make sense. Like it was one of those things that didn't make sense because like there's all this like stuff about decency
Like
before that,
society.
and then all of a sudden like she's walking around in like this mini skirt and like no like you see all these other women all over the place. They're not wearing. I was like, why are they not treating her weird and different? Why are we not seeing that? Because that's clearly would be happening right now. But
I can't seem to find the gender of the baby anywhere. It's not in blogs. I'm
I
trying
don't
to
think
read
they
through
brought it
things.
up.
Yeah, I don't think it gets brought up, which
It's
is
never.
But I love that
It
you
would be
caught
so-
that.
it would be so cool if it was a boy's brain. Like that would be like I love
I
that.
think it was. And I think it was because she also called the baby like the original idea was that Victoria, which was like the body, hated the baby, and that's why like we also don't know why she killed herself, right?
What does it
All we
even
know is
mean
that
to have a
Alfie
boy's
said
brain?
Alfie said that she thought that she killed herself because of the baby. The baby was a monster, and he wanted to put another baby in her. So like that might have been true. Maybe like Victoria realized like she's having this baby. She has a change of heart. She doesn't want to live this cruel life. She doesn't want to give this cruel man a baby. Goes to kill herself. But then when it comes back, Alfie says, "I'm gonna cut your clit off, and I'm gonna put another baby in you, and we're just gonna keep going." Even though originally Victoria had hated the baby, and that's why she killed herself. So it's like more cruelty, kind of showing the difference between like maybe what Victoria was, and maybe like detailing why she killed herself, because we never got that answer.
I
Well, I
thought
feel like
Bella
in the
thought
movie,
she killed herself because of the surgery, because he was gonna
yeah,
cut her
Bella
clit off.
Bella says it herself. I now know why she killed herself.
I thought that was just a reference into the fact that he was such a cruel
surgery?
and
Wait,
like
what surgery?
terrible individual that she
It's
was
just-
like, "Oh, I can see why Victoria
Karina,
wouldn't
what
want to be
surgery?
married to you. You're
It's clear.
horrible."
It's clear that her life there would suck. No.
But she enjoyed it as Victoria originally. We don't know. All we know is what Alfie says, which is a like manipulative, controlling person. He goes, "Well, she hated the baby, and the baby was a monster,
Mm.
right?" So maybe like that could not be true, right? We just don't know.
Maybe she was right the whole time, and the baby actually was a monster. And the saving of the baby was like a tragic thing because now this monster's unleashed on society, and they're like the Victoria was right the whole time. This needed to end. You know?
So, well, to your point, Smith, about the like sociopathy, if the baby was of two cruel people, right? It does make sense that like the infant brain is like stabbing in the eyes or like kills the frog, right? That's like the nature of it, right? The nature of it is like you come from two cruel people. She grows up to not be cruel and learns empathy through seeing like the babies dying and wanting to help them. But like originally she might have been cruel. I just don't know if she was a sociopath.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was weird because it goes again. I'm a very much a cringe, like blank slateist. So I don't believe that if your
This was
parents
very
are.
blank slatey.
But no, I felt like it wasn't because I feel like the cruelty of her reflected the cruelty of the parents, and I felt like it was like, oh, so are they saying that that was inherited genetically? So
But it was so short lived. Right? 'Cause after the frog, what was like where like the cruelty like it didn't grow, it kind of subsided.
Duncan the whole time, like she just like was completely like disregarding like his well-being the whole time, and
Yeah, she grew to
completely.
dislike him. And then when she met Henry, Henry was trying to explain to her, like, she's like, yeah, I feel this cruelty towards Duncan. And he goes, well, no, that makes sense. That's good. You should have this ability. And then she goes, no, this is something I need to fix in myself. I don't want to have this cruelty. This is an issue in humanity. I need to fix this issue I have within myself. So the cruelty, like, she feels these emotions. She doesn't want to have them. So like for me, the cruelty like started dying out after the frog. And that's why I did like she's a different person. And then that's the blank slate of it.
Yeah, I think that the blank slate would be the opposite. She would start out like pure and or like it's just like like she's different from the other girl. And the other girl is actually treated with more cruelty from Godwin. So it like makes sense that child would actually be more cruel. But if it was a blank slateist, then they would be very similar, and the other one would be more cruel.
Wasn't she painting the room with blood? Or was that just red paint? The second.
Doesn't matter. I don't think that's a cruel thing to do.
Well, it depends where the blood came from.
I guess.
I was gonna say, it's interesting that, I mean, at least for me, when I watched the movie, I did think of Bella as more autistically coded than sociopathy coded. But I do also think a lot of autistic people talk about how they experience people thinking of them as sociopathic or narcissistic when in fact they are displaying autistic traits. So that's just an
especially in
interesting.
women,
That's a good point.
especially in women, because there's an expectation of behavior if you're gonna go gendered that women have like this deep compassion and this deep. By the way,
You're
like
cold.
say that again.
You're cold if you're like an autistic girl. You're seen as cold and like you don't have these
Totally.
emotions, and so it's like you're something's off.
If
Versus,
you're
like,
on a certain place in the spectrum, you could also
Yes.
be highly sensitive, which is usually
I love autistic women.
hyper empathy.
Yeah.
No woman,
exactly.
no non-autistic woman could ever like date me. I need.
You hear
Autism
that,
and
girls?
BPD all together.
That's
I think that Godwin was BPD, male-coded BPD.
Oh.
No, Godwin.
He might have
I
been the
thought-
sociopath too, though. Like all his experiments.
No, he had
Yeah.
like he was incredibly emotionally like compromised and like but like he's his solution to that it's called covert BPD, and it's the same underlying condition, but instead in a male like life, usually like it'll often present as being very controlling and like to make sure that like everything stays the way it needs to be and to protect everybody from bad things happening all times.
You know that's a
He
thing
got
Sam made up.
he
I
got
know
over
that's
that
something
relatively
Sam. I mean, I
quickly.
know.
I thought it was Duncan with the BPD code.
A lot of
Oh,
He has
really?
he has
Also-
normal BPD. He has woman BPD.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Neurodivergent is a pop psych word too. So
Because Godwin
True.
got over the control relatively quickly. If you, because I don't know how long the storyline was over, but it felt like it was over like maybe a month.
Oh, I don't know actually. Do we know how long? Because wasn't there seasons? Didn't they
A
just display
month?
seasons? Was
No,
it a
well,
year?
it was a year.
they were-
No, I thought it
We
was
could
like
measure-
years.
measure her
Years,
hair.
right?
Measure her hair. Her hair
Oh,
Years? How would you get
Years.
years?
I'm just
It
a
was
It was
past
a
sex
few.
for
It was,
a long
he was
time.
monitoring her for a few days. They were on the cruise, and then they
Yeah.
were.
No,
in
he was
Paris, like,
monitoring her for like
maybe
a
a few
year.
months.
But she did also go to school and then like eventually graduated and stuff.
The way that the
By the
movie
end,
made
at
it
least.
seem, the way that I
Oh.
read it, it was like years.
Well, I don't know, but
Okay.
I guess I think Brittany's looking it up.
I am.
But by the time like she was able to speak in sentences, which might have been weeks, I'm not sure. Godwin kind of let go of that control. So like initially it was like, I don't want you to go fucking anywhere, and then he writes up this legal document so that she can marry Max, and then directly after that is like, well, no, I'm going out on my own. He goes, we have to let her do what she has to do, I guess. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know if he was like really controlling initially, but I think once
God
again it
gives
was
us
because
free
she was
will.
infantile.
Yeah,
Sorry?
that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is he does grant her free will,
God,
and
Yeah.
God gives us free will. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
And she was
remember like
infantile
he was
beforehand. I think that plays a big deal because he says it like he wanted to fuck. He can't because he's a eunuch, right? And then like so it turned to paternal love. And so I think that like for him, her being like this infant really did play a big role for him. And then when he sees that she's not so much an infant, he goes, okay, I guess like you have to. So he is like a good dad, I guess, to an
Well,
you know, as far as the movie
he
goes.
was he was very, very controlling in some ways, but
I don't know
also
if
in
there's
other
much
ways he was
goodness
very
in the movie.
non-controlling. Like he was like way too boundaryless and permissive of her, like just like breaking shit and like just pissing all over the place and like
He wasn't an
like
authority figure. She had no
yeah
authority the whole time.
Okay, it's
yeah.
not. Well, hold on. The internet's not giving me an exact timeline, though the hair is supposed to represent the time that goes by. But she develops from 2 years old to 20 in the body of a 30-year-old. When she commits suicide, she's 30, but she ages till about 20 in the film.
I
So
just don't know how
Okay.
I just
fast
don't
the
know
aging
how.
is.
Yeah, I don't know how fast it's supposed to be represented through her hair, but I
So
don't know how to do
she's
that math.
supposed to be 16 when Duncan whisks her away. So that's like
16 mentally,
16. Yeah.
but like was she like
Mentally.
31, right? Like
That makes
like
perfect
physically.
sense. That makes perfect sense in the whole feminist thing that she's 16 mentally when because that's like the whole like every red
But she's
pillar's
18.
wet dream is to marry a 16-year-old. So
Mhm.
yeah.
That's the perfect age, I hear.
Yeah.
And then she's probably like 18 around the Paris like era. That would probably make
That
sense
would
with
make
like
more
her
sense.
going to school and then finishing off at 20, like the
Yeah,
whole like
that makes
feminist agenda
sense.
pushes
Okay,
in
yeah.
at college, right?
And even 20 is
Yeah.
still so young. Like realistically, that's still
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
young of a person. Like
Mhm.
20, which is kind of funny. So, okay, now we're at this point where I feel like we've talked a lot about everything. Is there anything that stood out to you that you really wanted to discuss today? Anything that was like, okay, I want to talk. I told myself not to come in here being a Debbie Downer because I thought I liked the film the least out of everybody, but it sounds like we all had a pretty even reaction to it actually. So I feel pretty good about that. But did anyone have anything that like stood
Well-
out to them they really wanted to explore?
I liked the movie in like the moviness of it, but like
Mm.
at the end ending just undermined everything to me and I was just I want it the movie really let me down because I wanted a lot more from it, but like a couple things it did really well. It reminded me of the Barbie movie because the Barbie movie was supposed to be some feminist movie, but I feel like it totally let me down. And I feel like the Barbie movie was broken because of like corporate meddling and stuff, and like the Barbie brand and stuff, and so it really doesn't make any fucking sense. But this movie let me down. But I feel like the reason it doesn't make any sense is just to be quirky. So
I think this movie is a movie you have to watch twice. I think the first time, like to Maiden's point, you do maybe lose yourself in the whimsy, and you kind of take it as a very surface level, like whatever. But then the second time when you're watching it and like, you know, you're not as taken away. I think you end up digging a little bit deeper, and you end up like, I mean, we had a nice little couple-hour discussion about it, right? I don't think it's a surface level as like, oh, people. I think it really is detailing specific types of relationships and like. I think there is a pointed focus. I think the director was bullshitting when he said, "Nah, it's just a movie."
yeah.
I think it's honestly the perfect myth to represent, you know, the times. It's a perfect representation of the meaning crisis. It's a perfect representation of like lack of values and love. It matches our society, our times, I think.
Yeah.
Arena?
I was going to say, what's interesting, and I am now just starting to think about it, is I related so much to Bella throughout the movie. But then when Maiden pointed, and then I think you, Brittany, also, how this movie felt very like it was created by a man. And it made me think of that Margaret Atwood quote. The one that says, it's pretty long, but in the end, you are a woman with a man inside watching a woman. You are your own voyeur. And basically talking about how women live their lives through the lens of the male fantasies that they are socially taught. And so that made me think about that too, because when I watched this movie, I was like, oh, there's a certain type of man I don't want watching this movie. I don't trust him around the sex scenes. I don't like what a certain type of man can take away from this movie. even though I very much related and enjoyed.
What is
the
it? Like, I'm sorry, like, but like, I'm really like, what do you think they would take away? I'm really interested.
I would think that they would want to objectify and sexualize Bella in the same way that the men of the movie did, if that makes
Be
Oh.
sense.
excited by
And
it
that
versus,
would
like,
make me,
creeped out.
yeah.
Because the first time I
Oh.
watched it, I was like, oh, they're really going in for this baby thing. And the second time I watched it, I was like, okay, I get they're going for infantilized woman. Like,
I want them to take the old woman's brain and then put that in Bella's brain and then marry that woman.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, I would say for a lot of people, it's felt like a litmus test of like, where are you? How do you feel about it? What was the thing that stood out to you? Like, there's a type of guy in my head that exists. Like, when this category of man talks about women, it always feels like he's guising it in empowerment, but it's always like, and her tits bounce so gracefully. And I'm like, oh, why do you gotta say it like that, bro? Why are you gonna say it like that? So that was the type of trope that I was like the most annoyed by, and it almost felt like this movie was being made slightly by that kind of a person, where I was like, are you just like liking that because like I get it, like it's aesthetically pleasing, but also that wasn't what if I watched it alone, like in isolation, I think I would have had a different experience. I watched it with my Discord, like we watched it as a community, so when we were watching it, we were having like a group thought around it. But I think if I watched it in isolation, I maybe would have felt more attached to it in a less judged way, maybe, or less like cynical way.
Less tit bouncing.
It's almost like dishonest lust.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of actually what I really liked about the movie, actually. Ironically, because I felt like it had a little. I felt like I did see that a lot, but I thought it came across to me as being complicated. So it's like, yeah, this is sexy, but also it's weird, and like I felt that a lot. Like the like where she takes the cucumber, like, and it focuses like on her face and like her pleasure and shit, and it's like there's a lot of feelings you can get from that, and one of them is horny, but like that's not the only one.
That's what I was saying earlier. I don't think they were going for that. I don't think they were trying to inspire like horniness. Once again, I think like for all the sex scenes, she isn't like a mess. Like she isn't like, oh my god, this is fucking amazing. This is the greatest sex ever. She's just like, sex feels good, and in her mind, it's like she's processing. Like, oh, this feels good. I enjoy this. This is awesome. It's like she's thinking about
She's
the
the
feelings
subject.
of the sex.
She's
right?
the subject.
Versus which I was saying with other movies, like you either feel like the sex scenes are supposed to be like egregious and overt, or like super sensual, and this didn't feel like it was doing either of that. I think they'd hit neutrality with her a lot, like very heavily. She was very neutral to the sex.
They did hit the neutrality, and at the same time, like at least I couldn't help it. Maybe this makes me know better than a man, but Emma Stone is very beautiful, and she was very beautifully styled. Now, that's, I think, another aspect of the movie. It's like the objectification of the beautiful woman, right? And then there's a beautiful woman playing her on screen. There's like several layers. Can you imagine this movie with like a woman that's not attractive, like Emma Stone, or conventionally attractive?
I think they downplayed her attractiveness. That's what I thought. I thought they were downplaying her attractiveness.
Oh, I found her so. Maybe this is like the female gaze.
No, you're being too gay. Yeah, I think you're being
beautiful.
too much of a lesbian right now, because I do think they downplayed her beauty.
Like Emma Stone's gorgeous. I think they didn't accentuate any of her features. The whole thing with Emma Stone's like her red hair, the colored eyes. They really muted all of that with like the black.
She looked sweaty the whole time.
Yeah, she looked like she was,
hold on, no, she looked hot as fuck. Okay,
no, she was hot as fuck. You're all deviants. You're all deviants.
She looked really hot. No.
In the same way that she doesn't like perform sexuality in the sex scene, she's also not performing female beauty in the way that we're used to seeing it.
Yeah, no, I think Ali's right, because when you think of a traditional sex scene in a movie, it's like, first, it comes out of nowhere, and second of all, it's always like hot and steamy, and the angles are specific. It's like completely different vibes. But
and there's so much moaning and
yes.
This was like very like utilitarian, like
you know what's funny?
You can lick me if you want. You know what I mean? Like go ahead.
I don't love Emma Stone as a redhead. But like with the black hair, I thought like it popped, her eyes popped. I think it looked good with her skin tone. Like I feel like this is the most beautiful I've seen her in a movie.
Okay,
I think if it was an ugly woman, the whole movie wouldn't make sense.
But who
Yeah,
would be
she
an
wouldn't
ugly
have,
woman?
like-
Like, who would that even be? Because I could see that movie being done, but it would be different slightly. The feeling would be different, but only if you're looking at it like a man. I kept looking at the movie like a man, and I think if I rewatched it and looked at it like a girl or a gender neutral, then I would have had a different experience, maybe, regardless of who the actress was. That's my theory. I could be wrong.
I think the experience of
plain in the
ugly
movie.
woman is very different from like when everybody talks about like when I talk about like all my resentment for women, it's not women, it's beautiful women. It's how beautiful women
Oh.
are treated. It's not all women, and I feel
You
like
don't
if
like
it
pretty
was an ugly
privilege?
woman-
Yeah,
Yeah,
I see. I
well-
see.
yeah.
Okay, that makes
And
sense.
I've had girlfriends that have like gone on and on and on about this, and I've gotten a lot of it. Like I really have internalized this like this feeling bad for women that are not like conventionally attractive, and
Mm.
how they're treated a lot more like I'm treated
Well,
than
it's people that aren't conventionally
Yeah,
attractive.
yeah.
Like pretty privilege exists for men too.
And they still would have.
Oh yeah,
sexualized
being a
her.
handsome man is probably like one of the best experiences you
It's like
could
the
have.
different
Right.
meme that goes around is like saying hello and it's an ugly guy. It's like, all right, cool, now let's improve it. And then it's just a better
Yeah.
looking guy and it's saying hello and it's
Oh, there's nothing like
yeah, I definitely could get away with that, but
yeah.
but that's different than people coming over to you to fawn over you and like give you shit. You know what I
It
mean?
happens
Like,
for guys.
It
dude.
does. Pretty privilege is literally statistical. You will literally have to serve less time for your crimes if you're a handsome
Mhm.
man or a handsome woman. Like it's just statistics. So that's you
It's
want
like
to
a-
humble yourself.
The
You're
handsome,
but
like
there's
super
always
hot
someone.
guys get approached. They get approached.
I get approached. I
No,
feel
no.
like I have to defend
no.
myself.
Getting
like,
approached
the
is
whole
not what
movie was-
attractiveness is about. If you don't get approached, you're either ugly or super beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're an extreme
It's more about, like,
9
how
or
people
10,
treat
people
you.
are not
Yeah.
approaching you.
Like,
They're
are you more likely to
intimidated
get
by
help at
you.
a store? Are you more likely to like? it's
people
these
willing to
little,
leave their
little
kids
things
with
that
you?
don't notice.
People are willing to leave their kids with you. Are you trusted? Or like, do people trust you? for
Right.
at a high rate. It's very interesting, actually. Nothing humbles you more than realizing, like, oh, damn, I don't think I have pretty privilege. Like, I don't think I have that to the same extent other people do.
There would still
Not-
have
not
been a
to the
niche
level
for her
that
in sex work,
others
though.
do.
Yeah.
And
What
I think
was
they
that,
were
Harmony?
hitting that with her that. Oh,
Oh, I said there still would have been a niche for her in sex work.
Oh
though.
yeah,
Sure,
for
sure,
sure.
Reminds me
There's-
of the strip club in my
She was
local
so
town at one
creative.
point had like 50 ugly girls or 50 pretty girls and one ugly one.
Mhm.
That's
Well, she had a
literally
bed
the deja
stare.
vu hashtag,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, okay, that's what it was.
corporate
Deja vu,
slogan.
yes.
It's thousands of beautiful women and
Yeah.
3 ugly
Three
ones.
ugly
They
ones.
have
Yeah.
that on all of their clubs, and the owner thinks
Exactly.
it's so hilarious. Like he fucking cracks himself up every time. He's like, "It's so funny. I love that. I put it everywhere. It's fun. People love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's like his proudest thing."
It's catchy.
I just realized where I know this was definitely written by a man with the whole sex work thing. She is like her attitude about the whole sex. She is so creative and like comes up with these complicated scenarios. I know like Madame Genevieve, this probably is like what you are like. Like I know that you're like a BDSM like sex worker type thing, so you probably are like this. But in my personal life, I'm always like way more creative. I come up with all these extravagant scenarios for like me and my partner all the time, and it's never a woman that does it. And so I feel like a man writing a woman doing that is like such a fantasy. Like she comes up with a scenario where this guy's crawling like a little beetle, and then she's like kicking him away tauntingly. Like the woman wouldn't come up with that. A guy would come up with that.
Bottoms maybe wouldn't come up with it, but like not always. Like tops do move the scene forward. So is
I
Emma a
don't know.
top? And
That's the specific trope of woman you have in your mind. Matt.
that's yeah.
Yeah.
No,
well,
it's my experience. It's not a trope.
Yeah.
It's
Bella
a
is a
trope of my
top.
life.
Is Bella a top or she switch? Is
100%.
she just a top? She is
No,
kind of.
she's a top.
She's
This-
she's toppy.
The scene
She's
when they were in
toppy,
bed.
yeah.
She's all about
scene-
power. Are you kidding?
the
She's
scene
all
when they
about
were in
power. That's
bed-
her thing.
Yeah, her and Duncan were in bed. They had just finished, and he said, "You've just been fucked thrice by like the best, by the best." And she goes, "All right, cool. I'm rested. Let's go for another." And he goes, "Oh well, men can't really just keep coming back for more." And she goes, "Is that a weakness in
Oh.
men?"
Like
You know? And then he's like taken aback. And then directly afterwards is when he starts kind of like pushing like the control on her. It's like, oh shit, he got taken off of this pedestal because he just got done gloating about how good of sex he was, but now he can't do another round. And so
she
boom, he
finds his
instantly
weakness
initiates-
or a
Yep.
weakness. Yeah.
And then he starts
thing-
to initiate the
thing that's-
control, which is that's when the dynamic changes for them, is that she starts getting irritated by him because now he's insecure.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that's
but I-
also
but
at
I
the
feel like-
point where when he says he can't go another round and he wants to take a nap, then she goes out to like explore on her own and find
Yeah.
her own
Top behavior.
pleasure.
I
Yeah.
found like was like very very selfish, but but the thing is, I felt like it was very endearing because at every step of the moment, like every time that happened, like he was like when she says, "Oh, when she asks him if that's a weakness of men," he's like, "Yeah," and he just like agrees, and then she's like, are you giving me the option that you're gonna either kill me or like make me marry you?" And he's like, "No." And like so every time like he's put into this situation to like be like a worse person, he steps back and every single time and
Well, he said he
yeah.
would kill her. He said, "I'm gonna kill you if you think you're gonna go back to Max." And she's like, "Oh, so you're telling me that you either want to marry me?" And he's just confused by that because he's like, "Well,
He
no,
says
but that is
no.
what
He
he
didn't
feels."
think about it in that black and white
Yeah.
of terms,
didn't
but
actually
she's
think
like
about it.
calling
That's how
him
he
out
feels
on it.
initially.
Yeah.
He was lashing out, so she was like, "Wait," and then now her logic brain is
He's
working.
just
She's like, "Wait,
BPD.
He's
He's just BPD.
Okay, not to get personal, but Smith, I feel like you need a Switch who wants to take care of you and treat you like a princess. Is that what you want? Like you want to be held and like taken care of and like cry in her arms?
Swept off his feet.
Yeah,
Okay, then date a Switch.
I
What are you
need- I
dating
need-
bottoms
Yeah.
for?
because they're all bottoms.
No, you need to date a
You
Switch.
should not be dating a
A
bottom. That's
Donnie
absurd.
mommy. A Donnie
Absolutely
mommy.
absurd. You need yourself
Or-
a Donnie
or
mommy.
date
And
a
I've
bottom.
known that since our very first conversation.
Wait. He could date a bottom who tops from the bottom. Which
Well,
is the
that's
top,
true,
you
but
know, it's
that's
a top,
not an
but
actual
yeah,
bottom.
yeah.
Yeah.
The-
God damn,
the-
I
the
keep
brat-
hitting my camera. This is so
The brat power struggle is entertaining for me. But
Yeah, well, there you go. I think like that's what the problem. Well, I think that's why I want to recontextualize the film now and watch it a second time and try to see it more or less away from the original frustrations that I had with it, because I actually think I could have a lot more fun with it this time, especially after this conversation where I'm like, oh, I was so ooh, I had so many like negative feelings. I was like, I'm so sick of this story. I'm so sick of this story. But now I'm like, wait a second. This
I
could be a
loved
lot
this
better.
story. This was so good. I
Yeah.
thought this was such a good movie.
Yeah.
There's like nothing I want to complain, but like honestly, thoroughly watching it the second time, I wasn't bored. I was really like still interested and hooked. It was like good.
Okay, I gotta
choice.
watch it a second time. Now, here's the question then.
Mhm.
If that is true, is it true for anyone else? Would we change anything about it?
Ending.
The ending.
The
okay,
ending-
what is with the ending that you guys don't like? Because it made
More
perfect
Max.
sense to me.
That's what I'd change.
It
Give me
does
more
make
Max.
perfect
Oh.
sense, but I don't. That's just. It's so against my values. That's what I don't like about it. It's like
what
yes,
do you mean by that?
it's all about power and revenge and like her. It's like self indulgement. It's not about like connection. It's not about love. It's
I
not
just
about
wanted to
overcoming
see
your,
her
your
find-
humanity.
Shallow?
It's not about her overcoming her humanity.
Well, yeah, she's a shallow person, but then she never had humanity to like overcome everything she said. She said it. She's like everything. Like when she was describing her logic, she's like, I get that the logic isn't always there, but I'm always coming from a good place, which is why they hit hard on like the empathy scene. So by the end of it, I didn't see it
A
as
good
like
place?
power.
No,
or
she's
some-
coming from a neutral place. I thought that's what you said.
What do you mean? I'm sorry. And what?
You said I'm always coming from a good place, but I thought you said she's neutral. There's no value.
She's a like she's like displaying neutrality, but in the empathy
Mm-hmm.
scene when she was like talking about like her logic and when they were in Paris, right? And she was explaining the like she hoarded herself out. She's like, I get that my logic isn't always there, but I'm coming from like a good or correct like place. So by the end of it, I don't see where you're talking about like power or self-indulgence. I don't see any of that. I just see contentment as in like once again, she has the person that she gets her like sexual enjoyment from and like connection. She has like a brother figure. She has essentially like a child, right? And then like the abuser is gone.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's like I see a lot of content.
Yeah, her life, and she is like the point of power in her life, and she dictates everything in her little bubble in her life. There's no room for outside anything. She's completely
she's
in
control.
charge. Yeah.
yeah, and it's kind of sad.
It's
sad.
not. It's
Should-
sad.
should-
It's sad.
that-
It's
that wasn't-
lonely. It's bereft, in my opinion.
That wasn't my
not-
But
that
the
was that
alternative is what?
mine's
The alternative
so
would be to
my
give control to someone else, right?
my problem was a little bit probably the same thing, but from a different perspective. I could really relate to her as far as her constantly choosing a path of suffering and a path of like I literally could have been a web developer and I just chose not to, so I could be fucking talking to you guys doing this. What the fuck? And it's just I'm trying to find fulfillment and I could relate to her in how she is making her choices. And the thing about making choices like that is they don't always come out like all rosy.
Mm.
And for the ending to just be like a Hollywood everything's perfect ending, I was just like, no, like if you're gonna live like that, it won't be perfect. It won't. It will suck. It will be painful.
It wasn't supposed to be perfect.
Yes, that's why it felt self-indulgent to me.
Wait, I think you
Because
guys
it's
are
like
both. I think you guys are
everything you
both jealous
do.
of her. So like Maiden and Smith. I think
What?
Smith, to your point, like to Smith and Maiden.
Wait,
So like Maiden, you
you're
think-
saying because we didn't like the ending, we're
Yes.
jealous.
Well,
Yes,
I
I think you're
think-
jealous of. Wait.
Okay.
I can.
go,
At
go,
least
Ali,
you can
go,
admit
go,
that.
Like-
Only go.
So Maiden and Smith, you guys both have like kind of displayed like in this conversation, like Maiden, you've said you were kind of jealous of like the privileges like of men, and then Smith was like saying like he wants to be taken care of, so on and so forth. She ends up assuming the male role by the end of it. That's why like you're saying power, indulgence. She's just
Yeah,
the
but if you
patriarch.
listen to what I said, I don't like that part of me. I don't like the part of me that is wanting to be
Yeah,
like
but that's the only
Yeah,
thing you hate
it's
about her is that
feeding
she's the
into-
patriarch. If
It's
you think
feeding
about it.
into
So
a
to me, it comes
shitty
off as,
power.
like, she's
Mm.
only
Mating
powerful
is saying
because she
it's
overcame.
feeding into the worst power fantasy that she has.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
No,
Like,
she's
she's not a
doing
good
it. No,
person?
she's doing it the best. She's not a good person. She's neutral, but she's also not. She's not mean.
She
she's not
is doing it the
benevolent.
best. That's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I'm saying.
Mm.
She's doing it the best.
And so,
And it's
like you,
glorified in this movie. And my values say that is not what is going to make somebody happy or fulfilled.
having
when
like
I-
okay, like having
when I-
like a
when I-
family and like maybe the patriarchal order is that you don't like it, but like is the having the family at the end is what I got from her is that she has this family that like and this
Yeah, but they're all under her power.
Yes, she does not have a
like
family. She
like
has
in a patriarchy
people
if the
that she
father is the household
controls.
like figurehead. Well,
She
I
has
mean,
people that she controls, and
So,
that
yes.
that
Like a
act in a way that is
patriarch.
suitable to her. She
Like
doesn't
a
have to give
patriarch.
anything.
like the patriarch. She
That
can
doesn't
she
make it
provides
better, though. Like the fact
provides
that you're
this
saying that
lifestyle.
doesn't undermine what.
Well, I don't-
I'm
but
not
I-
undermining. I'm
I
saying
was-
that you guys don't like it. Like to me, you guys don't like the ending because it ends up with her being the patriarch, and it just kind of seems like you were saying you would dislike the fact that you have this hatred for the privilege that men have. She gets this privilege.
I
And that maybe
fucking
makes
hate
you
the
feel a type of way.
patriarchy. I hate the
That's why I point-
patriarchy. Down with the
I-
patriarchy.
I
It
mean,
is-
that
And I
could
know,
be
and
true,
you
but
want to be
I
taken care
don't
of
think
by a
so.
woman, and you
and
don't get to have that. She is like for Smith, she's living out the person that he wants to be with, which is this matriarchal person who can take care of him and hug him and blah blah blah.
No,
blah.
that's not what I said. You're
No?
just you're
I know,
you're
I know that's what
making
you
up
said.
a
That's
whole
my
thing.
opinion of
Okay,
what you
so
said. I know.
When I was like 18, I made the choice to go to art school. I was fed this lie that like I can be like the most like famous art. Like I believed that I could like you could just go to art school and become like fucking Pablo Picasso and just become a famous artist or whatever. I didn't understand the ramifications of choosing not the path of least resistance, a path of high resistance, a high risk life choices. Every choice she makes is super high risk, and I really relate to that. But the lie that it'll all become like perfect in the end, and you'll get everything you ever wanted. Like I hate that, and it's just so stupid, and it
Where do you
So,
guys get this?
the
Where's
only
this everything
reason
she ever
she-
wanted thing.
She
she
got
does.
the only reason she has this position though is because she is raised by this successful surgeon man. So I viewed this movie as a coming of age story, not a this person comes to wisdom story. I don't
Yeah.
think that's what that was about. It was a coming of age story, and I think Godwin, was he a perfect parent? No. But the fact that he did and like he in many ways was abusive, right? But he does respect her agency, which I think like is a great development point for him. They do have love for each other, like this familial love, and she I think grows, she's probably going to do better as a parent, surgeon, patriarch, whatever, than him, but she's not going to be perfect. And also, if she is literally mentally 20, that's not when you're going to come into your wisdom. So this is the beginning. The end of the movie is the beginning of her life. She went through all of this
I
to
really
graduate
like that.
college.
Yeah. She's setting herself
Graduate.
up now to live her life for herself, not like based on other people's expectations or
That's what
desires or whatever.
Well, also, she never had any like this whole idea that she got what she wanted or she never had any desires of her own. She never expressed any wants necessarily, right?
she expressed curiosity and wanting to
Yeah,
adventure.
curiosity is the only thing. Like, so
She wanted
she
to
did
give to
that.
the poor. She wanted to come real good. She wanted to fuck. She did a like.
Well, she
did a
didn't
whole
want to
bunch
give to the poor. She wanted to help humanity.
Yeah.
Like that was so
Well,
it's that's not like an innate desire because it's only like a short-lived thing. Once again, she kind of quickly drops that, to Brittany's point, just kind of has to live with the fact that she is her own
She
person
didn't
and she
want to
has to
help
take care of
humanity.
herself.
She wanted to
Yeah.
assuage her own guilt.
Well, yeah, exactly, even better. So like for me, it's like I didn't see her as having like desires, which is why by like the end of it, I don't see like she got what she wanted or she has this power. I just see that's why I call it contentness. I'm like she's just there. She didn't rely on anyone. She didn't use men. Her dad died and she took over the house. The super genius thing for me was like she was since her birth technically, she was around cadavers and a surgeon for her entire life. So it's kind of like just second nature at that, but she would be really good at surgery, I would assume, like in that regard, especially in like the fix of the movie. But that's why for the end of it, I don't see it as like this empowerment. I don't see it as this like, oh, she got.
oh,
That's just like the next logical step, which is why I'm like,
Well,
that makes
now
sense.
that I
she
know
wouldn't
that
have.
me and Maiden Monster are wrong, and I guess I changed how I feel.
you're so dramatic. Listen, I'll
Awesome.
say it complimentarily. I think Ollie and Maiden and Smith are right to an extent. Like I think Ollie is pointing out at the very end she doesn't
Well, I
have
just
a
don't think it's very intellectually honest to just say my opinion is wrong.
well.
Like I
I
just feel
didn't. No,
like
I didn't say your opinion was wrong. I said
Yeah, you did.
The
You-
hate.
Hold
No, I
on.
said the hatred of her at the end, like the hatred of the ending. My bad. I wasn't like attacking you. I was kind of just talking. I was saying like I was relating to jealousy because once again, like I don't know
Envy.
how
I
else
think
the movie
envy,
would
not
have.
jealousy.
Envy,
Jealousy
yeah,
is losing
sorry.
something. Envy is wanting something else. But I would say,
My
like, at
apologies,
the
yeah.
end, she doesn't have a peer. She is alone. She's alone.
Yeah.
She doesn't have an equal. There's no equal in this story. She's
But
alone.
that's
It's
how
kind
she
of
wants it.
no. It's what she got. It's she made the best
Yeah.
with what she had, which is different. We don't even
I
know.
didn't
I
mean to
like,
attack you by the
But
way.
like, but at
Sorry.
the whole movie, she kind of rejects having peers the whole time. You
but
know?
I like how
she-
Arena
Is
said.
Toinette not a peer to her? The girl
Oh,
she
no.
goes
oh,
to university with.
Yeah,
was
she's a
the
peer.
sexual
She's a
relationship
peer.
Yeah,
with. I would
her,
also say Henry is her peer as well.
political lesbian, the
I don't
only
know if
person
Henry's
that
her
can be your
peer.
peer.
Are they around her at the end?
Isn't
They're
Twin?
not, but he's her peer when she meets him, which I think
Yeah,
was
she
big.
should have
He's
stuck
her
Oh,
with
I
peer
meant
them.
at
when
the end.
she
I
meets
meant
him.
at the very end, the
Okay.
family that's around her. Is she surrounded?
Yeah.
Is there anybody in that garden scene that's like, because it feels like that's what you meant by patriarch. Like she's in charge. There's a lot of reliance
Yeah.
on her. She's now burdened with taking care of all these people.
She's the protector and provider.
She's the protector and provider, which we don't even know if she wanted that in the first place. We don't know that about her, right? We're assuming. But it's interesting all the same. Like there is a part of me that wants that position and also doesn't want that position. Like I do not
Yeah,
envy my
same.
grandfather or
Mhm.
father. And at the
Mhm.
same time, like it is kind of there's something about it that's attractive all the same. But the responsibility is insane. Because you don't live for yourself. The patriarch doesn't live for
Mhm.
themselves. They live for the
Mhm.
community. It's a sacrifice.
I feel like she doesn't really have to. I feel like there's not really anything showing that she has to sacrifice much at the end. I feel like she just kind of gets
Well, she
like
sacrificed her curiosity and her adventure and her whatever to stay
how
there.
when I don't think
Well, she's
that's
at
made
home.
clear at all.
She's no longer exploring. She
And
has
she-
these people around her that essentially we'd assume that they need her to continue because like if
Yeah,
Max
yeah,
is-
like she's at home. I don't think that means she sacrificed anything. I think she wants to be there. I don't think that she's like I don't like I feel like the whole movie is not like she was born knowing what she wanted. I feel like she's trying to figure out what she wants, and then at the end she decides that's what she wants because
And the
of all
way
of her
that the ending
experiences.
was presented, it wasn't presented in a like, this is content and zen now. It was like
But
It was
isn't it with the
presented in a, like,
drinking?
winning kind of way.
Yeah, they're
Oh, it's
like
not the same thing, though.
cheersing.
Contented, you're thinking contentedness in a philosophy sense, like peace, but she's not a 5, so why would she have that? And she's
Yeah,
not
so
even a
I-
2
like,
who's
what
is-
enlightened.
what is-
She's just a person.
Mhm.
She's not special.
Yeah,
she's
she just
a
found her
person.
career and she found her bubble and she's chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's chilling, but she's not in contentedness in the shallow way because we all established she's a shallow kind of person, right?
Yeah.
She's young,
Yeah.
she's shallow.
Yeah, maybe that's my problem is the shallowness. I think it's just like
Fair.
that
Yeah,
left
it
me
feels like it's a character study, but it's really not.
thirsty, wanting more, especially
Totally.
with the like over like glut of the like visuals. You know,
I
it's
think-
just like
Mm.
all the saccharine and like meaningless shit was just like so there and so salient. You know that the story just left me. Ugh.
I think
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
That was
more
the thing.
narrative driven than character driven. Like the
Yeah.
characters were like it wasn't a character driven story as much, though the characters were very aesthetically and emotionally memorable. But we didn't get deep into them. So it was more of like we've been saying throughout the whole panel, more about the whimsy, more about the aesthetic, and about the archetypal narratives that, you know, women tend to, I guess, observe and experience, and then maybe like, yeah, observe in men.
Yeah.
So
I don't
Yes.
think this was meant to be deep. I think it was meant to be like pretty shallow as you were watching it, which is why I think the whimsy and the like scenery is its own character to provide that like femininity in the movie, because you don't really
and
get it.
the archetypes really beat you over the head. Like the symbol,
Mhm.
it's not subtle. Like
Direct.
you're
It's
beaten over the
upfront.
head.
It's
of
not
the-
subtlety.
Yeah.
So in order to
Yeah.
enjoy the movie, you have to have this like world where it's like fascinating, blah blah blah, and then everything is so upfront in your face that now you can maybe like accept it.
Doesn't this contradict the whole idea that this is supposed to be an insanely profound film? What do you guys think
Hmm?
about that? Like,
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think it
No, I think
feels
it was-
like
I think
it's
it's so
supposed, it feels
profound.
profound. It feels,
exactly. It feels like you want it to be profound, right?
there's
It's
so
like
much to
tricking
like
you.
grab onto. There's so much like
Yeah.
like strings to like, and they all every
Yes.
time you grab a string, it just breaks. You know.
Yes, I completely relate to that. Yeah.
so then is
It's
it is
so-
this the kind of film that, depending on where you are in your life, you could have a different relationship with it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I
Oh, yeah.
felt like so embarrassed because I kept very consciously projecting all this shit into it, and I'm like, it's so hard to differentiate because the movie's giving me so little, and I'm putting so much into it.
That's the
It's so
profoundness
little
of it, is
and
that the
so
movie
much
does
at
so
the same
little
time.
and you're
That's
giving so much
exactly,
into
Are we
I
it.
think,
participants? We're like
what makes
part of
it
Yeah.
it.
profound is the reaction
Yeah.
that it causes in all of us.
Because you're like, you want to
Mm.
agree with Bella, you want to agree, but like the whole time it's a bunch of people doing things that are wrong,
Mm.
right? And the whole right or wrong play is like, should she have went and slept with like a guy randomly after she kicked off? Well, I mean, no, but like also he was kind of a dick and what did like, so it's kind of this whole play of like right or wrong, but it's all blatant, boring, like direct shit. And so I think that's the profoundness of it, is like you kind of like you're watching the shallow story, but there's a lot that you're putting into it on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I even think the fact that the
Mhm,
set was
that's
really my
true.
favorite character, like the costumes, that I would have taken all of her clothes. I would have lived in all of her outfits. That I think says so much to me about what I took from the film as a tool. Is like, okay, what do I love about life? I mean, I feel that way in life in general, that life is like this magnificent, like there's that scene where she's just looking at the clouds and there's like this vastness. Like that feels so lovely to me, and maybe that's because I am also an anime watcher. That's what I love about anime, is the environment, the food, the trees, the wind. Like I love nature, and to be a part of that nature is to me what's so profound. So maybe it felt a little bit for me like through the film that it was taking me out of that, or just too deeply into a specific version of human nature that I don't like. Actually, the part about humans that frustrate me the most, that I work on like letting go of that attachment, is the idea that when they see what they're doing as good, but I see what they're doing as like almost corrupt, like corrupt goodness. And I'm like, oh, I get so frustrated with your sense of justice, because like you think you're so good and you're just, it feels so corrupt to me. But then how do you have that conversation without people feeling like you're just attacking me? And it's like, well, I just feel like her tits bouncing doesn't matter. But like you do you, I guess.
Like when he kidnapped her and like she came out and he's like, well, no, I did it for love. Initially, I didn't know they were on a cruise. I thought he had his
Oh.
own boat. So I was like, oh, this is like really
It seemed like
malicious.
that. It seemed
And
like
then
that
there's
because
because
it was
then the
empty.
cruise part happens. Yeah, then the cruise part happens, and it's like, oh, this guy's really like an idiot. But to your point, is that it's this like weird, like, well, I love you, but also you put me in a trunk and brought me here. Like,
Okay,
well, yeah, it's a big show of affection.
How romantic.
I wanted to say something about that.
Yeah.
I wanted to say something about that. Like that didn't like obviously that's like fucked up, but like because of the whimsy in the movie and stuff, I
You're like, oh, that makes sense.
I gave it a pass because I was like, well, she is actually a child. And so like she actually is incapable of making decisions for herself. So this is honestly the most real, like the actually the best way he could he needs to actually treat her like a child. And I don't know, like
Well, he
so
wants to
that,
give her
like,
adventure.
it made
right?
more
He's like, well, I
sense
gave
than
you the
it made
best.
more sense than fucking her like she was an adult the whole time. That made no sense. Like he shouldn't have been doing that. Like he should have been like treating her like a child. That's so I was like,
Do
finally
you put
he's treating her
children
like,
in the trunk and throw them on a boat?
I mean, when we go on vacation,
Well,
we don't give our
you force
children
them to
choice.
do
We're saying, you're
things.
coming with
Yeah.
me to
Sure.
Disneyland, like like
To his point, to Duncan's point, okay, so she went with him, she went on this adventure with him, like she willingly went with him, right? She then explores on her own and she's saying, well, I'm bored of like what you're showing me. So for him, once again, like him being like the real character, I don't think it was malicious. I think it was, he thought that was like a really like romantic gesture. He's like, yo, I brought you on this cruise. There's worlds to explore. And I think for her, it was just like, no, you're just trying to like put me on a place where I can't leave. It
Oh.
kind of felt like Dennis Reynolds from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's like the implications, right?
Yes.
Like you're on about the
Yeah, but-
implications.
Yes,
And I think
she
that's
was
where she
putting-
was like, ooh.
Yeah, but she was putting herself in dangerous situations, like, and it was clear like she was like about to die, like she was gonna like fucking
But
get
Duncan was a
murdered.
But as she
dangerous
got older-
situation. That's
By
the funny
the time she
thing,
got on the
too.
boat, she was a little bit
True,
older. She was
it's
maybe
true.
18 on the boat, and so she's like, "Oh, this isn't adventurous. This isn't fun. This isn't romantic." Whereas, like, if you see the difference from her when he first met her in the closet, and he kind of just goes and grabs her real quick, and she was excited by that. That same person would have been excited initially by the trunk, like whatever, but she's grown since then, and so now she's like, "Oh, I see what you're doing. This isn't fun for me. This isn't adventure." She's realizing the control, and that's what she doesn't like.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would say like the not seeing her part plays a role, but like Duncan does remind me of those guys who's like, see, nothing you do matters. Like I did all these things and nothing matters. And then the girl's just like, this isn't the right fit, but they don't know how to explain it. So the conversation gets so twisted and we don't know how to say to one another, even though we should be getting along, we're not getting along. Or even though this is like, I'm just not into you, even though I know I just did all this stuff with you. It's like a weird sort of like why communication and dynamics change because comprehension isn't there. Like they're not comprehending one another and she's learning how to comprehend. Like she's processing what it means to exist and like be a part of the world and how to form her own world, which I think she does ultimately in the end. She really does form this little family bubble and she's the leader and there's a lot of responsibility there. What would be interesting is to see where she ended up as like an old lady, right? Oh, and is she going to continue aging just as fast or no? Did it slow down eventually? Like I'm a little like, where does the
I wonder
magic
if
end?
it just catches up to what age of the
Whatever
body
age she
is,
is,
and then
hopefully,
after
yeah.
that it
Yeah.
just goes normal.
Maybe.
Probably. That seems to make
Yeah.
sense.
With
It very
with
much feels like
Duncan-
we left this like at the end of one chapter and we're just kind of left to
Mhm.
wonder what happens in the next chapter.
The
Yeah.
only thing with Duncan that gave me this like girl or like woman idea for him was when Henry asked her, he's like, "Why do you keep staying with him?" And she goes, "I always think it'll be better." That was the only time where I got this like girl like mentality idea from was when she said that. Because at that point she really should have just like left him. But I think she decided like I think she's a loyal person, which is why she never like backed off on Max. I think loyalty is like a big thing to her. Which is why she kept like saying, "Well, no, I'm betrothed to Max. I'm going back to Max. I'm doing these things."
I don't know.
And
Duncan
so, like,
was
even
loyal.
well, yeah, but she was loyal to him too, right? Like in every
Yeah,
sense
she was
of
trying
the
to
way.
get money for him too. 'cause
Yeah,
she
it was-
like,
it was-
"We
it
need
was for the
money."
She's still
hotel.
trying to take care of him.
Yeah, she wasn't
I
selfish.
guess if
she
you
wasn't doing it for
redefine
her.
loyal, I don't
And
know.
And to be fair to her, once again, sex isn't a thing of romance or love or attachment for her. It's just like
Yeah,
a
but
thing
I
of
mean,
joy.
yeah, but
So
at
when
some
she
point,
knew-
like, it should be clear, like, how he's responding to this, like, and
Well,
how it's affecting him.
But
and
why
she
would
just,
it be
like,
clear?
once again,
to
she was
someone
there was
who's,
never a
refuses-
defined
she
relationship.
refuses
There was
to
always
ever
there was
care
always a
about him at
promise.
any point.
She doesn't care about him. She wasn't supposed to. She was using him just as much as he was using her. She literally said this is a temporary thing, and he literally says, "I'm not going to be consistent to you." So when she goes and sleeps with the first guy, and the guy gives her the 3 pumps, she actually comes back. She goes, "Not only did I like find us a place to stay when you were over here bitching up a fucking storm and just complaining and yelling, but I now also believe you that you're the best fucker in the world because this guy only
Oh,
gave me 3
I'm
pumps.
so
If anything,
sorry.
I love you
Stole
more."
all your money and put you in the poorhouse and then dumped you off
Once
in
again, it
Paris.
wasn't all his
So
money.
Sorry, I'm gonna
It
cheat
wasn't
on you
all
so I
his
get some
money.
money for
It
you,
wa-
and
wait,
you
it
better
wasn't all his
fucking
money. He
like
could-
it, bitch.
He called his mom.
I don't
He
know,
called
what's
his
your-
mom after
Yeah, why
after
do
a
you
while of
romanticize
pining
him?
for her.
What's up with your
Yeah,
I'm not
relationship with that?
romantic. I'm not romantic. I'm saying I have empathy for him, and you guys fucking don't, and it's freaking me the
No,
fuck
Well, I
out.
feel like you miss-
do.
Yeah, go ahead, Ellie.
Okay, he won all of that money. Now that wasn't all his money. He's already a lawyer. He has an established family. When they were in Paris, after a while of her doing the whoring and him just being outside and doing this whole like mental breakdown shit, he comes back to her. He goes, I'm willing to forgive you. I called my mom. She booked us a flight and she's getting the wedding bed ready. Like, it's not like he was poor and distraught. He was literally just being an idiot and was like the obsessed with her after the point where he realized
I think that you're just adding that in, but I don't think that was clear whatsoever. I think that him going back to his parents is deeply humiliating, and I think that he lost his whole fortune. He didn't have any money of his own.
what fortune? He didn't bring the fortune with him. He won that gambling. He didn't have a fortune to begin with.
No, he
Gambling
was
with
five
desperate.
minutes.
He was desperate for
literally
money.
won-
He was so
He
Right? Wasn't he like distraught? What is he losing money and that's why he was gambling because he was trying to find a quick win? He felt like a sleazy guy. He was always trying to find a
No,
quick
he
win.
wasn't losing
Yeah.
money. That's why he was
Yeah,
gambling.
he's
He was-
definitely a sleazy guy.
He was a sleazy guy, but he was a lawyer, and it's not that he was gambling for money. He got into the argument with he tried to throw Martha off the ship. The cabin
Right.
took him away. He said, "I'm going to the bar." He ended up gambling. Then when Bella gets to the room, she takes the money. When he's like awake, he didn't even realize he had the money. He was drunk, won the money, woke up, the money wasn't there. So it's not like he had this money that, oh my god, I
It
obviously
doesn't
he
count. She can steal
lump
from
sum.
him, and it doesn't matter. She's in the
No,
right.
she
You're
Are you
right.
can't.
trolling?
Okay, let's
Saying
move
that
Smith,
on.
are you
you're
trolling?
putting him in this
I am
distraught
not
feeling like
trolling.
he lost
Like
all his
what she
money, and
did
that
was
wasn't his
stealing. She
money.
stole all of his money and left him completely broke, and he had nothing.
Actually, I
like
think
no.
he referred to it as their money, didn't he? I swear. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah,
But it's also
because
it's
because
stealing,
he's.
but it's like the manslaughter of
Oh
stealing.
yeah, so she has
She
a right
Yeah.
to
didn't
take it out. Like he
comprehend.
said, their
Oh,
money
no, I'm not
because
saying
he's.
she has the right. I'm saying that she
No.
didn't comprehend it as stealing. It's
Like
literally
she's not
like if a kid.
malicious.
Yeah, she's not doing
Yeah,
this
I know
with
it
she's not
wasn't-
malicious. That doesn't mean it's okay. I'm
Well,
saying
I'm
I
not
have
saying it's
empathy
okay.
for
I'm
him.
not
But the
saying
whole
it's
movie's
okay.
not
I'm giving-
okay. The whole
We're
movie's
giving
not
nuance
okay.
to the situation.
You guys are
Like,
acting like it is.
No,
I
we're
mean, you're
saying
acting like it's okay to fucking infantilized person, right? But in the
She
sense of the
isn't.
movie,
She
it
literally
is.
is a child.
Yeah, and you said it's okay, and you said there is no immorality to doing it. So, like in that sense, like
No, I
it's because
didn't.
in the context
didn't
of
you
the
say
movie,
that
the
retards
nuance
should
in
be
the
able to
movie.
fuck?
Yeah, but it's complicated. It is immoral too.
Just like stealing the money is complicated.
Was
She
co-
did take
yeah.
the money, but it wasn't
Yeah,
in
and you
malicious
guys are
intent.
talking
It's
like
not
he's a piece
okay.
of, yeah, and so the reason I'm upset is you
I
guys
don't
are
think.
acting like
Did you think he was a good person?
The reason I'm upset is because you guys are talking like he's a piece of shit for
He
being upset
is.
that she did all this crap. He is a piece
Oh.
of shit, but
Why?
not
He's
for
my-
being upset. Not for being upset in that
No.
situation. Like she literally stole all his money, like dumped him off in Paris, and then went and cheated on him, like to get money. And then
She-
she, and
first
then
of all,
like
what
That's
did they
not
you're
what
negotiate
acting
you're
like
monogamy?
saying.
you're acting like
Cheat on
he is
him.
in the
She-
wrong
she
for
She
being
never
upset.
made any commitment of
There's-
monogamy.
and
She
she didn't even get
never
money.
agreed to be monogamous.
She's
That was
literally
not
each
a
other
conversation.
person.
Okay, well that's sick in itself because she was going along with this guy who clearly has these feelings, and so shoot,
But
like
he
for
knew
her to
she
like.
was
He
engaged to
didn't. He
Max.
specifically said, "I don't have any consistent. I will
Yes,
not have
there,
any
wait, okay,
consistent
so yes,
feelings
yes,
for
he
you."
said that in the beginning. So if you want to be like a Destiny debater and lock in on one specific thing he said on the very beginning of their fucking relationship,
You mean the
before a lot of
story of
fucking
In
the
this
movie?
context
case,
and
that's
shit
actually
changed.
relevant. Hold
This
on.
is
hold
dialogue
on,
in the
Smith.
movie describing
In
the
this case,
person's
it is
Yes, it
relevant
happened in the
because we're
beginning,
trying
and then
to
no, stop
define.
interrupting me. So she
You
said that
are
in the
going
beginning.
on a tangent and not listening to anybody else. That's what's happening. So let's respond to what you're saying here, which
Okay,
is
then if you want to
that
respond to what I'm
it's
saying, then let me
important
fucking say
to
it.
focus on Smith. This is why I don't talk to you. This is why I haven't talked to you in over a year. Is because
I
you're
never tried to
fucking
talk to you.
impossible.
No,
Okay,
listen.
so
Don't make this into a
in the
normal debate
beginning of their
panel.
relationship, so in the beginning of their relationship, he says that is just like a fling or whatever. Okay, and then she feels the same. They're both on the same page. He develops feelings. He gets incredibly emotionally distraught that she's like fucking all these other people, and that goes on for quite a long period of
But
time.
without
And it
her
keeps happening
consent.
again and
No,
again and
right?
again and again. So she should, and then she keeps stringing him along because she's able to like do all kinds of crazy shit.
Because
and then
his
she steals all of his,
expectations
and yes, his expectations do change. And then she steals all his fucking
But
money,
she
leaves
never
him in fucking
consents
Paris,
to
and he's completely
rewriting
fucking
their
destroyed and
relationship.
broken.
Well, hold on.
never defined
She
the
never
relationship, but he
consents to
never
rewriting the
expressed it.
dynamic. The dynamic
Yeah.
is that they're not
Then she
monogamous
should
from the
leave.
beginning. And
She
when
did
she
leave.
decides to change
And also,
that,
she was loyal with him on the trip. That's why when you say she went and cheated on him, she didn't cheat on him. You're painting it as cheating because that implies that there's a relationship that was established that
Well,
they
I
have.
think that
She
in
didn't
Duncan's
go
mind there was.
Once again, she didn't cheat on him because she met someone and was like infatuated. She literally went to the woman. She was perplexed. She's like, "What do you mean? Someone will pay me to fuck? That's insanity." Like, okay, I guess it was a 5-minute. It wasn't even a 5-minute thing. It was like a 10-second thing. In her, that's not cheating in her head. So you
I know
can't
in
paint
her
her
head
as-
it's not. I agree.
Well, I mean,
And so
yeah,
if we only empathize
the
with her
smart
and we
lawyer
don't
should-
empathize with Duncan,
But
then you're
Duncan-
right.
I do
No, no,
empathize with
Smith,
Duncan,
hold
but you're
on.
kind of
You
painting him
don't.
as an idiot who is unaware of this
Duncan-
girl's mental like processes and doesn't know this person at all. You're kind of painting Duncan
No,
as
she's
like a
the
lovable,
idiot who
ignorant
doesn't know
person.
him at
No, no,
all. She's like she's
Duncan-
completely unattuned with him.
Hold up. So
Yes.
the grown
Yes.
man
And that
who-
makes it bad. That's bad.
No,
That's her
Duncan
whole character.
She fucked him.
Duncan made the
Over.
decision to take ownership of her without her consent or like her participation in the relationship, right? So it's hard to empathize with somebody who's just like, I love you, so you must love me. It's like, what? Why is that? Who deserves like? Why would you empathize with that?
I just do empathize
Interest-
with them.
The unrequited love, the one-sided love. You
Yeah.
do you identify with that?
No, but I just empathize with him.
But why?
I feel bad
Yeah,
for
but
him.
It's a
I just
I just
consent
feel bad for him.
violation.
Where's the empathy for Bella though in the situation?
She
of, like-
violates his consent too
When?
by stealing his money.
Sure, but like, okay, but that was like, okay, he doesn't consider her when deciding she must be with him. She doesn't consider him when she takes the money because she doesn't think there's anything to consider. But are we putting more onus on him to have the responsibility? Are you saying he's also dumb?
Wait, he also steals her money
They both-
and leaves her in the street when she takes out the money
No,
from
she
her
gives
jacket.
it to
He
him.
steals it, walks away, and leaves
Okay,
her to
if
fend
you
for herself.
if you define the
stays
act of
in
grabbing,
Paris.
if you want to do that much fucking like simping or fucking like whatever,
not stealing?
redefining as her handing him the money and then she grabs it at he rudely grabs at it out of her
Yeah,
hand,
th-
then you
taking
find
the
that as
money.
stealing. That's
He's
fucking
leaving her
counting
behind.
it. She's like counting it and looking like she's ready to distribute it, and he
Yeah.
takes all of it when it's very
walks
clear that
away and
she's
leaves her in the
trying to
street.
like divide it or something.
Well,
She's
yeah, okay.
also-
So she steals all of his money, and she has like a little bit in her hands, and she's going to figure out how much of it she's willing to give to him.
She's trying to
Yes.
figure out how they can get home. The point of her taking that money out is to book tickets for them to get home. So
And
she's
he
looking
uses
at that as a
He's-
solution
And he
to
uses it
get
and
them
stays in
home.
Paris
Okay, I
with the
understand
money.
And he
you can-
decides
I
to take it
understand-
all
I-
for
I-
himself.
Because the movie is from her perspective and everything, I definitely do empathize with her, and I understand and I care about her, but also I think that he was completely fucked over, and I feel really bad for him.
Interesting. You know what? Look,
I hear that. We do.
And
But
art is personal. Art brings out something personal in us. To
Mhm.
be frank, I wrote Duncan off because he seemed like a fuckboy white knight, and I hate that in people. So, like, to be fair, I also decided not to be empathetic because I was like, nope, I don't want to give you the spoons. Go ahead.
Wait, what? How is he fucked over? So, dude takes her on a boat. Wait. Dude takes her on a boat, right? He loses the money that he made gambling that night. But if you didn't notice, the captain immediately dismissed their travel, said, hey, you're reduced to rations. That to me implies that he went on the boat with no money to begin with, or he didn't pay for the trip in full. So did she really
No.
fuck him over?
No, the implication that I got was that everybody hated him and he was causing a bunch of disturbance. And as
But they
soon
didn't
as
hate
the
him
crew
before.
and as soon as the crew learned that he was now broke because she stole all his money, the captain comes and, oh, let's get this asshole off the boat because we don't have to put up with his
Because
bullshit.
you
he
can't afford to
be
keep
here.
going. He literally
Yeah.
said you
So
cannot.
she
afford
literally
to,
stole his money and fucked him over.
but he didn't pay for the full ride to begin with. He was paying
Right,
as
like
he
if
went.
he
so
had
did
never
have money?
won that money
So
gambling,
you're
how would he
assuming-
pay
happened?
for
so
the
you're
trip?
assuming that this is like some like he like only paid half and then they're like
Well,
only
I'm not
gonna like
assuming this is literally what
This
is
is-
said in the movie. If
no,
you watch the movie,
no, you
he
have
gambled
extrapolated
money-
this.
Wait,
Can we
wait,
move on?
Wait. He gambles.
moving on.
He wins this money while. No, I don't care if you're moving.
You're
on.
saying is
He wins-
bullshit and it's just
I'm not.
extrapolation
I'm
bullshit.
literally.
You're
giving
not
the facts of
listening to
movie.
the
These are
logical
facts
point
of the
he's
movie.
making.
He
The logical
goes
his
drunk and
his
gambles
bullshit
this-
read.
He
I don't want to
gambles
continue.
drunk and wins this money. So presumably the cash in hand that he has is not all his money. He should have
Okay.
money in his chill, man. He should have money in his bank because he's on a cruise line, which implies that he paid to get on this cruise. Now, if he wins all this money and he has all this cash in hand, but loses the cash in hand, where is the money from the bank account that is supposedly supposed to pay for the continuation of this cruise? The only reason the captain kicks him off, because he could have easily said, no, I have money in the bank, but the implication is he didn't have any money. He was kind of a schemy, scammy person. He won all this money gambling and he was excited and elated by it. And then the second all that money is gone, the captain recognizes that he's broke. Sure, he might be also
Okay.
an asshole because he did try to throw a woman off the fucking ledge on the
Yes.
boat.
True.
And
So
then,
don't empathize with
and
him.
then, I mean, well, the picture you're painting.
Okay,
is
so
just
yeah,
a
okay, so
little
you're right.
idiot.
Okay,
No,
okay,
I'm
so
not
let's-
done. I'm not done.
Okay,
So-
continue with your bullshit.
Yeah, my bullshit. I will continue. with the
Finish
bullshit.
up.
I mean,
Guys,
it
guys,
is annoying
guys.
that the movie made him so easy to hate. Like
Yeah,
that is
they
pretty
really
annoying.
did.
I
Like
mean,
what are we dumb? Like we can't empathize with the man. Like you have to make him so easy to hate. Like
I didn't
I think
hate
what's-
him. I empathized with him the whole time. I think what happened to
You're
him
doing
is
a lot
just
of
like-
work right now not to. So yeah, so let's say
Why?
everything you just
Because
say.
I'm painting
Let's
his
say
own
everything you
actions, but
fucking
he
said
fails-
is right.
Wait, he
Let's
fails with
assume
his
all
own
of your
actions, and
Hey,
I'm
hey,
painting him as an
hey.
asshole.
okay, all of
He
your
failed
assumptions.
every single shot with his own actions. He went on the boat with no money. One money
So
lost.
he deserves it.
Took this
No,
person.
it's the
he
fact
doesn't
that the
deserve
movie
it.
made
These are
him-
You're
just what
repeating yourself,
factually
so
Wait,
can I
wait,
fucking?
wait, wait,
You're just repeating yourself, so I can't talk, and I hate when
Okay.
fucking people
no,
do this.
you
okay?
just keep trying to cut me off, and I have to interject.
You
Okay,
are
hold on,
repeating
hold on.
yourself, that I can't
Here's-
fucking
Nah.
talk.
Stop. Here's why
Yeah.
I'm confused. Why is this such a big deal?
Mhm.
Okay, so now because he doesn't want me to make my point because he doesn't agree with
Okay,
it, and I
make
fucking
your
hate
point
when
because
people do
maybe
that
I'm
shit.
mishearing your point. Maybe I
Okay,
just don't
so yes,
understand.
okay, so let's say there's some fucking insane, like, okay, there's a bank account, but he actually doesn't have money, but he does have money in hand, and he goes on and he has enough money to go on the cruise, so like, so at the end, so whatever, and there's, I guess because he like is gambling, he's an asshole, and like he's gambling with the
No.
money that he has to have on the cruise or whatever, but he has money to be on the cruise because he is on the cruise, and then he gambles, and then he gets a whole bunch of money, and then she takes all of his money. I don't know how much he gambled. I don't know if he gambled at all. I don't know if he gambled little, but whatever. She takes all of it, and then he gets rid of it. So now he has no money, and now she's off the boat. So like, okay, yeah, whatever. He's bad with money. He's made poor choices. That means he deserves it or something. What the fuck are you talking about? It
Okay,
makes no
let's talk
fucking
about
Saying I
that.
said,
Hold
I
on,
never
hold on.
said deserved once,
Yeah.
my boy. So you gotta breathe.
So like, what is this deserved feeling? Because like, I don't think anyone.
Because you're saying that it's his fault.
Well, it's.
I'm saying
it's.
he's a victim of his own actions. Yeah, it's fine.
Yes,
What-
no,
oh,
he's
that's-
the
Well,
victim
Seth
of
is
her.
doing
He's the
some
victim
work
of
to
her.
empathize with a villain that we're not even supposed to like. That's not even a nuanced villain. That's the thing. Like, he's actually doing some work to try to make the character fucking interesting. He's not
Who?
interesting.
Who?
He's too easy to hate.
Yeah.
Duncan.
Oh, Duncan's too easy to
I
hate because
think
he's.
what's-
Okay.
Yes.
That's the
I
point
was gonna
of
say
him, though.
Duncan-
Smith is actually
so
trying to make him into an interesting
But
character. And you guys
this
just
is
like,
fine. But like Smith is having an emotional reaction. It seems in a way that I don't
because
understand.
everyone is jumping on him.
Well, only because he's disagreeing with something that three of us thought we saw in the film. So either he saw it completely different or we saw it completely different. But the character trope he is the sleazy lawyer. He's supposed to be sleazy.
He is
So,
a
right,
you
which
can
is
empathize-
problematic in the video itself. It's just too easy.
But
But that's
only
my-
thing
sure.
I'm saying, only thing I'm
All the
saying is
characters
he
are
stole
easy,
his
though.
money.
Right.
The only thing I'm saying
Exactly.
is she stole all of his money
Sure.
and left him in a horrible situation. Like yeah, if he did have more money in a bank account, then whatever, he probably should. But whatever, however it came to be, she stole all of his money, and now he's broke and kicked off the boat. That's her doing a horrible thing to him.
yes,
She
but
tried
she
It's
to
not
didn't.
make up
his
for it.
fault.
She didn't leave him high and dry. She tried to make up for it by getting money for a hotel.
Like-
He then took her money and left her high and dry. She didn't leave him. He left
Like
her.
he not only that, but brought her ex-husband back into her life to torture her. So Duncan from the
Yeah.
step one is she's doing something not malicious. He's doing something malicious, but you want us to empathize with him, which is fine. But why are we obligated to empathize with him when we don't have to?
No,
I
I'm
don't
just
get it.
saying. You guys are saying that it's his fault that he was like high and dry, and
Well-
I'm saying it's not. It's literally
Well,
strictly
karma.
explicitly
His
her
karma
fault.
is the actions of his life gave him this reaction. If he hadn't kidnapped her, if he hadn't
We
coerced
don't
her,
even know anything about his life though, because he's literally
But-
just the villain.
I
well,
was
So we don't
gonna
know
say real
anything
quick,
about his life.
I just admittedly I don't empathize with Duncan or people like Duncan, and I'll give a real life example in the show 90 Day Fiance. There's this one woman who, when she was in her 30s, met this kid in Jamaica when he was 17, married him at 18, and then he cheated on her. I felt nothing for her. And so this is like the similar feeling that I have for Duncan, in that he took somebody that was already vulnerable and suffered the consequences of their vulnerability. But I understand where Smith is coming from. I just can't empathize with people like that.
Yeah, I do think he's a
I
horrible person.
do.
I think he is abusing her
yeah.
and he takes advantage of her. But I don't believe in this. Like, I think in a case by case situation, she absolutely fucks him over, and you can say that it's justified or that you don't care about him. But to just like, if I'm like saying that she fucks him over, and just say, and like, to ignore that and say no, she's not fucking him over. Like, no, she is. Like, he's fucked her.
What does that
he
mean?
fucked
What
her
does
over.
that
I don't
mean
see
to
him as a
you?
horrible person, though. That's the thing. I just see him as like a kind of like they were doing like the misogynist archetype thing. I don't see him as horrible. I just kind of see him as like he
Toxic.
he's toxic. He had this person who he thought he could just have his fun with. Then he ended up catching feelings for her. But then like that doesn't remove the toxicity that comes from him before. I don't think he's a horrible person, which is why like I empathize with him, but like also like I don't think he needs this empathy, nor does he deserve that. Like these characters were painted really, really, really simply, I think on purpose. And so like, yeah, I don't like there's no empathy needed for him because throughout the whole thing, like
What
they're
do you think
showing
the
you
purpose
that like
was for that though?
hmm?
Like, why do
Well,
you think they were painted
because
so
Bella
simply?
doesn't have empathy. Bella
Because
isn't
it's like
trying to be
we're
she's
supposed to
just
seeing it
trying.
through her eyes or something, like the simplicity of her eye, like her
Well, yeah,
perspective,
right.
or
Because like once
okay.
again, I'm like she does when she steals the money, it's not malicious. And then when she cheats on him, it's also not malicious. If anything, it's like just everything for her is situational, right? She's like, we're in Paris, we don't have money. She's like, and he's like, oh, what do you think we're gonna do, Bella? So she's like, I mean, I don't know. When she went up to the hotel, she didn't go up to the hotel to do sex work. She went up to just ask, she's like, hey, is this a hotel? And the lady was like, well, these are rooms and you can do this. And it was kind of like quid pro quo, like immediate, right? So like ascribing all this like empathy to the guy when I don't think she was doing anything to him. It was just for them to like, once again, it was just for them to like kind of sustain and be
Yeah.
neutral. And then also
The only character
lack of
that we
empathy
really
for
have
me-
empathy for in the movie.
well,
seems to
well,
be
wait, the lack of
Bella.
empathy for him, I don't really have empathy for her either. I don't think this was supposed to be like an
Yeah, I don't think so
empathetic
Oh,
either.
movie. I
sorry,
don't
sorry.
think anything was
I
happening.
misspoke. I don't mean like us here. I
Sorry.
just mean
Oh,
the way the film
story.
Yeah.
was. Like, from,
Mm.
yeah. Mhm.
And then when once again Duncan takes the money, and I know like it feels like you don't want to ascribe him agency because he was in love with her or whatever, like grew feeling. But Duncan takes the money and stays in Paris for a prolonged period of time, because by the time that he took from the time he took the money to the time he came back, he was distraught in the streets, and then she was going to school at that time. So I would assume there's like maybe a few weeks or a month or so in between the time from when he took the money. He chose to stay. He could have went back home. He could have just been a lawyer, took his losses or whatever it may be, and he would have been fine. But he
His
didn't,
pride was in the
and
way.
that's what I'm saying. It's not the lack of empathy, but I'm watching this movie. I'm like, well, you're kind of making these
It
mistakes.
is the lack of empathy. So if I am ever
what
going
is
to
I don't have
steal,
no empathy for
if
anybody.
I'm ever going to steal, like, so let's say that I really want to give to the poor and I become like overwhelmed with my feelings, I'll make sure that I find a really shitty scumbag so that it's not
Well,
bad.
no. Why am I
I'm
not
sorry,
giving?
Smith,
why
that
why
is
don't I give Bella
empathy.
empathy? How
Empathy
come I
is
don't give Bella
understanding
empathy?
Duncan. You don't have to feel bad for him because you
Yeah.
understand him. Empathy is
Like,
not feeling
I
bad
think-
for people. That's not what that
No,
means.
I
So
think that's called
Duncan
that's called,
wasn't
that's called
found.
understanding.
Bella
That's called
was
cold.
found,
That's
right?
called cold empathy. Empathy is
No.
when you feel the emotions of someone else and put
Yes,
yourself in
but
their shoes.
Duncan's feelings don't make him
Cognitive empathy versus effective empathy.
Yeah, but like it doesn't matter. Like if you put yourself in Duncan's shoes, the result isn't what, feeling bad for him? That's not the automatic result.
You feel
I don't
his
think you were-
feelings.
Yeah, but
the
his
empathy isn't
feelings
supposed to be there.
I don't think you're feeling his feelings. I think you're projecting something onto him that's not there personally. He becomes he becomes a stalker, he becomes a harasser, he violates
Yeah,
her
those are
consent.
bad things. Those are all bad
But
things.
all
I'm saying that
because
she's
his internal
ruined him.
feelings are negative. He's not having a real
Yes.
experience. He's having a mythical experience in his head that he's projected onto reality and become
Yeah, and he-
insane.
And he puts himself in his position to get ruined, but it doesn't change the fact that she ruins him.
I don't
Okay.
think you again when malicious has intent. So if you're holding
It doesn't
Bella
care. I
accountable,
don't care about intent. Yeah, I don't care about intent.
Oh,
Like so,
okay.
so I'm saying if you so that's what I'm saying. If I don't have the intent to steal, but I just become overwhelmed with emotion to save people from poverty, and I need to just get that money as fast as possible, and I
But
see
she's a
some
kid,
rich
right?
scumbag with a briefcase full of money, and he's a total scumbag, and he just won that from gambling, and he's totally irresponsible with his money, and
That's not what she was thinking.
I don't
Maybe those
believe
thoughts
you.
were in
Like,
her
I don't
head.
believe you.
She
You're
saw money and
mischaracterizing
poor
her.
people, and that's it.
that's not what
No,
she's
no.
thinking
She
at
saw money
all.
and
No,
poor
no,
people.
no. I'm not saying what she's thinking. I'm saying like, so let's say that I just happened to get so lucky as to be in a situation where I'm so overwhelmed with emotion. I want to save the poor, and I see like, and I want to save myself from my own guilt for their poverty. And then I see this guy with a briefcase of money, and he's like an abusive guy to his wife or whatever, and he just got that from gambling, whatever. Then if I just take that, like he falls asleep and he's drunk and he passed out on the side of the street, and I just take that, not trying to be malicious or hurt him. No, I still done a fucking horrible thing.
Okay. Are you talking about, Chad is saying you're talking about compassion, which means to suffer with, which is different than empathy. Are you trying to say that you're suffering with him, like you're moving into his suffering, which is different from empathy?
Mainly, I'm just saying that he was wronged.
Yes, but well, who is he wronged by? The universe,
Bella.
circumstance? Bella you can't wrong someone you don't have the intention to wrong. You can only
I don't think intent matters with as
It
far
has
as wronging. I think you can wrong people without intending to wrong them.
I think you can wrong, well, it depends on how you believe in values.
So was she
in
only
the
wrong by
universe.
stealing his money? Is that the only wrong she did?
That's the only wrong that I was upset about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. I
Um,
mean, yeah, I could
'Cause
see that perspective.
Because I don't think empathy
does-
is even like a point to be illustrated, because otherwise I think they would have made the sex work scene more like, we would have maybe felt more bad for Bella or more whatever. But once again, like, she didn't seem distraught. She didn't really seem to care. I don't think empathy was like the point or the push of this. And that's why, like, I don't really have empathy for any of these characters. I don't think anything happened to them like, nothing really happened to them. He got stranded in Paris, but once again, the assumption is he had enough money to get on the boat originally. he won this large lump sum of money, but then how much money did he end up taking from Bella? Would that not have been subsequent to him being kicked off in Paris? Right? If
I
your
don't know. You're
argument is
playing
that
all
if
this
your-
moral.
if
You're
your
playing
argument-
moral. You're playing a
wait,
game
if
of
your
moral
argument-
calculus, and that's not a game I'm playing. I don't
No,
like
your
that
argument
game.
was they didn't. I know.
Well,
but
I
I'm
think
just
it
saying-
is kind of an interesting, like maybe unintentional. I don't know if the movie intended, but it is interesting to look at it from a certain lens of maybe like women getting away with things because of whatever reason. We can feign naivety or use our
She
feminine
technically
wiles
survived
or
her
whatever.
circumstances. She didn't get away with anything.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
But maybe it is making a societal point that if you're a bad enough, actor, it doesn't
Like,
matter if other
In the
people
scene when she
mistreat
steals
you.
the money, I'm like, no, Bella, no. But from the perspective of that, she is being naive. So to me,
Like, oh, you idiot.
so yeah, so it's like if you get manslaughtered or something, you're dead either way. You're fucked over either way. But we are gonna judge the person who involuntary manslaughtered you differently than a person who
Right.
on
I'm not
purpose
judging-
planned out.
I'm
But
not
you're
judging her.
you're gonna empathize with the victim of the manslaughter either
Yeah.
way, even though they weren't Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah. I'm not saying that she's like a monster for doing that. I'm saying she's like dumb.
And I
for-
think it's okay to empathize with really bad people too. I
Of
think
course,
it's okay.
for
and
sure.
Human.
I just think it doesn't make you a better person because you can do that. There's not a hierarchy
No.
of it, right? It's just a neutral stance.
Well-
You're not bad if you don't do it. You're not good if you do it. You're just, that's what your relationship with it is. Right?
Yeah,
I
why
don't
are
know,
we
I
talking
think- I
about
think
better or
you're-
worse?
I was just
I
bringing
think
it
you're
up
bad
because
if you
it made
don't
me think of
empathize
it.
with bad
I just
That's
brought it up 'cause-
hierarchical thinking.
but that's why
I
it just made
actually-
me think of it,
really
right?
do
Like to
think
further
that
the
okay.
conversation.
I actually
Okay.
think that people are bad if they can't empathize with bad people.
But not all bad people, right? No one, you can't empathize universally with people. I don't believe it. I think you can
That's
only
true.
empathize with
That is
things.
absolutely
yeah.
true.
So like obviously we all have our type of bad person we can empathize with, right?
That's absolutely true. Yes, absolutely.
I think there's always a curiosity in me, like why? Why are you acting this way? Like that's.
But
that's
if
always
you don't
something
know
that
why,
makes-
then you're not
that's very
empathizing,
curious.
right? Because empathizing
Right.
would be to know.
Yeah.
Right.
If
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, the desire to know can lead to empathy
Agree.
based on what you find out.
Agree. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, he
not like,
should
oh, I
absolutely-
think they're great people, and I just want to be a pick me. But it's like this is such a disturbing pattern. I want to
Mm.
figure it out, and often in doing that, it's like, oh, that makes sense. You're human too.
Mhm,
I don't.
mhm.
He was a horrible person for putting her in the briefcase or whatever, and he like absolutely like when they landed in Paris, he should have called up his mom immediately and got the hell out of there and stopped stalking her and all that like crap. He's like what? He's like seriously like mentally ill and like deranged.
You wouldn't have a character if they just did the thing, right? Like that's like the whole point of like the character. So like I don't think he was like a bad guy or a horrible guy. I think that was like once again he's just a victim of his own circumstances, and that's the only like where like lack of empathy. But I don't really empathize with any of the characters because I don't think any of them were going through any like necessary turmoil or like hardcore struggle.
You know who I empathize with?
They all
the,
were.
pl- the aesthetic.
Mhm.
I felt
The
connected to
vibe.
the aesthetic. Like I really just didn't love any of the characters enough to care about
Mhm.
them deeply, but I really love like I could have lived in that
The
world.
world.
Yeah, I could have lived in the world a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Every
Or the fish- the
set,
fish
every set
island.
and scene, like the hotel rooms, the restaurants,
Even
all
the
of it was
boat in the
fucking
beginning
beautiful.
and then her dress,
Mhm.
like oh, vibes.
And that orange sky scene,
Mhm.
yeah, all of it was just candy.
I think with Duncan is he was primarily a victim of his own short-sightedness. And he, for the most part, created his own problems. In that he essentially unwittingly, very stupidly orchestrated the situation from where Bella could then steal from him. By trying to date a 16-year-old in the first place.
Mm.
I think
Like-
that's a really good point to make here too.
You know,
is like the fact that he chose this person who is naive and childlike, and that's what drew him to her, is ultimately what leads to his downfall too.
Also sexually manipulated her, right? The first thing he said was, I just want to pinch you. This excites her like extremely, and that's the only attachment she has to him really, is that he excited her whereas Max wouldn't initially. And that's the
It's-
only attachment she even really
it's like
has to
the-
him. is-
the
And
simple
that
is
he
that
offers
he's
to show
fucking
her the
himself-
world too.
Yeah, he's fucking himself over, which ultimately leads to him finding Bella, who then steals his money, and then also he continues on his death spiral of his mental breakdown by continuing to, instead of saying,
Remain
"Oh
in
shit,
this
I hit rock
situation.
bottom," he
You
kept
think
hitting
I'm at the rock
deeper
bottom? No.
Like I said in the beginning, I don't think Bella was a good or bad person. I just think she just did. I think
Mm.
that was like really like
I think that's a
that's
big
why I
part of
don't
her,
have
yeah.
like
Were the other
empathy for-
characters
yeah.
neutral too, or like?
No, they
in
were trying to
your-
portray like so you have
Okay.
like the simp and
So
like
the movie made it so that Bella was neutral, but the characters surrounding her were malicious actors, or
well not
good.
malicious,
They
but
they
they're
had
the
the
ones who had
values.
depth. They're the ones who had depth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they
Like,
were
that was-
malicious. I think that's the
yeah.
worst part. They were the worst kind of person, a person with
Yeah.
good intentions.
Yeah, they all
Yeah.
think that they're doing
Yeah.
what's best for her.
Yeah.
That is the worst because they're convicted.
Mm.
They're
Mhm.
convicted by their good intentions, which means they think they're right.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be
Yes.
more. Yeah.
They think they know better.
hmm
Yeah. I think that's what pissed me off the most. I'm like, oh, great, another group of men who think they know better for a woman. I'm so over it. you know?
I mean, I don't like that she
Ugh.
didn't even like pay attention or cater to it at
Mm.
all throughout the whole thing. She really didn't care to like the only thing she catered to was like this loyalty, which is why for me at the end it was like it made sense that she would end up back with these like people that she could see as family.
Yeah.
Because it seemed that loyalty was the
misfits,
only
too.
like it was the only
Yeah.
like thing that mattered to her throughout the whole. And that was really like
Mm.
defined to me when Henry asked like, why do you keep staying with him? And she's like, well, because I always think he'll be better.
Yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
so it's
that
like-
potential.
I got this little bit of like woman, the young woman charm, right? And like you being like in love with like the bad boy type, and like I can change him, he can change, because that's when she was going through her like empathy arc. But then like also just like she realizes she can't change people through the like through the sex work arc. She realizes she can't change people, and people just kind of are what they are, and she can do what she can, which is why I think all the weird sex things came out. I think she did finally break through to a point where like she allowed the men to enjoy it as, like while she was able to like not care, which is I think was like resembled by like the leg humping scene where she was just kind of like just whatever, and then the guy was just doing it, and I think that was what represented that she was like over the sex work because it brings her no joy. She feels nothing from this, so now she can just like move on. She doesn't feel joy from sex in the way that she did. It doesn't bring. It's not her happiness
Like the
anymore.
curiosity.
Yeah, I just took
is
from that was
fulfilled.
like, oh, this is my job, like this
yeah.
is just my job. I'm not
Mhm.
doing this for fun. Like
Yeah.
I'm doing this to
Yeah.
make money.
Or like the
Yeah.
mystery's over too, because there is a time in life.
Mhm.
I think we've all gone through this. We're like
Yeah.
really hyper curious. Everything's so amazing, and then all right, I
This
know.
is
what
like you
this
realize,
is.
oh, sex isn't like
That's what
And
it
sex
is.
work-
It's the day to
sex
day.
work has that.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Like,
definitely.
She
Yeah,
did
big
enjoy it. Like
time.
there was that one guy she said that you have a gift to him, and
the priest.
and there,
He was a
like, there was like,
priest.
and she had like some really like emotional moments with some of those men. So I don't know. I feel like
Mhm.
she was kind of enjoying it like as much as she could.
Well, she was enjoying the like the connection building and like the finding the joy within the thing. I think like that was like her like the socialist thing that everyone should be like. I think she realized or tried to learn the like she wants to make people happy, and then through the sex work is her realization that she can't. So she has this empathy, like she sees these people or this guilt, like Maiden was saying about like I'm sleeping on feathers, they're sleeping on dirt. So she tries to give all her money away. Well, then, okay, she can't she can't fix the world, so maybe she can fix the individuals that she's working with. Realizes
Mhm.
that she can't because once again, the whole description of well, the men enjoy the fact that you don't enjoy it. And I think that was like a click for her, where like, okay, I can try to do what I can here, and then the eventual realization was like, you can only fix the people that are like with you, like the people that are willing to like do it. So that's why she settles to me on like these people that she may not have any
She
like
does.
affection
Yeah, she
or
does
anything for,
settle.
but she settles for these people that are loyal. I can grow with these people. They understand me and they let me be who I am. And like because that's why I think Max was like a really big deal. He was the simp and then like the friend zone thing to me. I was like, well, he's this man who lets me be who I am, and so I
In
want
reality,
him around me.
he's just a placeholder. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why which is why I think she sees him as like the brother, and why she has Antoinette there as like my sexual pleasure, my family, my brother, the kid that I'm raising, which is like the new one, and potentially the pet with the goat.
It's
you
very
know?
autistic. It's like, yes, I have all the things.
Yeah,
Do.
that's
Yeah.
exactly what I saw for her. Exactly.
Yeah.
I do actually wonder about what Smith mentioned about her misandry arc or her developing the misandry, because she got to know a few different tropes of men, but it seems like the most like just number wise men that she got to know are the types of men who solicit full service sex work,
Mm.
which isn't all men, but it is all kinds of men, but it is a category of men. And then there's like, categories within men of like the level, I suppose, of sex work that they would solicit, like purchasing OnlyFans, watching porn, going to the strip club, getting a lap dance, and then full service sex work or camming or phone sex, etc. So she experienced a specific subsection of a subsection of men who, although diverse in their own right, do have that one thing in common. And I do wonder how that factored into her development and potential misandry
I think that's why
arc.
the scene with the priest was pretty, because I think that was the last person in the scenery of like the men she was having sex with. I think that was when she's like, "You're really gifted at this." So for her, she's like, "Oh, like I enjoyed this sex, this." But then he walks through and he goes say and he says, "L'addiction," like it's just an addiction, which I think that kind of clicked for her. It's like, "Oh, you don't even enjoy that you're good at this, right? This is just to be done with." And I think that's when it really like set in for her, like, oh, this is like what I'm doing isn't even like, it's not even worth it.
Did anybody understand the madam biting?
Yeah. Well, like I mean, she was just obsessed with other women. I think they really look like in Hollywood they can do a lot. And they always do a lot with female characters, and they didn't do a lot with her. They really accentuated her wrinkles, and she
And
comes
her
in with the full
tattoos.
body or tattoos, like a whole, and she's like, oh, and I feel like her beauty was like completely dried up.
Mm.
I
I
thought
thought it
she
was.
was she was kind of sexy in her own right,
Mhm.
but also like they were going for like
Yeah.
the dried
Her
up
glory
woman.
days were
I
behind
thought it
her.
was like a
Yeah.
Yeah.
mama tiger type thing because she loved her
Mm.
the most, and so like for me it was almost like I've had girlfriends that be affectionate and they'll like bite your arm or whatever it may be, and she was kind of like usually with the people who run like the houses, the sex work houses, whorehouse, I don't know what to say,
Mhm.
but usually they're very like paternal over like the people, at least it's how it's described in like movies and stuff. And so that's what it was seemed to me, is like she came in, she's like, "Oh, you don't only care for me, you care for me because I make money." She's like, "Well, no, I feed you because I love you." And then she lays in bed with her, and then
Mm.
at the end gives her the bite. So I did really feel like it was like a mama tiger, because she's like this tigress who had introduced her to this world where she can have money. She even says like we're the means of our own production when she's walking away. So maybe there was like this maternal, like that was the maternal figure.
I got the
I
hint
think
that
it
she
was
wanted to kind of suck the life out of these women and scar them for life.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Like
I
negative,
didn't.
maybe? Go ahead, Arena.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can
yeah,
see
I
that.
thought of oh sorry. I thought of the biting stuff as a display of power and control.
Mm.
Yeah.
Maybe mixed with the because
Well, even
though
mommy
the
tigers do
movie
it for that
That's
reason.
why
Yeah.
mama tigers are doing it. Yeah, exactly. I'm
Mhm.
thinking of my cats. I have one
Mm.
kitten and one
Wait.
older cat, and the older cat like
parental
will remind the kitten every now and again, like, "Hey, you're the kitten. I'm the older one.
Yeah,
I
Mm.
love
I
you,
think
but
the
you're."
madam I think the madam was like, did she care for Bella? Maybe see herself in Bella in some ways, sure. But the girls in the brothel are like, she's profiting off of them. And she also took in a girl who she could sense, and I think in a unique way sense what she even probably better understood the position Bella was in as a woman, that Bella doesn't understand the social implications and consequences and potential traumas of sex work. And then Bella starts to try and make those improvements and whatever, and she puts her in her place. So I think it was like a mix of like a power and control dynamic, and then like maybe some like wish to mentor her, but the biting specifically I think was like
So
a dominant show of dominance.
I agree that she was like slightly maybe manipulative, but I felt like the madam was always direct. So when she first like asked her if there's a hotel, she's like, "Well, there are rooms. You can get paid. You'll get paid 30 quid. You give me 10 or whatever the money amount was." But in terms of like control, the reason I see it as more paternal is because usually if they want to like depict the madam or the pimp as like controlling, they wouldn't have been able to leave. They don't have their own agency. She was able to speak up and say like even have like some somewhat confrontative like discussion with one of the customers, right? There was no like combativeness from the madam. And the fact that her and Antoinette were both like going to school and like were able to leave is why I didn't necessarily see the madam as like controlling or very manipulative, but rather like as shitty as this is, she literally says, she's like, this is the quickest way to make a buck.
But
And
what do
I
you
think
think
she
about
recognizes that
when she talks about her sick grandchild?
she was
And
taking care of,
that's
right?
part of the right, and part of the lesson of like, this is why we don't choose who we sleep with. Like, I have this sick child. And I don't know, maybe this is just me,
I think
but I did
I'm
feel
missing
that.
what was the scenes like specific? Because I
So
don't
it
know
was
what.
when I think it was when Bella was talking about like how she would improve the brothel,
Yeah.
and the madam basically uses her sick grandbaby, in my opinion, as like an ace up her sleeve, which then, because Bella was considering, I think, either improving the place or leaving at that point. And the madam presents this sick child, which then gives Bella another purpose to continue in the brothel.
If I'm
so
not,
it,
yeah.
it
Well,
is a
that's
human moment, but it does feel as an employer to an employee that I don't know if that's necessarily
Like
Yeah.
manipulating you to
Also-
say like, I have this baby, this is why we don't do these things. But then, is the baby
It could
ever
be
brought up
layered.
again?
Okay, there's more manipulate. Like the one that goes along with that is when Bella's saying, "Well, don't you think we should be able to choose?" And then the black girl stands up for her, and she's like, "No, you're gonna do it for free." And then there she's like,
Yeah.
"Oh shit." And so like that's like whoa. And also when she goes in and she lays with Bella, she tells Bella, "You're my favorite," and Bella's like, I know you tell that to all of them.
Mhm.
Okay.
And
So,
that's when she
you know,
says, I
but-
don't bring all of them food or something like that.
Yeah, but forgive
Some-
me if I'm wrong, because in the beginning, I felt like she was made to be manipulative and maybe chose Bella as her favorite, but also adorned her because she was like also living vicariously through her and also using Bella in the same way. And like Bella was a prize. I don't know if she authentically loved Bella, but I know that she loved that Bella came into her life.
Yeah.
Well, that's the whole thing when I was saying they keep playing with like love and infatuation. I think everyone was
Mm.
infatuated with Bella. I don't think
Yeah,
anyone
or
loved
attached.
Bella.
Which,
even.
by the way, is a common trope with autistic women. People love them. They're attracted to them. They think they're so interesting. But then when they really get to know them, they're like, this is too much.
Which is
And they have to
infatuation.
deal
Now,
with
you
their
don't love the
sensory
person, you love the
issues.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This person will listen to me. Oh, this person
Yes.
wants to see this world of adventure and blah blah. I can provide this adventure, and when I can't provide this adventure, it's oh fuck, I don't love you anymore. Well, you never
Mhm.
loved me to begin with. You only
Yeah.
loved what like the idea that you had, or the like yeah.
Or the way I made you feel because I asked you all these things about yourself or made you feel vulnerable with me or
Mhm.
made you, yeah. I think there's a
You
lot
feel
of that.
powerful. You feel strong. You feel like this dominant figure because you're next to this like child essentially. And so
Mm.
like now this wonder is gone. Oh shit,
And
you're
it's
actually you can
curious
actually-
about you. It wants to know
'Cause
about you. It's like, yeah.
He gets mad at her on the cruise for reading, right? He goes, "You've been reading an awful lot lately," and then he gets the book and he throws it into the river, and then
Mhm.
Martha gives her another book. He
Yeah.
throws that. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
there was a whole thing with like, oh, she's becoming her own person. I don't get to be this.
Which
this
He's
is,
not-
cool fi- You don't look up
He's
to
not
me
even
anymore.
like the sole supplier of her
No.
answers, right?
Yes.
Like she's getting
Yeah.
information from elsewhere.
which is
Yeah,
why
and
I
it's
The
don't
like-
love.
the main influence. Yeah.
That's
Which is
why
like
I- yeah.
for guys, that's why men will say they want to date youngers. They want to mold the person. I wanna
Ding,
out-
ding, 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 ding.
Exactly.
That is
I
a
can
trope
teach you
of a
things, I can
certain
blah,
type
blah,
of
blah. Well,
man.
the second they
Yep.
stop learning from you, you're now useless. Now you feel insecure.
That's
Now
why
there's
I say
insecurity in you.
I'm not totally against age gap relationships, but I hesitate to believe that if you date them young enough, they're not going to outgrow you. And when they do, you get mad at them, but you pick them young to mold them. And when they outgrew you, you're upset now, which is why, again, no matter the age of the person, regardless of gender, like it's not the age, but the gender of the person, there's like that type of person that picks people like Bella to mold and manipulate them. And then when it doesn't go their way, they throw a bitch fit.
Mhm.
So it was never about the agency of Bella. It was always about their selfish desire to control something and have a pet.
And even in the bitch fit, even when they realized like, okay, this isn't the person I want, he was still attached to her and said, well, no, I can look past, I can forgive you for what you've done, so long as we go back to like status quo
Yep,
beforehand.
exactly.
So it was
Right.
And
really
then
showing that
what
like,
happens when he doesn't get his way? He brings the devil back into her life. The devil.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, like if he can't have her the way he wants her, then
Yep. Then
he's
she
gonna
can't have what
make
she,
sure
Mhm.
that she can't have what she wants
Which is
either.
Right.
why she ended up staying with Max, because I think that discussion with Max when she's like, well, no, I'm married to you, and he's like, well, no, there's no binding there, right? I think that's why she ended up keeping him around, is like she realized, oh, he's not gonna do the manipulative thing. I may not have this burning lust for him, but he's someone I should have around. He lets me be me. He understands me for me
Sure.
and doesn't.
Right.
So I would call that like a settling relationship in which it's not the ideal, but it's safe.
Mhm.
And sometimes people settle
Yeah.
for safety and comfort.
Yeah, she feels safe with Max. She knows he's not going to
Right.
manipulate
that's
her
why
in
she
the
doesn't
way that
have a
other
peer,
people
right?
have.
And that's
But
why she doesn't
yeah,
have an
that's
equal. It's like he
mhm.
adores
Well,
her, but she just
Mhm.
like looks at him like, okay,
she's
like
not capable of having an equal anymore because like every time like so like that adventurous like desire she's excited by the men's like passion and stuff early on, and then she was burned by it at every single like point.
Well,
So now she's not capable of being in a relationship with someone who's her equal anymore, unless
well,
they're a
wait.
woman.
You actually bring up a really good point because like the whole hypergamy thing, right? Equal or better than. And if she's like supposedly this super smart, like intelligent person, she's also a surgeon. She is, I mean, clearly autistic with the way she like categorizes people and see things. Does she even have an equal, or does she see anybody as equal at all?
But then, so
Like, is equality a thing for her? Does she recognize that equality isn't real? Therefore, that's why she's living in this, like, how, like, you guys paint her as, like, she's, like, the leader of the household. I think she's just maybe, like, understanding.
I think she's coming to understand like the hierarchy because that's like what is foreign to her. She
Mhm.
just takes everyone at like equal value, and then she's like, "Oh, no." And then it happens over and over and over, and then she's like, "Okay, this is a thing." You know, the social hierarchy. Yeah.
Which is why I think it's, like, interesting that she assumes this, like, patriarchal role. And which is why,
Yeah.
like, through the whole movie, like, the first time I
Which-
watched it, I was, like, trying to see her as, like, this woman that's going, because the description is, like, this woman going through this and that. And it's like, I watched the movie, I was like, she isn't really going through much of anything. She's just kind of doing it. Everyone else around her is going through shit. She's just
Yeah.
like, I want to do this. I'm going to do this.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah, and I
right.
guess I can agree. Like for the flow of the movie, the ending did fit. I just didn't like it. But anyway.
Once again, just I did not mean to like shit on like an
Oh
opinion. My
yeah.
apologies.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
also, do we keep calling him Henry or Harry? Because I googled it.
he
It's
is
Harry.
he is
It's Harry.
Harry. I am stupid. I
It is
cannot read.
Harry.
I've been
I
Okay,
wrote
I
it
was
down.
so confused. I was like, I googled it because I was like, we're fucking this up. It's got to be because like it's Harry.
I just called him the black guy.
That's nice. There you go.
Okay,
That is
Harry
so
and Max,
funny.
my boys. I do think it's interesting, actually. Ollie, you brought up the hypergamy thing, but the thing is, Bella doesn't end up being hypergamous. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of think it's kind of an interesting concept anyway, because in a healthy relationship, even like whether one person is more intelligent or has more money or whatever, you come together as a team, right? And
Mhm.
I don't know. I am not here for the Max McCandles hate. I love that man. I think that the fact that he sees her as a human being and also is okay, like more than okay, like is secure in the fact that she has her agency, that I think is actually pretty big. I think that is like it's one of the things that basically no other character other than Antoinette shows her in the movie, is actually being 100% okay with her agency. And Godwin, like as her father, he also like shows her that is when he lets her run off with Duncan, he does show her that is like how people should react to you wanting to express your agency. So I think her being attached to Max, whether it is in a brother way or a romantic way, whichever. Maybe they're in a throuple. Did we ever consider that?
Oh.
That's
I don't think
she.
because she's expressed that, like, I think she laughed at Max when he expressed like sexual intrigue and interest. Like she kind of like brushed it off. I don't think she had any desire for him. That's more what I was
maybe
going
it's because
with.
she thought it was cute. Because she might be. I don't remember when they had that conversation, because I do remember her being horny for
It was
him,
when
and
they were
then later
strolling
not as
at the
much.
end.
Yeah, it's. I think she's like, oh, she's already had so much experience with sexuality that's not even like.
Yeah.
What
It
she's
might not be
thinking
a
about.
thing on her, right? Like it might not
That's
even be a thing on the
relatable.
radar.
As a sex
Yeah.
worker, that's very
Yeah.
relatable. Sex just gets really old very fast, unfortunately. Like it's different when you love somebody, but still sort of like, okay, like there's more interesting things in life.
Which is why I don't think she sees him in that way, because she has no desire for it in general, potentially, right? And then she doesn't see the desire within him. So, and like for me, like the difference between like I guess like a romantic relationship and like a deep friendship or a brother would be the sex that would be involved in like within it, right? And so that's why I think at the end of it, it was less about sex, relationship.
Yeah.
I don't think she was married to anyone. I don't.
That's actually
That's
true.
why like I think she was just like, all right, cool, I have these people around me, and I just think she was really like she essentially fell into like just a patriarchal role. Where like,
If a
well, no
woman,
one's gonna
yeah, if a
control
woman
me.
is
I'm in control.
allosexual and she loves you, there will be sex. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
or
we
lots of
don't-
intimacy to some extent, right?
Yeah. Well, I,
But
I clarified by like allosexual, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
a lot of women now, like not most women, but a lot of women do end up kind of especially after teenagehood having like less high of a sex drive, or like less, obviously not all women. I
But
don't
it
know
shoots
about
back up
Bella,
in
we
their
don't know about
30s,
Bella.
right?
Something like,
Her
yeah,
drive was so high.
as you get closer to menopause. But it's so that is a phase that women go through, and they don't really get into that developmental stage of Bella or anything like that. But I do think that like whatever the relationship between her and Max is, whether it is romantic or familial, she does love him.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think
Mhm.
I do think that they have a connection because of his respect of her agency as a man. So she hasn't really, like, other than the madam, which even then, like, she was able to like leave. Like, she wasn't, physically, she was physically able to leave. Whereas with a man, like, if he can physically overpower her, that's it, right? Like what happened with Duncan. So she knows that women will not be a threat to her agency. She doesn't necessarily know that about men until Max, and then also until Godwin
Well,
lets her.
did her father
I
try to
think
restrain
it-
her?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, her father tried to restrain her.
Did he,
are you
or did he
saying-
not?
No.
No,
He let
no,
her
not
go.
really.
Like, once
He let her go.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, okay.
He said, like, go on, do your thing.
Right,
which, like,
okay.
I think, yeah. But then she meets all these men who do
Mm.
want to limit her agency.
I get it.
I mean, Harry didn't want to limit her agency either, which is what he stuck out in my mind as well. In fact, he like introduced her to like
A
a little bit
philosophy.
more knowledge from a naive perspective, because I do think he was her peer at the time that they met.
Sure.
But I think like the thing with Max is like, is that thing. And like, at least for me, in my experience as a woman, when I do meet men that aren't a threat to my agency, they stick in my brain, and like I have a deep appreciation for them.
Max, not now. You guys are you kind of are making Max seem like the fallback guy, the guy that was in love with me, but I'm gonna go explore my life, and he'll
For
be
sure.
back
That's
kinda
here
what he
waiting
felt
for
to
For
me.
sure.
All,
That's
all
how I
men
felt to
must pay
you
for
think-
the sins of the worst men, and yeah.
Do you
yeah,
think that she
That's why
doesn't
this is-
necessarily view marriage as like a love or sex match, but like she's viewing her marriage with Max
says it's a
from
practical-
just more of
Yeah,
like
practical.
a
She
says it
familial,
herself.
yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
He said it's just practical.
So she gets her sexual fulfillment elsewhere. That's not an
Well, that's why
important
she-
But we
factor
don't-
in
That's why
We
she
don't
said
her
really-
dynamic.
she'll do furious jump. She's when she told Duncan, like, oh well, I'm betrothed to Max, but I'll only do furious jumping with you since you're the best. And so
Right, yeah. She has
But
two
she hasn't even
very clear
experienced. She hasn't even
categories that
experienced
she's putting
Max,
people
right?
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, she hasn't
You are
experienced
for
Max.
this,
don't
and you
know.
are for this, and you are for this.
Very
Yeah.
categorized.
That's why the
Use
autism
Arius,
thing was
which
so
is-
like boom, boom,
It is an
boom.
autism
Everyone has
thing.
their
It's also
role.
usurious, and it's power centric.
Yeah. The categorization's great. I do appreciate that. Like, she knows where everything goes on the
Okay,
yeah.
I think that is what I like related to her the most. Like, I am like so deeply aware of like my own like inherent self-deception as an autistic woman. Like, to me, it's painful to like have that experience. So
Yeah.
I see it celebrated on this film, and it doesn't feel realistic to me.
Okay. Oh, I had one question. My mom would say that she said that if an actor made you hate them on screen and that was their character, they're good at acting. And I do think Mark
Mhm.
Ruffalo knocked it out of
Yes.
the park because I
Yes, because I
fucking-
love him. I love him, and he was so easy to hate.
He
in that
played
He
the
movie.
did really
role
good.
Very
He-
well.
amazingly.
He threw a tantrum better than any 2-year-old I've ever seen in my life. It was so
This-
good.
The scene that solidified him as like which is why like I give him the slight empathy when she runs into the bathroom after he like takes her out of the casket and he like jumps in the bed and he looks away. He's like, he was like distraught. He's like, damn, I thought this was gonna work. Which I was like, I saw like the child like in him, right? He's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I
At
was like,
one
okay,
moment,
Yeah.
yeah.
that's where like the maliciousness left.
Where
of,
you're
the
like,
trunk
what
situation.
happened
I was
to
like,
you, you
oh.
poor child? You are
Mhm,
just as
mhm.
part of this messy feedback loop as everyone
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Which is why when I stopped seeing him as like malicious or mean or like even and I just saw him as an archetype. When I saw that scene, I was like, oh, and when I realized it was a cruise and not just like an individual boat, that would have been
Yeah.
That would have been different. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So how did you feel about the actors in general? I feel like everyone kind of played the role kind of perfect. I didn't have any complaints about the casting at all. I didn't even think about it that much.
Henry
I-
was really, even though I really liked Henry, he was not a good actor.
Harry?
Oh, actually, I take that back. I do agree. Harry felt a little stale.
Yeah, it was flat, very flat.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Actually, he had like his speech. I didn't like his speech pattern or the way he spoke. I think, but otherwise, like his
That's
aesthetic,
how. Yeah.
I liked his aesthetic, but the way he articulated it was interesting.
I think his speech pattern was meant to be like kind of like a young, pretentious, intellectual
Oh, I
young
see.
man.
Yeah, I think
And
he was doing
so
that on purpose
handsome.
as part
Yeah,
of
he
his
was-
He
persona.
hangs out with the
Yeah.
older, like worldly woman, and he takes care of her.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah,
gets
he
all
just
that.
learned
Yes.
philosophy.
And they have
like,
this aesthetic about them.
Well, then it
including
worked
how
too.
they-
Then he killed it
Right.
too because I felt a way about it. There you go. He killed it too.
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. No, I think the casting was really, really well done.
Ooh.
The performances were all really well done. Like,
Yeah.
bravo to them.
Yeah.
When I first saw it, I was so annoyed that Rami Youssef was going to be in because I don't typically like him as an actor, but he did good in his role.
Wait, who's that?
Max.
Max. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
What Maiden were you gonna say?
Golden. Oh, I just had a. So I want to talk about the title of the movie because it's called Poor
Yeah.
Things.
Why is it called Poor Things?
Plural. Maybe it's because everyone was the victim of Bella, or was it
Of
because
themselves?
yeah,
Yeah. Did we?
So what do we think about that?
Yeah. What do we think about that? Poor Things. Are we
Well,
I
done?
think it's like a
They were the ones with
commentary
the
on-
struggles. Like the poor things, like
Mm.
you're the ones going through the struggles. Max is jealous. You have the father who's like doesn't know whether to let his daughter go. What happens? You have the abandoned husband, right? They're all technically going through their own shit. Like as much empathy as you don't want to ascribe to the husband, we don't know if Victoria wasn't enjoying the cruelty. We don't know really why she killed herself. So all the husband knows is, my wife went missing and you guys took her away from me, and he tried to bring her back the joy. Like, so when he spooked the maid and she dropped all the soup all over herself, she said, "What did we do to enjoy ourselves?" And then he did that, and then he started laughing. He's like, "Oh, you used to love that. You never cared about polite society or any of those things," which was a really big focus of this movie. Everything was catered to like polite society. When she
yeah.
first gets
Bella
caught
just
like touching herself
blew that up.
Yeah.
by Duncan, she goes, "Oh, did you see me? I know it's not polite." And he goes, "I don't care about polite." Everyone didn't care about
It's a
polite society,
recurring theme.
but they all had
But
their
it-
opinions of it and conducted themselves within the polite society. That because even
Except for Bella.
except for Bella, but even Harry, when he was doing it, like he realized like, "Oh, I'm such a cynic that I wanted you to be a cynic. I wanted to hurt you so you could also be a cynic," which is like, you're just falling to a different archetype within polite society. You're so anti-polite society that you're your own fucking cog within it, you know?
I think the title was just
Too.
I think the title was just trying to obfuscate, like just trying to be like allude to something that wasn't really there, like a lot of things in the movie.
Mm.
I
Mm.
think also the poor things. Bella engaged with her agency and her free will, but not every character did. So Duncan, for example, I think is the biggest example of a character that didn't engage with his agency or free will. I think also maybe Max, maybe Godwin to an extent. I think Bella was the example of a
Madam.
character who, like I think she very much had like unapologetically, which like what you brought up, Ali, like she was really outside of polite society, but she ended up like integrating into it in her own way. And when you were bringing up the everybody not caring about polite society, I think that's just a reflection of everybody. I think as long as you can go to the grocery store and act normal, then you're part of polite society, you know?
Mm.
Like, and then whatever you're doing in your own home, that's really not anybody else's business, right? We can just see the displays of people's weirdness with the advent of the internet, but otherwise everybody has their own idiosyncrasies.
They all want to be unique,
Mm.
and Bella is just unique in
So-
by
so
not
we
doing
think-
or trying anything. And so they're all trying to like, so with Bella, she's just like trying to explore and like understand herself or like what's going on in the world. And they're all trying to control her, understand her, see it for her, do things. And it's like she's the only person who's just living, whereas everyone else is either trying to like not be boring, try to display that they're they're outside of the norm and they're better than polite society in each step of the
They're
way. And
too
she's
afraid.
just like, it's just she sees it as like an act every single time. She's like, "Well, you don't do this. You don't do." I actually am the only person who lives outside of polite society without being rude or hateful or malicious to anyone.
Well, she was
You
kind
think-
of rude a couple times. Like,
She was rude, but it's
Well,
not
I
malicious.
shouldn't have said rude. I shouldn't have said rude.
Maybe not
sorry.
malicious, but she was definitely harmful.
yeah,
Criminal.
she definitely had moments. She definitely had moments. Okay, wait, Maiden, you were gonna say something?
Oh, so do we think Bella was excluded from the S in the Poor Things? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was she excluded from it?
I think
Because like
No.
from my purview, of course, no, everyone is Poor Things.
yeah, I think
I don't
it's
think she's a poor
everyone.
thing.
I think it's all of them.
I think it could be either way depending on how you want to see it, but I would include.
I mean, I'm not saying what do we
instinctually.
definitely think
Yeah,
was
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
intent. I'm saying like how did you read it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would include her in that, but I think we all are poor things. I think like humanity
Yeah.
is as a unit.
Yeah, we're all thrown into the here and now, having to deal with it.
Yeah, and then the thing of it is how do you suffer wisely? And I think that's sort of like the mystery of life. Now, I'm curious, do you think that her getting pregnant, this is such a like a fan theory, like do you think her getting pregnant is what made her realize like I can't stay in this sadistic bubble? Is there some sort of narrative in Bella in which her desire to be better came from maybe her being pregnant, but she couldn't figure it out, so she just killed herself? Like I'm trying to think like how does a woman going from
Victoria?
being I'm sorry?
Victoria? Because you said Bella.
I'm sorry, Victoria. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Victoria. So like Victoria kills herself, but is it to save, I guess would that be Bella? Is that how I say it?
To save, I guess,
Yeah,
yeah,
to
Bella
save
would be the baby.
Yeah.
Bella. So I
Save the
wonder
yeah.
because I wonder if she had that realization because it's one thing to
She
be an
couldn't
adult.
let the baby come into existence.
Maybe, like, because
Oh.
if she enjoyed being a bitch
Yeah.
when she was with her ex-husband, then
Mhm.
maybe
Yeah.
she had that change in her, which made. But maybe I don't know. Maybe that's a total like. Oh, who
Well,
knows?
you'd have to take Alfie at his word, right? Which I think you're not meant to do. I think you're supposed to read Alfie as a
Oh.
liar. And so when Alfie says, like when she asks, well, why did I kill myself? And Alfie says, well, because of the baby. You thought the baby was a monster. If we're looking at Alfie as a liar and a manipulator and all
I don't
that,
see
then
him
it
as a
makes
liar.
sense.
He's just impressive. I don't. He.
Yeah, but they
He forces
manipulate
people
yeah.
to lie to him, but he doesn't lie to other people. He's like
Oh.
you.
But I
He's like he pulls out the gun and he's like you have to pretend that everything. But every time she asks him a direct question, he's completely direct and like straight faced. Like says everything straight. Like he says, I'm literally giving you this drink so that I can cut off your clit and then impregnate you.
Yeah, but
Like-
so like if we're okay, so she kills herself while she's like pregnant pretty far along, and she says the baby is a monster. So like we can assume that like at least for me, I can assume that Victoria might not have wanted to be. Maybe she enjoyed her time with Alfie, but didn't want to
Could've been
get
the ending.
pregnant. Didn't want to get pregnant
Sorry.
by Alfie and have a kid. So in having the kid, she goes, "Oh, I can't bring this kid into the world. This is horrible." Goes and jumps, and that's why I think Alfie then painted it as, "Well, you hated the baby," because she might have hated the baby. She might have hated the fact that a monster was coming into this world, right? She could have done all these complaints and then went and killed herself. I just don't think. I think she was potentially the character that was Victoria would have been too afraid of Alfie to actually emphasize or say these things. So Alfie's not necessarily lying, but the picture that he's painted in the world that he has, that is the truth for him. And it is a lie to like I don't think we should take it as the truth of the character that is Victoria, which is why I
For
call
sure.
her.
Victoria probably didn't
Yeah.
share her true thoughts or intentions with him.
Yeah. Victoria probably like didn't know what else to do when Alfie was cruel because as Smith pointed out, Alfie creates an environment where you're forced to lie to him to survive.
True.
And if this is the Victorian times where he literally owns her and she didn't like consent to this marriage, it just happened to her, she would very quickly learn that to
Like make
stay
the best of the situation.
you need to be like, oh, haha, or whatever. And like, however he interprets it is however he interprets it. But
Mm.
like, if he's satisfied with his wife lying to him, as the scene that Smith just said when he tells Bella like what's going to happen to her, if he's satisfied with his wife just lying to him, then it is what it is. Like at the end of the day, his household is just about him and what he wants rather than what's best for the team. So I do think that Victoria probably killed herself because A, the pregnancy was probably not consensually conceived. B, like she probably doesn't want to have a baby with a guy like that where she constantly has to lie to him to live and survive. And then depending on the baby's gender, that
Maybe
might
watch the
affect
baby suffer terribly.
either watch
Yeah.
the baby suffer or if the baby's a boy, watch another man grow up
Oh,
to
good
be
point.
like him.
Good point.
Right? So
And suffer.
And suffer.
and suffer.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Men
Victoria
are
had
victims
good
of the
reasons.
patriarchy just as much as women.
Well, he would have been like he would have been like what was the God Godwin, he would have been like a kid that was abused into being an abuser.
Mm.
Hmm. Yep.
You ever hear
Or
like
he might
Doobie
have
tell
been
that
like
story about
Dudley.
having to like kill puppies? Is that even a true story? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
I don't know, like a year ago, like Doobie, like the Discord guy, like he's just on streams all the time on panels. He was talking about how his dad like forced him to like kill puppies.
That sucks.
Damn. Trauma.
Yeah.
It could also be like the type of
Do they
trauma
live on a
that
farm? Sorry.
oh, the puppy people. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like there's the other possibility of the baby becoming an abuser by like Harry Potter. What's that kid's name? Dudley.
No, yeah.
What's his name?
Mhm. The cousin?
No, I know, but what's his first name?
Dudley.
Dudley is his first name.
Dudley
Oh, okay.
Dursley. Yeah.
Dursley.
Yeah,
okay.
it's a
The Dursley.
double D
Dudley.
situation.
Yes, which is also kind of an abusive situation, but I think like if you just have a father, like let's say that views his son as like, oh, you're gonna be just like me, and then like just demonstrates abuse towards the mother, I do think that's still an abusive situation, but it's a different kind of abuse versus like getting beat or getting forced to kill puppies or anything. Yeah, there's like two different ways.
Dudley's more of a toxic environment with toxic parents who make him into a toxic person so they can all be toxic together. But like they adore him. They spoil him. It's a different kind of toxicity. It's a different kind of bad parenting than the other kind that makes you kill puppies.
Yeah.
I feel like the best ending would have been actually if Bella killed herself and then the whole thing repeated over again at that point. She got pregnant,
Ooh.
killed herself, and then it repeated.
Damn.
And then Max
pregnant with
was
Duncan's
the
kid.
one who does it. Max is the one who does it, and then he tells
And he
her,
finds his manhood
Yo.
and finally
That'd be
and you see
crazy.
her cuddling him, and like instead of Godwin or whatever, and he's like telling her like this fake story about like what happened to her parents, and it's like another like weird like Toy Store move story, but you've heard it before because it's from the movie.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
That would, the science was already crazy with the whole brain into the other body thing, but then now a dead body also having a baby, like, I don't know if we could handle it.
Oh yeah,
the
is
body
she
didn't
fertile?
die.
'Cause
No, she can't
was-
be
bo-
fertile. She's not fertile.
Did he remove her
Why?
uterus?
Well, we don't
The body
know
didn't-
when
wait,
he
the body
took
didn't
the
die.
baby out.
The body didn't die. He explicitly said he was like in
Yeah.
between. Rigor hadn't set in. There was enough electricity.
Yeah, it
to
was
keep
her
it alive.
brain
Well,
was
this is-
dead,
He
right?
decided. Okay,
fantasy world
Godwin
anyway.
decided he could have kept Victoria alive.
He
but
could have
he said-
resuscitated her. Yeah.
He said, which to someone's free will. I mean, I guess if you want to call it free will, but he said, well, she chose to kill herself. Who am I to bring her back to a life that
Oh.
clearly she had discarded? So for me, it made more sense and was more plausible to take the baby head and put it out. So
Damn.
technically, he did kill and finish
point.
off the kill to Victoria,
Good
and he
point.
fulfilled her wishes. So
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Though wasn't killing her baby kind of part of the process of killing herself? I kind of feel
well,
like
if you think
that's
the
why he's
body
God. That's why
is
he
the
plays
body
God.
the baby or is the brain the baby?
Yeah,
Why
that's
did
a
he
good point,
waste
good
the
point.
brain? That he could have put the brain into one of the chicken goats or whatever. And then
He
Maybe he
wanted to-
did.
Because
Well,
maybe
no,
he did.
He respected
Allie
his
was
wish to
saying,
die.
Mm.
Victoria's brain didn't want to continue.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
he
yeah.
was trying to be respectful of that.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Morals are so different for other people, aren't they? It's so interesting. I mean, everyone's got a line. Hey, that's pretty funny.
Which is why the
That really
sex of the baby
I'm
matters.
disappointed to
him
be
so
about
much.
Henry.
Mhm.
When Henry was like, "Oh, she actually wants to die. Go ahead." I hated that about Henry. Like, come on, dude.
Harry. His name's
Harry.
Harry. You have to say Harry.
That's why
Harry
like,
and
he-
Henry
yeah.
are like versions of the same name, though, right?
Right?
Like Prince
They are.
Harry's name is
Sure.
actually Henry.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Weird. Like
But
Jack.
that's
and
why
I don't
the
know.
neutrality, I kept hugging into the neutrality of it, and I really wanted to know like the gender of the baby or the sex of the baby because it was like I don't know why it matters so much.
It
to me,
matters
the
to-
brain,
yeah.
right? Because you're like, well, if the baby was a boy, because everyone relates like the boy to the body, right? The phenotype. But like, okay, if you take a baby boy brain and then you put it in an adult woman, it kind of
Bella's trans.
That's what I was wondering.
Bella is
too.
trans.
well, is she trans? Because once again, she didn't really do any like she wasn't like womanly, but I feel like she was like displaying like what we see as like male characteristics, which is like the logic and the however, but like I don't. It was just that was the whole thing that
But
was.
that's
like,
also autism coded too.
Yeah.
Well, but we also relate. Also, I mean, at least for me, I've noticed that like people more usually relate autism to like males.
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure.
Well, that's
So
why
the
it's
autism
male
coded
coded
also
because it's
was
a
like, oh,
male
maybe this
type
was a male
style
brain.
I wonder if the
Mm.
omission of the baby's sex makes the point that it's the experience that shapes you, the body that experiences
Yeah.
these things that
How the
matters
world
more.
perceives
That's what
you.
I think. That's what
Yeah.
I think.
Mr. Blank Slate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it
Now,
wasn't performative, but it was like subjugation, right? It's like
Mm.
she's not performing as a woman, but everyone is treating her as such. And so it's
Yeah.
like even with the lack of performance, people are still gonna see you in this like certain way, and almost like so like the brain gender doesn't matter. It's kind of
Or
like what I
maybe
was
she was
like
even
getting
like
from that.
masking, like, okay, this is what people expect of me, so I'm just gonna go with it because it's more efficient. So, and then
Mhm.
I'm gonna like utilitize it or whatever, make
Mhm.
use of it as well and make it
Now,
work
Yeah.
for me.
it's funny. Chad said, I thought the male female brain thing was disproved. We're not talking about male female brains. We're talking about if you believe the brain is your consciousness, like your soul or your personality, then your brain would dictate everything else. So it's not that we think there's a female brain or a male brain. It's that,
And hormones affect us.
Yeah,
It's that
like-
the
very
baby whose
really.
brain was taken had
Yeah.
a sex. That
Right.
is unreal.
Yeah.
Whatever that
Yeah.
baby's
Yeah.
identity was.
Mhm.
That's the whole thing that doesn't make sense to me is like the hormones and the brain and the body and how would that. But
That's why we
my
have to suspend our
literal.
disbelief
Like
a little
dial
bit
in
here.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, that's why I think
Don't
they made her
think
so
too much
neutral.
about that.
Mm.
That's why I
Yeah.
think they made her so neutral. Is like they didn't want us to be like see her as like a male brain and like a woman body, and they didn't want to like feminize her in any type of way. That's why they left. I feel like they left her as neutral for us to kind of be like, oh, what is going? Is this hormonal? But also, she wasn't raised within like any cultural norms, right? She wasn't
True.
raised in society.
Right.
She was raised in a household where it was just like her paternal figures were technically Godwin and the maid, and the maid was a Mrs. by the way, so the maid was also married,
Oh.
right? And it was Mrs.
At some
it was
point,
Mrs.
we don't
Pitt.
know if her husband was still in the mix, if he was
Well, she kept
alive, or
missing.
like he. But
Mm.
Can't you be a widow and still keep Mrs.?
You're Ms. Aren't you Ms. at that point?
I don't
I
know.
honestly
I don't
don't
know.
know.
Well,
I
okay,
think
so
it's
I'm just thinking of my grandmother,
cultural
and my
bubble
grandpa's
preference.
been dead for decades, but she still goes by Mrs.
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
guess
yeah.
it's a preference.
Yeah,
I just
maybe.
I don't know. I thought Ms. was like either for widows or divorced.
Yeah, I'm
That's
not
what I
sure.
thought Ms. was like specifically.
Or
for.
single.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, so like for like
Yeah.
I think like the whole like they tried to implement somewhat of like the blank slate, I thought, because like I don't think she got any like now that I think about it, I don't think she got any of the like when she killed the frog or when she was stabbing. I don't think she got that from the cruelty of her parents. I think she got that as she just sees dead bodies as things to cut and experiment and explore.
Sure.
So I do think they were really hitting this like blank slate with her.
Yeah, that's where I just disagree because the other woman baby doesn't do that.
But the other woman baby is a different consciousness, and
Mhm.
maybe so, and is and Godwin at that point is also kind of a changed man.
But he's
Which I
crueler
don't know
to her.
why-
Yeah, and he says that was
Yeah,
the
that's so
downfall he had with
interesting.
Bella was that
He
he was
treated her more
nice
like an
to her.
animal.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Do
so
we
what I'm
know,
referring to.
and maybe I missed this, but do we know the brain that went into the other girl? Did that also come from an unborn baby, or did that come from somewhere else?
I don't know.
we don't.
Maybe it was.
We don't
maybe
know,
it was
right? So maybe
Victoria.
it
We
was
just
an
kept
already
finding a body.
developed.
Because Godwin at
Like
that
it
point
could have
just said-
been.
yeah.
Maybe
For
that's
the-
the difference between Bella and the other girl is that Bella's was a fetus brain. I don't know. Just
Well,
That's
no,
my
the
least-
difference was Godwin said it. He said, the mistake I made with Bella was I showed affection and
Yeah.
affection. With this one, this can be an actual
Oh.
experiment. So
Oh,
the
okay.
growth, so there was no concern with growth for the new baby or the
So
new,
it's the
person
nurture element that's missing.
was
Okay,
gone.
I got it.
And
I
was
got it.
Strictly blank slate, which is why when she's like hitting, she's like, boom, whore. And then Bella walks in, she goes, oh, Miss Pitt, I see you've introduced me already. Boom, whore, boom. It's just very just like direct words that I heard like a parrot.
That's
I
interesting.
think
Right.
Really fast before Arena, you can go. But Maddox in chat says a widowed woman is referred to as Mrs. out of respect for her deceased husband, according to Google.
Okay, cool.
So never knew that. There you go, Arena.
I was gonna quickly say, I just thought of like my least favorite thing from the movie. It was the I think Felicity was kind of the new woman baby was kind of shoved in there a little bit haphazardly,
Yeah.
and it also. But so Godwin respects Bella's agency, doesn't seem to respect Felicity's. Well, Felicity's in her toddler stages by the time Bella gets there. And then Godwin dies, and then he, I think, really kind of demonstrates some sort of change. But I do think, like, it's interesting, Like I wonder what did they try to replace Bella? Was it just like, okay, Bella was someone we loved and now we're gonna continue the experiment? The Felicity thing just didn't seem
Felicity
like
to me was
as
like, though we're about to get divorced, let's have a baby. It's like let's save our lives, baby. So he lets Bella go. He thinks because at that point I think he thinks Bella's far gone because she talks about the blood in her mouth, right? And that's when he says, "Find me another body." So I think he thinks Bella's just gone. And now he's trying to replace this like hole that he has, that he had this paternal like love for whatever. But then he has this second baby and he doesn't have the same emotions or love or care for her anymore, which is why I think she's so regressed in her learning, is that there's no attention, there's no affection, there's no like nurture. And he sees that, and that's why I think it was really just like, hey, she's whatever, go find me a body, fuck it. And then they just make her.
I
I'm
liked
out
her
of spoons.
aesthetically. Okay.
I've been out of spoons for a while.
Thank you for being transparent. I appreciate that. It's late here too. It's almost 2 a.m. So we can start wrapping up. And Smith, do you wanna exit now? You can go ahead and let people know where to find you, so you can exit now if you don't want to wait for all of us to
All
do
right,
that.
you can find me in the Smeth Den, and that is in the YouTube channel Real Smeth. Eventually you will experience a traumatic withdrawal, and you will have to drop trowel, and I'll stick you with a nice dose of methamphetamine. Just come right back. You know where to get it. All right.
Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
I'm stepping away for
Bye,
just 1
Smith.
second. I'll be right back.
Okay, bye, Smith. All right. That's so funny because I just messaged him.
Finally, the men are gone.
No,
We can
stop.
actually. Just kidding.
Stop it right now.
Yes.
That was interesting. You know what was funny is like after I had
Yeah.
initially watched it, I really was feeling. I want to rewatch it. Now I feel like excited about it, which is so weird. But
That
You're
is
gonna be
weird because
looking for
I
different
loved
things
it
and, like-
when I first watched it, and now I'm like, eh.
that's so funny. What?
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Apparently, the same director has done multiple movies, and so maybe we'll like revisit one of his other films to see how it worked out. Because we,
The Lobster's good.
oh, I love The Lobster.
He did
Oh, I
Lob-
forgot
That was
I
him.
love
Yorgo
Lobster.
Lan-
I love
yeah.
The Lobster.
I've
That
never
one's great.
seen it.
That one's good. That one's fucking weird. Like
That
that's
one's
Okay,
weird.
now I
about
have something
settling.
to watch.
That is a movie about
That is
settling.
a movie.
The
Ali, have
Lobster.
you seen Lobster? The Lobster?
No, what's
Oh,
that?
with Colin Farrell, right?
Mm-mm.
And Rachel Weisz.
Yeah.
It's the same director as Poor Things.
Same director.
Oh.
I think this is not one of Jordan Peterson's like favorite fucking movies. It's a great movie. It's weirder than this movie for sure. Like it's so much weirder. I love that film. I think I want to see his other films. I would like to compare them to this film. I've been out of movies for so long. I'll be real. I've been watching anime for so long at this point. I used to watch so many movies and then I just like took a break. And this was one of my first movies back to like what's going on in cinema. I've been so out of
Yeah.
it. And so coming back to it, like I said, at first I wasn't the biggest fan, but now after this panel, I'm like, oh fuck. Okay, I gotta rewatch it. Like I'm excited. I think I found a new love for it.
My brother went through that
I wanna
similar
read
thing where he got really into anime. Do you feel like you can't go back to regular TV and regular movies because they're not as expressive, it's not as detailed? Like,
Yo.
you know, is that like an
It's a
issue?
huge
that
part.
It's boring.
Yeah, I think like
Yeah.
I'm upset with people's acting skills a lot of the time where I'm like, you're not expressing your emotion fully and I don't like it. Yeah, I think anime has helped me so much as a consumer of story to just feel, because I've read so many books, but
You're
just,
immersed.
oh my God. And it's so loud. Like you can't even mistake what the feeling is. There's no
Yeah.
mystery. It's just so loud and in your face. And yeah, it's been really nice for me. as a
That kind
viewer.
of sounds like Tism, because a lot of like compliments for actors is like the subtlety in their acting.
Oh, shut
right?
up.
Like,
Yeah. No, you're so right.
I think that's something people do for like YouTubers and streamers too, right? Is like for actors or like even YouTubers. If I need information on something, right? And I try, like for example, editing, and I try to find like a YouTuber that displays editing, and I don't like their cadence, or I feel like they're acting or they're like they are doing this video, like I can't pay attention to them. So like same thing with acting. If I can tell that you're acting,
Aesthetics are
Yes.
important.
yeah,
to
I'm not
drawing
into the
me in.
acting. If I can
Yeah.
tell that you're streaming for this or doing this video for the sake of this thing,
Yeah.
I lose interest completely. And I think
Yeah.
it has a lot to do with the cadence and stuff.
Yeah, well, okay,
Mhm.
first of all, shout out to my assessment coming in November. Thank you. So you're about to find out if I'm an autistic
Yay.
queen, guys. Probably not, but I could be. And I'm going to use that so good. Okay, listen, but you know, this is so random, but have you guys seen Interview with a Vampire?
Oh yes. Wait, you're like
With Tom
Brad
Cruise
Pitt-
and Brad
Cage,
Pitt?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Oh.
Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt. It's an Anne Rice novel in film and Kirsten Dunst. And I will say I don't like Tom Cruise because I can always tell he's acting, but The only time I've ever seen a movie with some guy named Tom Cruise was when he played Lestat in Interview with the Vampire, and I legit thought this character had come to life. He blew it out of the water. If you watch that movie and it's dated, but it's so good, like and even Kirsten Dunst being just a kid, like she is that character. Like they are that character, and there's something about that I will always love. Like I've seen so many good movies in my life, but as of late, I've just been out of it. And it goes back to that thing where I'm like, okay, you know what had happened? It was during COVID, and I swear to God, it was the same people doing the same roles. And I'm like, how many times am I going to watch Tom Hanks do this role? How many times am I going to watch so-and-so do this role? Like, where is the story? And again, we've already seen this story 1,000 times. Stories are recycled. I want the story told differently or done different. And I think anime is just that a little bit of a different right now. Same story,
you're right.
different, you know?
And there's so many different types
Oh
of
my
like
God.
anime, story, slice of life, any action, anything it is, and they're like so long, right? That some of them have thousands
And there's
of
so
episodes.
much more
It's really,
Zen
Mhm.
concepts in
Mhm.
anime too, which I
True.
like. Like American cartoons are often just, Western ideology stuff.
Yeah,
which-
Avatar really kicked it out of the water, but in general, I do
Mhm.
think Japan at least, or at least Eastern, little like a little bit of that vibe adds. Even Chinese anime, I don't know what it's called in there, but like it's great. It's like a different way to view story. Again, it's just all story. It all goes back to story.
well, so I mean, like with Bollywood been
Mm.
going crazy lately. All the like Indian and even like the Chinese movies that have been going on, it's to your point, it's like super expressive and super immersive. So like when these people are running through jungles and jumping in the air and fighting lions and
Yeah.
tigers, it's like it kind of feels like anime-esque. Whereas like I do feel like that with American media, it is a little bit more real.
Mm,
They're trying to do like realism. They're trying to display like this is how you're supposed to be.
right.
And so like I do kind of lose it sometimes when I'm watching
Yeah.
like movies or TV
I
shows.
will say my critique of Pacific Rim to me is a movie that is that is just an anime in a live action
yeah,
movie.
yeah, I could see that.
Pacific Rim.
Mhm.
And that was like, and it's not, but I wouldn't say it's a good movie. It's an enjoyable movie.
I liked
but it's
it,
not
but
like
it's not like
a good. Yeah, it's not a good.
yeah, I liked it.
It's
I
like
remember
John
liking it.
Wick. It's like that's not a good story, but I mean, dude kills like 400 people in one.
It's
like,
Keanu.
entertaining.
It's
It's a
fine.
good
Yeah,
watch.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you ask me like what right now is going on and like what people are watching. I don't know what's in the theater. I have no idea what's going on, but I'm hoping that we get, I get more interest maybe when, maybe, I don't know. I'm not like focused on it, but I kind of do miss cinema. But then
Mhm.
again, that's why I think I've also been enjoying a lot of foreign films. I have been enjoying a lot more foreign films. I just think they're giving me what I want a little bit more.
Try focusing on like production houses versus like advertised movies because there's like Wes Anderson and like indie type films, but there's like A24.
I
Right?
love
A24 makes
A24 films. Oh my God,
amazing
they're
movies.
so
Like,
good.
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh,
is
I love that movie.
Such an amazing movie.
love that
and
movie.
they do those types of things where it's like the acting is phenomenal, the action and like the cinematography, and it's really immersive, kind of like this. I think that's
Yes.
why we kept focusing so much on Poor Things with the scene, is because it was so immersive. You felt like you were kind of there.
Mm.
And so like I think that's like kind of making a slight comeback
Yeah.
with movies, especially with like A24. The past two movies, they have Everything Everywhere All at Once and the Civil War movie.
Oh,
Both of them kind of popped off.
I'll
Yeah, the
see-
A24 Civil War movies really. I
Is
want
it
to watch.
good?
I'll check it out.
I've heard a bunch of mixed reviews, but I want to see it because of the map that they painted. So the whole view of the movie is through like a journalist. So you're not supposed to pick a side, and you don't even know really what side is which. But the fact that they have like the Florida connection with like all of the southern states, the Texas, California, like I think they drew an
That was-
actual Civil War map. I think that's what would happen.
That's interesting because the one thing. So the critique I saw. So my critique of that situation would be: there's no way California and Texas would ever team up, but the critique of that critique is this is a speculative fiction. That's not the
It makes
point.
complete
So,
sense that they would
yeah.
back up. You have California that like a lot of Californians are complaining about the tax rate. The things are so expensive. They can't sustain this lifestyle, right? And it's all a lot of these. And then with Texas, it's all like the immigration stuff, right?
And
So
they're
the
both the
assumption would
biggest
be-
economies. Okay.
Exactly. The assumption would be that they're both sick of like this mass immigration. They're both sick of like the American citizens. So they combine since they're the biggest states, and they would have the largest coalition. And then within that frame, yeah, they would kind of team up.
That's crazy. That's a crazy idea. I got family in Texas
Yeah,
and Cali,
I need
bro.
to
Let's
watch
go.
this. I've not
I
seen
wanna
this
see
movie, and
it,
I
yeah.
definitely am so interested now.
Yeah, I want to definitely. I loved Everything Everywhere All at Once. Everybody knows on my Discord that's like my favorite. I love
So
that movie.
good.
It's so good. It's like my brain. Like when I saw it in theaters, I was like, oh, this is good. This is good stuff right here. No, it's too good. I think that's what I'm looking for, is that on occasion kind of film where you're like, okay, like somebody was telling me a story in a way that was different, but like again, that same
Yeah.
story. It's the same. That's what I'm saying. I'm not looking for something new. I'm looking for a new way to tell the same story.
I have a movie I recommended to Arena, and I think you guys would all The Nines with Ryan Reynolds, or
Oh.
Chaos Theory with Ryan Reynolds. Both of
Hmm.
those movies are indie films. They're not known by him at all. They are fucking amazing movies. The
Okay.
Nines is probably a top tier movie. The whole premise of the movie is that he is the god of this world that he created, that lost his way and thinks he's a human, and it's backtracking. Like the idea of the movie is like the closest thing to a god is like if God is a 10, we are 9s. And it's
Okay.
like there's it's not
Okay,
actiony.
okay.
It's super cool. It's my favorite movie. Hands
Okay,
down.
cool. We'll check it out. I
Mhm.
love that. Okay, I'm excited for that. Actually, I'm really happy with how this panel ended up going. I wasn't sure how it would be, but great energy from everybody. Does anybody have any last thoughts? I know it got passionate and I love that moment, but does anyone have anything else we've missed? Anything else we should cover?
I enjoyed the passion.
I enjoyed the panel too. Maiden, I'm gonna apologize one last time. I do feel bad when I shut down people's opinions. I did not intend to do
You're
that. I
good.
apologize.
I was being a little overly sensitive myself, so I
No, I
apologize
understand.
as well.
No, you don't need to apologize. I just felt bad.
I appreciate it.
All right. With that said, well, Arena, anybody?
Oh no, just
Okay.
goodbyes. I'm sad Smith left before we could once again tell him that he needs a dommy mommy, but
Stop.
that's okay.
Let this boy live his life. Okay, Ali, just tell everybody where to find you, and then we'll go over it one more time, girls, and then we'll leave.
Yeah, so you guys can find me at Sociologic on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Thank you guys so much for having me on. This was such a fun
It
time.
was great.
I, like,
You have great
time.
energy. It was really
Thank you
wonderful.
for all of the like effort. I can tell you researched
Yeah.
before coming into this. Like,
You're
thank
really
you.
Such a
engaged
good
in talking
movie.
so
much.
I was so
Yeah.
excited. Like when I'm excited about, I like took notes. I was like, "Ooh, this." I was like, I was
I
really excited
love
to do
that
this.
you
I
came
appreciated
so
that.
prepared for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good energy.
Awesome.
Genevieve, why don't you tell everybody where to find you?
You can find me, Madam_Genevieve on Twitter, aka X. And then in my bio are all of my other links to YouTube and the various socials.
And I'll link everybody when this video goes. I'll put it in chat, guys, so you can find everybody's socials. Maiden.
You can find me in various chats around these little corners of the internet, as well as on X, and that's, I believe Brittany will link it.
I will link it. Arena.
You can find me at monoshock.john on TikTok and Instagram, and Arena Nana on YouTube.
All right, guys. Thank you for being here. I do appreciate it. And if we have another panel and we think of you, I'll invite you because I like you, Ollie. I think you would mix with us really
Thank
well
you.
for another one.
I appreciate it, guys.
All right.
I was actually wondering, are you
Thank
guys
you
okay?
guys.
Bye.
Oh,
Sorry,
tell me,
I
tell
know you
me.
were saying that. Are you guys okay with Discord ads? Are you guys more private about those things? I don't know how people feel
I'm
about
happy to
sharing
add
things.
anyone that I'm collabing with. So since we're collabing, I'm happy to add you. I think we should do more collabs in the future.
Understood. Cool.
Yeah.
I'll add you guys. Thank you guys so
Okay.
much for having me
Sounds
on.
great.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Bye, girls.
All right, guys. That's it for tonight. Thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate it. I'll see you guys on Tuesday.